So, hey guys. Hope you are doing great. Welcome to Just a Shinobi. So, this is the story about what if Naruto awakens Ashura chakra in chunin exam. I am sure you will love this what if. And if you did, please hit the subscribe button for more awesome videos like this. Check out my other videos, share with your friends and enjoy them. Check out the description. Comment down your opinion. So, without wasting any time, let's see today's what if. Chapter 1 Prologue. Long ago in a time forgotten by the people of the world was an era of enduring rage and unending wars. Mankind had been cursed to fight each other in an eternal war. They fought over petty reasons, for performing horrific crimes against one another or for no reason at all other than violence and death. Different factions often tried to better themselves by weakening their enemies so their own military strength could be greater, only for a greater force to overwhelm them later. Humanity had a curse, a distasteful and infectious curse that all beings were infected with. One, more powerful than any war. The curse of hatred. The potent force that can drive an innocent person to become a beast fueled by rage to hunt down those who wronged them. All the while inflicting more pain, brutality and spreading further hatred among people. Hatred was like a tree and it only continued to grow as more and more people were festered by it. Those who were directly affected by it and those who bore witness to those horrific outbursts of fury, no one was ever safe from it. One may even say it was genetic and had the possibility to be passed down the generations. But, what came after hatred? Most would say healing. Healing from the pain of their lives and the pain they brought on others. Only an imbecile would believe that it would bring about a stop to hatred. What comes after hatred would be either of the following things: emptiness, where a person would lose everything that was ever close to them. Their own self. The emptiness it brought forth was like an ever-spreading fire with nothing to quench it with, or even more hatred, where the anger would blind people to the truth and make them accept that the world itself was responsible for what happened to them. Among the humans and their inherited hatred was a tree. A tree of massive height and equally massive power. A tree that was worshipped as a god. This tree had a consciousness of its own, but very few knew the full extent of its intellect. This tree watched as the humans around it fought and murdered each other and cheated one another for their own gain while turning a blind eye to others. The tree knew that while humanity had the capacity for good and evil, they overwhelmingly chose the latter option. The tree would often look down upon the humans and be disgusted by what it would see. At times it took pity upon them for their short lives and weakness. The colossal tree didn't know whether it liked being praised as a god or feared like the Shinigami. But it did tolerate the level of respect the humans showed it. Even the tree, with all its foresight, knew that one day wisdom would be lost, hope would diminish, fate would be turned in different directions, and justice would fall. It was merely waiting for that to happen and for humanity to be entirely consumed by hatred. Every 1,000 years, the god tree bore a fruit of immeasurable power and destruction, a fruit that held its own power within. The reasons why one could not lay their hands upon this fruit had been lost to ages. Thousands of years ago, a man named Tenji was the leader of the land of ancestors. He desired for peace and tried to avoid direct confrontation with his opponents to avoid wars being waged. He wished for a peaceful alliance and negotiations with them. One day he came across a lady who could be considered a goddess at first glance in terms of her beauty. She wore a white robe with 6 toes in the front and purple lining near her arms. She had beautiful silky and straight hair, the same color as that of snow. But what mesmerized him were her eyes. They were pupilless, giving off a silvery glow. He saw her gazing at the night sky with such patience. He had not seen this person before in his land, so he spoke to her. "May I know who you are?" asked Tenji, curiously looking at her. The lady, for her part, didn't reply for a while. A few seconds later she turned to look at him. "I'm Kagaya Otsutsuki." He found her voice to be very melodic. "Where do you come from? What do you desire here?" And again, Kagaya didn't reply for a few seconds. She didn't know if she could confide to him what she wanted or where she came from. From what she felt of these vile creatures called humans, they were filled with anger and darkness. Yet from him she couldn't feel much of it. "I desire peace. Peace among everyone. A place devoid of wars and hatred." She looked at him and saw the man nod his head. "I come not from another land in this world, but from the stars." Tenji, for his part, was surprised to hear this. Wanting to know more about her, he began to make small talk with her. After that fateful day, Tenji allowed Kagaya to stay within his palace. He was glad there was another who shared the same ideals as him. They began to meet each other more often and spend more time together each passing day. Soon enough the two became lovers. His devotion to Kagaya's cause for peace made him threaten his own followers with death if they dared threaten peace with the land of that. After Sukazu, the minister of land of that, tried to kidnap Kagaya, Tenji was horrified by Kagaya's godlike powers when he witnessed her kill many of his soldiers in self-defense. Eventually, Tenji decided to betray his love to prevent a war from breaking out. However, as the two sides attempted to capture Kagaya, she ate the fruit from the god tree aka Shinju and gained unimaginable powers. With her new powers, she casted the Mutant Tsukiyomi Infinite Tsukiyomi. As Tenji fell victim to he asked her what she was, unaware that she was carrying his children. Kagaya Otsutsuki, for her benevolence for ending the wars and stopping the spread of hatred, was named Usugai no Megami Rabbit Goddess because of her two horn-like protrusions which resembled rabbit ears. Like the Shinju, Kagaya was also worshipped as a living god on earth. People bowed before her in respect and reverence for her power and divine will that many considered to have no equal. However, Kagaya had not broken the chain of hatred, instead, merely fractured it. She forced more people to submit to her iron will to stop the hatred from spreading. Her power which was once praised soon came to be feared and instead of being called the Asagi no Megami, she came to be known as the Oni demon. At some point Kagaya gave birth to two sons Hagoromo and Himura. Both children were born with the same power as their mother. The ability to use chakra. These two boys gained legendary prowess of their own, using their own innate ability. As the years passed by, the Shinju had become enraged that its fruit was consumed by someone. Angered and outraged that its fruit was stolen, the tree surfacing fiery hatred had appeared before Kagaya's own magnificent eyes, before she even knew the consequences of her actions. The tree underwent a metamorphosis of its own, transforming into a gigantic vile creature whose image mirrored its own hatred. A beast that was christened the Jubi 10 Tails, for its 10 massive tails which could split the land in half. The beast rampaged across the land hoping to retrieve the lost chakra and seek vengeance upon Kagaya for her arrogant acts. The entire world felt the might of the Jubi's hatred. The vile chakra of the fruit had corrupted Kagaya's mind. Thus, upon seeing the beast, Shinju called out to her to become one with itself. When Hagoromo and Himura found out about their mother's inhuman act of putting people under her control and using them as puppets, they wanted to confront her. But Hagoromo knew that he didn't have enough power to go against his mother yet. He soon came across a toad by the name of Gamamaru who could utilize natural energy. Intrigued by the power in chakra, both Hagoromo and Himura went to Mount Mayaboku along with Gamamaru. There Hagoromo learned to utilize natural energy chakra. When he returned to confront his mother, he was further shocked. Hagoromo was horrified that his mother, who had given birth to him, could become one with the vile creature in front of him. During the confrontation, Hagoromo awakened the Rinnegan god's eyes due to the pain of harming his brother, Himura, who was being controlled by his mother. Hagoromo was fortunate that Gamamaru had given him a tag with a kanji for heal filled with sage chakra, which he used to heal his brother from the mortal wound Himura received. Why mother? Why would you commit such atrocious acts? Don't you care about the people of this land? Asked an enraged Hagoromo. Chakra is everything. It's life and it is soul. It needs to be whole again, you insolent child. You dare betray me? Spoke Kagaya with an emotionless face. The two brothers fought in a cataclysmic battle that scarred the very earth. The two sons with all their power had fought to the near end of their will to defeat the beast which was their mother. However, the Jubi was connected to the world, just as the world was connected to the Jubi. It was basically immortal. So, if they couldn't kill the beast, then the creature had to be sealed inside a person's body so as not to bring about even more catastrophe. Thus, Hagoromo sealed the chakra and soul of the beast within himself, and the body of his mother sealed off inside the moon which he created with one of his decisive moves, 6 Paths Shibaku Tensei. The husk of the 10 tails was sealed inside the moon as well. So, Hagoromo became the world's first Jinchuriki. And like his mother before him, his own power soared to new heights. He, like his mother, became a god. One even more revered than his mother, wielding the greatest weapon in the world chakra. Hagoromo, who later became a monk, came to be regarded as the Rikido Sennin sage of 6 paths, while his brother Himura went to live off his life on the moon, where he could be close to their mother. Hagoromo created a religion, one which people would aspire to and believe in and give them hope. This religion was named Ninshu, later known as ninjutsu. He aspired to bring peace across the lands by teaching people about chakra and its uses in a tranquil manner. So, Hagoromo shared his chakra with different people who were willing to follow him in his quest to bring about a change in this world. He hoped people would connect the chakra with their spiritual energy, yin chakra, allowing others to understand each other. Hagoromo later in his life had two sons. The elder one was named Indra Otsutsuki and the younger one was named Ashura Otsutsuki. Hagoromo knew that even with his strong physical chakra yang chakra, he could not live very long. The reason being the extremely potent and vile chakra flowing through his chakra coils. Thus, he intended to teach his sons and his current followers who he viewed as companions to teach all he knew about chakra and before he could pass on the mantle to one of his sons. Indra and Ashura had a relatively peaceful childhood growing up. Ashura was extremely close to his big brother Indra, whom he idealized and hoped to become like him someday. Indra, well, you could say he was more secluded out of the two young children, but he still cared for Ashura a lot. When the time came, both Indra and Ashura began to learn. It was quite clear that Indra was more intellectual and more into his studies and practicing the practical aspects compared to Ashura, who would mostly say it's boring. Why must I study this? One could say Indra was a prodigy in the field of ninshu, while Ashura was the complete opposite. One day, Indra created more practical uses of ninshu by stating that one can use various elements of the nature by changing the flow of chakra in their body and molding it in a different manner by going through Hand seals, Saru monkey, Tetsu dragon, Narat, Tori bird, Mi snake, Ushi ox, Inu dog. Yuma horse, Tora tiger, I boar, Hitsuji ram, U hare. People were extremely impressed by this discovery and some even started whispering about Indra being the one who would carry on the way of ninshu. Although Hagormo was pleased that his son was making progress in ninshu and extending its uses, somewhere he had a nagging feeling that Indra will seclude himself more as his prowess increases while Ashura would remain in his shadow. Still, he had high hopes from both his sons that they would do what he wouldn't be able to in his life, that is bring about a revolutionary change in this world that will make people understand each other even better and create a world filled with love and harmony. It later became clearer that Indra acquired his father's yin chakra and visual prowess spiritual energy, while Ashura acquired his father's yang chakra and strong body and longevity physical energy, as, in the following years Indra awakened his Sharingan copy Wheel Eye while saving his brother from a rampaging bear. Ever since Indra awakened the Sharingan, he seemed to have become more cold towards people. He started visualizing that through power, one can conquer anything and always stick to what is correct and incorrect and abide by his rules. Compared to his brother, Ashura was not too advanced in the usage of ninshu, and he could never keep up with his brother during training sessions. Although, people did like Ashura's more cheerful and easygoing attitude, which in turn made him easier to talk to compared to Indra. One day a friend of Ashura came to him asking for his help. Ashura, my mother seems to be very ill, and the cure which I'm looking for is across the forests, and getting there through the forests will take time. You practice ninshu, yes? Could you help me out? The man said pleadingly. Ashura was considered a friendly and helpful person, thus people mostly came to him or Hagoromo when in need of assistance. Yeah, I suppose I could do that. Just wait here and watch me. Ashura said with a smirk. He did certain hand seals, and a strong gust of wind was blown from the palm of his hands, which tore down a pathway to the end of the forest, making a quick way to the end. Later that day, Ashura was reprimanded by Indra for blindly helping someone without considering the matter, because the man who Ashura helped just wanted the forests cut down for his own selfish gains. Indra later locked the man in a dungeon and warned Ashura not to go near him. Ashura, being a forgiving person, went to get him out. However, when Ashura got the man out of the cave, the dungeon was inside the cave, they came across Indra waiting there. What are you doing, Ashura? Did I not tell you not to go near the imbecile? Indra asked in a monotone voice. His face showed no emotion whatsoever. Nai-san, we should give him another chance. Punishing someone for such futile acts is not the way. And he hasn't harmed anyone, said Ashura. It doesn't matter. What he did was against the rules and he must pay the price for it. It was said in such an uncaring manner that it made Ashura flinch. Ashura jumped in front of the man to protect him. Indra jumped towards Ashura and pushed him towards the tree. Ashura hit the tree before falling to the ground. He wouldn't admit it, but his Nai-san hits hard. Indra, quicker than a flash, had his hand inside the man's chest sparkling with ration chakra lightning chakra. Nai-san, why did you do that? Ashura was astonished that his Nai-san could kill someone just like that. When Indra turned to glare at his brother, Ashura saw the three in his eyes spinning in a threatening way. That moment he saw the hatred in his brother's eyes. This world needs order. It needs change. And it is only through power one can hope to bring about such a revolution. That's all, Indra said darkly before vanishing from the spot. Ashura for his part could not comprehend why his brother started acting in an uncaring way ever since he awakened the Sharingan. He often felt intimidated by those eyes but shrugged it off thinking it was nothing. After a while he made a grave for the man and just stood in front of it in the stillness of the night. When he turned to his right, he saw his two sandfathers standing beside him. Indra has changed, Ashura. His eyes are like my mother's. Those eyes give him unimaginable power. He desires order in this world and wants to do it in his way. The way he goes about ninshu is not how I intended it to be spread. Hagoromo said with a tired sigh. After a few seconds of silence, Ashura walked away from the spot. As years passed by, it became more noticeable why Indra was hailed as a genius. He could accomplish anything with little to no effort and started living a solitary life. He primarily believed other people would merely inhibit his growth and potential. Ashura on the other hand could do nothing on his own. But through his determination and will, along with the ideals of relying on others, his friends, did Ashura's talents bloom like a flower in spring. Well, unlike Indra, who led a solitary life believing that others would only hinder him, Ashura became a capable leader, amassing many loyal followers, most of whom were his childhood friends. He, like his father wished, began to spread ninju to the world through the help of his friends. Upon his deathbed, seeing both Indra's and Ashura's accomplishments, did the sage choose between the two of them, the heir of Ninshu, the prodigious son Indra, or the no-good, untalented Ashura? Knowing of his younger son's exploits and the quality of never giving up on the good inside people, gave Hagoromo hope that cooperation and love would bring about true peace. While lust for power and dominance would only bring about a temporary peace. Thus, Ashura was chosen as the heir to Ninshu. Hearing this, Indra walked out of the room angered at his father's choice, while Ashura was shocked. "Father, why me? Nai-san would do a better job compared to me," said Ashura. "Well, I do believe Indra is ahead of you in certain aspects, but Ninshu should be spread to teach love, compassion and be used to bring peace. One must be kind and filled with love and have great patience for that. Those are the qualities I see in you, my son." Later that night, when everyone was celebrating, Ashura went to meet his father again. A doubt somewhere in his mind that his father made a wrong choice is still lingering in his mind. He came upon the door which led to the hall where his father sat and made a slow walk. He soon reached the place and saw his father sitting there with his eyes closed. "Was it the right choice, Otu-san?" Ashura asked in a low whisper. Hagoromo opened his eyes, which seemed to give an eerie purplish glow, and had several concentric circles and a small black dot as a pupil. He stared at his younger son for a while and answered, "Ashura, the world has always been in constant fighting and wars and have started on some of the most unthinkable things. Human life is a precious thing which should not be wasted in fighting wars. It is my belief that one day, the world shall know true peace. Love and compassion are essential parts of that. Indra is turning more and more like my mother each passing day. Bringing peace to the world via power and dominance is only temporary, and with time people come to fear the power dominating them as they cannot comprehend it. Come here, my son, I shall now pass on to you what is now yours." Ashura approached his father, whereupon Hagoromo touched Ashura's forehead with his 2 fingers and passed on his yang chakra, also included 6 paths and jutsu powers. In another part of the village, Indra had just killed his 2 most loyal followers with a tear-stained face and had a single thought in his mind: whenever someone close to me dies, my Sharingan evolves. Soon, his Sharingan evolved to the Manjikyu Sharingan, 3 tomatoes converging together to take the shape of 6 pointed stars. Furious over his father's choice and being denied what he felt was his, Indra challenged his father's decision. Overcome with anger, jealousy and hate, Indra attacked Ashura, trying to claim what he felt was his birthright. However, Ashura, with the help of others' chakra converging with his and his Rikidu 6 paths powers, awakened the ability to use Mokuton and could defeat his older brother. Indra, not taking his loss lightly, left the area before stating he would never follow his way of Ninshu and spend his life trying to destroy him. A few weeks after Indra had left, Hagoromo was counting his final few months on his bed. He knew he didn't have very long to live. He also knew once he died, the Jubi would be free again. To prevent that, he separated the chakra of the 10 tails into 9 separate parts, and using Anyutan Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things, made bodies for the 9 chakras, ranging from Ichibi 1 tails to Kyuubi 9 tails. He later breathed life into his 9 children. Hagoromo called the Bijuus his children and put the chakra in the respective bodies, each Bijuu having a different ability. A few months later, Hagoromo went to his mindscape to have a few last words with his 9 children. He looked at Kurama Kyuubi with a somber look on his face. Kurama had a few tears rolling down his face, although he was trying hard to keep up the tough act. He was his eldest child and knew how much it would hurt him. A few seconds later, he looked at all of them with a serene smile on his face and said, "I will not live much longer. Shukaku 1 tails, Matatabi 2 tails, Isobu 3 tails, Son Goku 4 tails, Kakuo 5 tails, Seiken 6 tails, Jimei 7 tails, Jayuki 8 tails, and Kurama 9 tails. Even if you are far apart, you will always be together. You will be in different sizes from how you are now and have different names. But there will come a time when you will be led down the right path. I hope you learn what true strength is." Hagoromo looks at Kurama and smiles slightly and says, "Before that time." The feud between the brothers escalated between their respective families, causing war to erupt between them, which continued for ages to come. Never ending through the generations, endless bitter hatred. Indra's descendant took the name Ichiha. The flames of their hatred are continuously burning. Ashura's descendants would later be called the Senju clans, inheriting their forefathers' ideals of peaceful coexistence and love. Later down the line, a man named Sato Senju left his brethren who were more concerned with the warrior. Sato himself was a peace-loving man. As the years passed, Sato changed his name to Sato Uzumaki and mastered the arts of Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu to an impressive degree where he could call himself a master in those fields. He soon married a woman named Tashiri Kurihara and lived his life away from the fighting. Although he did keep close relation to the Senjus. Saito lived 4 or 5 centuries before the Warring Era state. However, something occurred that had not been seen before. While the 2 brothers died, their chakra remained even after their bodies were destroyed. Causing the brothers to reincarnate themselves into other individuals throughout the history within their descendants, fueling and continuing the brothers' bloody battle. And with each transmigration, the reincarnations would grow stronger. Thus, after several generations, came the story of Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, the reincarnations of Ashura and Indra Otsutsuki. They too started out as friends and saw each other as brothers. The 2 often fought among themselves, but it wasn't something they couldn't shake off. Eventually, the Senju and Uchiha clans founded Konohagakure no Sato village hidden in the leaves. But somewhere along the line, especially after the death of his brother, Izuna Uchiha, Madara started to see what he currently believed in was only a hollow truth. That his current belief wouldn't bring the kind of peace he and his brother wished for, and coupled with the pain of his brother's death, made his belief waver and his hatred towards the shinobi world increase. So, Hashirama and Madara battled again, continuing the feud between Indra and Ashura. Madara eventually fell in battle against Hashirama. Soon, Hashirama too succumbed to his extreme injuries and passed away. Chapter 2 Birth of Prophecy. In every shinobi village, there is a reminder of their previous leaders and heroes to honor their memory and sacrifices they made to protect and defend their homes. In Konohagakure no Sato, there is a certain mountain that shows exactly that. The mountain is called the Hokage leader of Konoha Mountain, and in it are carved a previous and current Hokage of the Leaf and portrays the faces of the legendary shinobis. Ashurama Senju Shadame Hokage was the former leader of the Senju clan, one of the co-founders of the Leaf Village, and the first user of the Mokuton element. He was a caring and kind person who only wished for peace among the different lands. All the villagers had an utmost respect for him. He had married a woman named Mito Uzumaki from the Uzumaki clan, who were a sister clan to the Senju clan. Following his battle with his best friend, Madara Uchiha, and during one of the many wars that were raging during the revolutionary era, Hashirama had developed mortal wounds that rendered him unable to fight. Due to his weakened state, he had to pass on the mantle of Hokage to his brother, Tobirama Senju. He was at the time of his death, a shell of his former self. But even now, about 5 decades after his death, he's still remembered by everyone in the village as one of the greatest Hokages to have ever served Konoha. The second face belonged to Tobirama Senju Nidame Hokage. He was Hashirama's younger brother and became Hokage shortly before his brother's death. He too was an exceptionally strong shinobi. In fact, each of the Hokage were hailed as the strongest shinobi of their time. Tobirama was known for his sensory abilities and extremely strong Suiton affinity water affinity. It allowed him to use high-rank Suiton techniques in places without any water source by condensing the water molecules present in the air. He lost his life fighting in the First Shinobi World War. But before his death, he appointed Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of his students, as the Sandame Hokage. The third face on the monument was of Hiruzen Sarutobi of the Sarutobi clan, known for their monkey summoning and extreme skill in Taijutsu hand-to-hand combat. Hiruzen is currently around 41 years old. He's one of the most powerful shinobi in the village, but in his prime, he was given the moniker of Shinobi no Kami. Mostly because of his proficient skill in Taijutsu and his ability to use all forms of chakra nature that allowed him to use a wide range of elemental ninjutsu. Hiruzen is the current leader of the Leaf Village. It was a time of recuperation among the Great Five Nations: Fire, Wind, Water, Earth and Lightning Nation. The Third Great Shinobi World War had ended a while back. Even though there weren't any more battles taking place among nations, they were still weary of each other and were keeping track of other villages' rate of progress. Nations were left winded and were severely weakened, as most their shinobi had perished fighting for their nation village. Although one could say it was Awagakure no Sato and Kurigakure no Sato who had suffered the most among the Great Five Nations. Awagakure because of a man who showed unparalleled battle prowess in the age of this war and one who single-handedly won his nation the war. This man was Konoha no Kuroi Senko Yellow Flash of Leaf. Among his peers, he was called Minato Namikaze. He stands at an even height of 6 feet. His hair was golden blonde, which was rare no matter which country you were in. The hair was spiky and went down to his shoulders, 2 large bangs framed his face, while several smaller bangs hovered just a little over his eyes. His eyes were a mix of violet and blue, although it mostly looked violet in color. Holding up those bangs was a Hidia 8 with Konoha leaf symbol on it, the tie itself was blue. His clothing consisted of a pair of blue shinobi pants, which were wrapped from mid-calf in white bandages that went into a pair of black combat boots. His shirt was blue and covered his whole arms and skin tight. Over it he wore a jounin flak jacket. Now Kurigakure no Sato seemed mostly neutral in the war and played their cards when they felt it was plausible. They didn't lose much of their shinobi unlike the other nations. However, they did lose their Biju-tailed beast, Sanbi 3 Tails to Konoha, in their attempt to set the Biju free inside the Leaf Village. Kurigakure is now only left with Rakubi 6 Tails, which is sealed inside Yagura. Even though the cards were stacked against Konohagakure no Sado, they emerged victorious in the Third Shinobi World War. They were put against Kumagakure no Sado, Iwagakure no Sado and Kurigakure no Sado, and yet they fought to keep their nation safe from harm. Konoha always believed in the phrase Hai no Ishi will of fire. It is their belief that one must possess the Hai no Ishi to feel the need to protect their home and precious people, which in turn brings out their latent ability to surface. The shinobi of Konoha fought together, bled together and emerged victorious together at the end of the gruesome war. A couple of months after the Third Shinobi War, when the situation around the different villages had cooled down a bit, Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen stepped down as Hokage to pass on the hat to his successor, Minato Namikaze, who was chosen as the Yondaime Hokage 4th Hokage. Minato was beyond glad. He had achieved one of his dreams, of being able to lead his village as Hokage one day, and another one would be coming true too in the coming months, of starting a family. Kushina and he married secretly earlier, when the war was still on. Their wedding gathering was kept to a bare minimum. Hiruzen, Bawako, Jiraiya and Tsunade being the only one. A month ago, Kushina had informed him that he was going to be a father. Words couldn't explain how happy felt at that time. Being an orphan himself, he understood the value of family. Everyone felt it was time for Sarutobi to step down as Hokage. Even though he was one of the strongest shinobi in the elemental nations, it was obvious the job was demanding a lot of him. Leading your village to victory and 2 great shinobi wars as Hokage was not an easy job. Sarutobi still grimaced at many of his failures during his time as Hokage. The fate of the Uzumaki clan is such. Aburama Senju had selected him as Sandaime after his death at the end of the First Shinobi World War. The Second Shinobi War was almost over. Kurigakure had retreated from the war as they didn't have many soldiers to offer to Kumagakure and Iwagakure. To salvage something from this war in their favor, Iwagakure and Kumagakure formed an alliance with Tsunagakure to launch an all-out attack on Uzi no Kuni with their remaining shinobi, which was the residing place of the famed Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki clan were known for their mastery in Fuinjutsu and Kinjutsu. The other nations feared the might of the Fire Nation when coupled with those from Uzi no Kuni. As the saying goes, to cripple an enemy one must get rid of their allies when the enemy is at their weakest. It was a single clan against 3 great nations. The Uzumaki clan had gotten sent a request to Konoha to aid them in the battle. Hiruzen knew, at that point of time, his village didn't have the strength to stand up against 3 great villages. Yet, he sent some of his best men to get those out who were still alive by the end of the battle. Speaking of the battle, it was bloody. The whirlpools surrounding the land were glowing in red. The land gave off a heavy stink of iron. Bodies were slaughtered. Even though the Uzumaki clan was wiped out, they ended up destroying 3/4 of the enemy. There was one girl who was found hidden out of sights. She was Kushina Uzuamaki, daughter of the deceased Uzukage. She was taken to Konoha and she stayed with Mito Uzumaki, given the 2 were relatives. Kushina had an incredibly potent chakra, through which she could make chakra chains. That was an ability Kushina discovered she shared with Mito. Even among the Uzumaki, not everyone had the ability to create chains from chakra. It was said that these chakra chains had the ability to hold down Bijuous-tailed beasts itself. Hiruzen did everything he could to make sure Kushina had a normal childhood in Konoha. For a child to witness the horrors of a war is never a pleasant thing. Mito, who was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, in her old age, had to pass on the Kyuubi to Kushina. It was not because she wanted to. It was out of necessity, and only in Uzumaki could contain the great beast. Thus, Kushina Uzumaki became the second Jinchuriki of the 9-tailed demon fox. He grimaced again thinking about Rin Nahara and Naruto's fate. She was a student of Minato. She had an average height, one of the most beautiful brown hair and a single purple stripe on each cheek, like that of the Inyazuka clan. She was in a genin team with Kakashi Haddock and Obito Uchiha. Although Kakashi showed a cold demeanor to almost everyone after his father, Tsukumo Haddock's death, he tried to get along with his team. Rin was sort of the moderator of the team. She kept Kakashi and Obito in check whenever they got in a fight. Even though Rin wasn't a frontline fighter like her teammates, she excelled in medical field. She and Kakashi got closer after Obito's untimely death during their first C-rank mission on Kanabi Bridge at the end of the Third Shinobi War. It was that mission that gave rise to Sharingan no Kakashi. Obito, during his final moments, gave his newly awakened Sharingan to Kakashi as a gift for his promotion to Jounin. To make sure she did not have to witness another death of one of her colleagues, she worked hard day in and day out to improve her medical ninjutsu. Hiruzen still remembered Rin asking him if Tsunade would be returning to village anytime soon, as she wanted to further her studies under Tsunade if she agreed to help her. When the Third Shinobi War was its end, Kurigakure kidnapped Rin from within the Leaf Village. She was made into the Sanbi Jinchuriki with an extremely weak seal which would release the Sanbi once she's within the Leaf Village and eventually kill her. It was Kakashi who first noticed that she was missing from the village. He immediately informed the Sandaime and Minato about this. Minato and Kakashi soon went after her trail and found her among several Kiri Anbu. Both of them took quick care of the Anbu around and quickly returned to the village. Fortunately for Rin as well as the Leaf Village, Jiraiya and Minato fixed the seal for the time being. Rin's chakra wasn't powerful enough to hold down a Biju. Also, the sudden influx of the Three Tails' potent chakra was overwhelming her chakra coils. Hence, their predicament being that they had to look for a new Jinchuriki and somehow convinced Tsunade to come back. She was the only one who had the expertise to save Rin after the extraction of the Biju. Rin had to be kept in the hospital's separate wing only meant for the Hokage. She was under constant supervision to ensure her safety. The only soon-to-be-born child who would be strong enough to hold Sanbi down was Naruto. Being an Uzumaki provided him with potent chakra and longevity. Kushina at first was adamant about not being able to bring herself to do it to her baby son. It wasn't any less difficult for Minato. But he knew, as a soon-to-be Kage, the welfare of the village will fall on his hands. Also with Kushina and him alive, they will be able to look after Naruto. Kushina, being a Jinchuriki herself could help Naruto with the hardships that came with the life. Thus, after many arguments and stating the pros of making their son the Sanbi Jinchuriki, Kushina agreed to it. Minato planned to use the Haki Fune tetragram seal for the sealing of the Three Tails. The only people aware of this situation were Minato, Jiraiya, Sandaime, Kushina, Kakashi and the three elders of Konoha. Them being Danzo Shimura, Himura Midokado and Kahara Utatane. 4 months after Minato was chosen as the Yondaime Hokage and because of the end of Third Shinobi War, a temporary peace had prevailed across different villages. The populace of Konoha seemed pleased and safe with Minato as their Hokage. They knew he would protect them from all uncertainties. The civilians and ninja alike went as far as to claim Minato as the greatest hero the Hidden Leaf Village had seen. He was the first shinobi in the elemental nations to be given the SS rank status and a flea on side order. He was also able to convince Tsunade to return to village. When Minato explained the situation to her, she couldn't bring herself to say no to him looking at his pleading face and the predicament he and his family was in. Jiraiya too stayed more in the village to have a regular check on Rin's seal and because of Tsunade, Minato and Kushina. 4 months later. In the past 4 months, a lot had changed in the Konohagakure no Sado. Since Minato's ascension to the Hokage position, he had taken control of the Shinobi and Civilian Council in his hand. No council could act without his knowledge, nor could they hold any meetings in the council chamber without alerting him regarding the issue at hand. Only in case of war will the Shinobi Council gain complete autonomy of making any decision concerning the welfare of the village. The Civilian Council, though they argued against that, begrudgingly agreed upon being reminded who the leader of the village is. The medical facility of the village had vastly improved since Tsunade had taken control of workings of the hospital. Her apprentice Shizune Kato had helped her immensely in this aspect. She was glad her suggestion of 1 medic per team was authorized by Minato. This would increase the survival rate of the shinobi during missions greatly if the medics are trained accurately. She had started a program of selecting young genins who had good chakra control to be taught in the arts of medical ninjutsu. Rin's condition, although it was still fragile, seemed to be more stable since Tsunade took charge of her health. She had to apply healing chakra over her chakra network daily to keep the stress of Sanbi's potent chakra to a minimum. The guards were still posted outside of Rin's room in case of an emergency. Kakashi too had changed from his cold demeanor towards everyone. He had joined up in Anbu now, seeing as his team was no more. He started appreciating his comrades more. Though he wasn't sure whether to be thankful for the cause of this change. He had lost a lot in life. From his father committing seppuku suicide to one of his teammates' now closest friend dying and now another on the verge of dying. Kakashi was glad to have found a father figure in his sensei. Minato and Kushina were both close to Obito, Rin and Kakashi. Obito's death had saddened them both and now seeing Rin in her current condition didn't make situation any easy for them. Kakashi knew Minato was going to have a child soon and the decision of the Three Tails to be sealed into him. He vowed to himself to look after the kid and help him guide along the right path. Kakashi was also glad to have little brother figure soon in his life. Night of October 10. Jiraiya, Minato, Kushina, Tsunade and Hiruzen were inside Hokage office. There were seals glowing around the room alerting the people in the room of the fact that they were not going to be disturbed or overheard. Minato was sitting behind his desk with Hiruzen standing next to him. Kushina was sitting on a nearby sofa along with Tsunade. Jiraiya was standing in a corner across the room. The last few months had also taken its toll on everyone. Kushina was suffering from exhaustion during pregnancy. She was constantly worried about her seal which held the 9 tails and about the sealing of the 3 tails into Naruto. Minato was working constantly as well along with Jiraiya to ensure the 9 tails didn't break free during the child delivery and the sealing of the 3 tails. Jiraiya stood looking at the people in the room. He sighed knowing that his apprentice was worried. Even he was. Until the ordeal of Naruto's birth and the sealing of Sanbi was over with, none of them could act naturally. He often took care of Kushina at her house when the others were busy with their work. He really thought of her as a daughter now from these last few months. Minato and Kushina even asked him to be the godfather of their kid. He was of course happy to accept. Seeing that everyone has been quiet for a while, Hiruzen cleared his throat to gain everyone's attention. As we know, Kushina will deliver the child at the safety of the Hokage safe house. Only we, the caretakers, Bawako and Tsunade in charge of delivering Naruto, know what is happening. Tsunade, would you ask Shizune-chan to stay with Rin since you won't be around to check up on her tonight? Tsunade nodded. Once Naruto is delivered, Jiraiya will take him to the sealing chambers and Minato will recheck the seal holding Kyuubi. Later, Minato will get Rin to the sealing chambers where the 3 tails will be safely transferred to Naruto. While the sealing will take place, Shizune-chan will look after Kushina and Tsunade will be alongside Rin to ensure her safety after the extraction of the 3 tails. Does everyone understand? Hi, everyone said at once. Good, the task beings tonight. Minato and Jiraiya, have you prepared yourself for any case? Hi, Hiruzen-sama. Minato said. Jiraiya settled for nodding his head. Good. I will see you all when this is over then. Be careful and good luck. Tsunade, Bawako and the caretakers had already arrived at the Hokage safe house along with Kushina, who was beginning to go in her labor. Outside the safe house were several Anbu who were guarding the place. They had been briefed on the details and had been sworn to utmost secrecy by both the Sandaime and Yondaime. Minato along with Jiraiya soon arrived at the Hokage safe house and saw Kushina already in labor. Minato dashed to Kushina's side and saw her screaming and held one of her hands with his left and his right hand on Kushina's seal to hold back the Kyuubi. Jiraiya stood next to his pupil while Tsunade and Bawako were working on the child's delivery. Ah, screamed Kushina as she was starting to push, fully clad in a hospital gown and a sheen of sweat coating her face. Come on Kushina, you're doing fine. Minato said in a soothing excitement as he stood next to the mother of his child. Kushina gulped in more air to let out another agonizing scream. Damn you Minato. This is all your fault, you bastard. She roared at the Hokage as she crushed his hand that held hers as a sign of support. The blonde male did his best to not grunt in pain while also keeping the Kyuubi in check. But he couldn't help himself from falling to his knees from the woman's deathly grip. That's it Kushina-chan, you're nearly there. I'm starting to see the head. Tsunade exclaimed. Just hurry the hell up and get him out of me. Kushina shouted back. You're doing great Kushina. Just a little more and it will all be over soon. Encouraged Minato. Oh, don't give me that. I wouldn't even be in this mess if it wasn't for you. You know. Screamed Kushina. With a sporadic mind in the heat of the moment, she suddenly raised her free hand to strike the young Kage in the face. Before she could hit him though, Minato quickly used the Korami no Jutsu substitution jutsu to replace himself with the nearest thing to him and quickly placed both his hands on Kushina's seal to keep the Biju in check. Unfortunately for the target, who was Jiraiya, was quickly launched through the walls by Kushina's punch. Sorry sensei, better you than me. The strength of her hits is almost on par with Tsunade-sama. It's just scary. Minato thought sympathetically as he gazed at the Jiraiya-shaped hole in the wall. The legendary shinobi's legs were sticking out and dangling over the broken piece of the wall and were the only parts of him visible from his laid position on his back. Luckily, the room he burst into was empty, leaving only the small group to hear his groans of misery. Although Tsunade wanted to laugh witnessing the scene in front of her, she couldn't as she currently had to focus on getting Naruto out of his mother. Minato was pulled out of his train of thought when Kushina screamed again. Get this fucking kid out before he kills me. It's almost done Kushi-chan. Just one more push. Tsunade said eagerly. You heard her, you're almost there. You can do it. Minato added with a growing smile. Kushina glared with her violet eyes at Minato and gave him a death glare. Shut up. I would like to see you try and push out a child that doesn't want to leave. It was but after a minute or two when Kushina gave one final shout of exertion and the first cry from the baby silenced the room. Tsunade wasn't stopped and with a gentle smile grabbed the newborn and cut the umbilical cord. Cleaned and wrapped him up in a small forest green blanket before handing her to Kushina. Minato was overjoyed hearing his son's first cry. He couldn't believe he was a father now. By this time Jiraiya had already recovered from his unfortunate accident and stood beside Minato with a wide smile on his face. So, Minato, how do you feel? Now that you are a father? Jiraiya asked eagerly. I don't know sensei. It's overwhelming. Said Minato in a trance-like state. Just as Tsunade handed the baby to her daughter-like figure, she gently said, Kushi-chan, allow me to introduce you to your son, Uzumaki Naruto. Meanwhile, Erzuin was calmly looking at the village from top of the Hokage tower. Suddenly he felt the wind change. He knew something important has taken place or is going to take place. One may call it years of shinobi experience or just an aged man's intuition. He knew the coming time is going to be certainly different. He just didn't know how right he was. The Toads have been one of summoning contracts of Konohagakure no Sado for around 3 decades now. They are said to be among the mightiest summons including the slugs and the snakes. Mount Mayaboku is the place where the Toad clan resides. Among the Toads, there was one extremely old Toad who was known by their summoner and the other Toads as the Grand Toad Elder. He was the size of a battle toad, almost half the size of the Hokage monument. But in his old age, he couldn't move around much. Hence, he sat in his seat almost all the time. The two felt the sudden change in wind and instantly had a small smile on his aged wrinkled face. He now knew the prophecy he prophesied about a very long time back to his friend had begun. He immediately called upon the nearby Toads to ask them to inform Fukasaku to summon Jiraiya as soon as possible. Back in Konoha at the Hokage safe house. The tired but happy Kushina gazed down at the still crying baby in her arms with glistening eyes. "Hello little one." She cooed as she brushed her hands over the baby's bright blonde hair which seemed long for his age, smiling with as much love as she could muster. Soon Naruto stopped crying as he looked up to his mother to show his curious and mesmerizing violet eyes. After what seemed like an eternity of childish contemplation, he finally smiled back, making him look even more adorable to everyone else. Look, his eyes are violet just like Minato and Kushina, although he has Minato's hair and face. He's almost like a mini Minato. Jiraiya said with a chuckle. Yes, but it looks like he has Kushina's nose, chin and ears. His skin tone is even a lighter shade like Kushina's, and his eyes are the same shape as hers. Oh, and look at those whisker marks. Tsunade almost squealed at the end out of pure adoration towards the adorable baby Naruto. He is, isn't he? Kushina whispered more to herself. She couldn't keep the smile from her face as she took in every detail of the baby. In her mind, he was the most adorable thing she had ever seen and most probably the most beautiful entity. Don't you agree, Minato? Kushina asked without looking away. Definitely, and when he gets older he'll be popular with the ladies. Minato chuckled with a slight gleaming gaze. Chan. Like those hussies have a chance with my Naru-chan. Let them try and sink their claws in my baby. They must deal with me then. Said Kushina with mock glare at Minato which made everyone chuckle instead of him, who just felt a slight shiver run down his spine. Minato slowly kneeled and touched his son's face and kissed him on the forehead, making him gurgle. He then looked Kushina straight in the eyes with a loving gaze and said, "Thank you Kushi-chan. He's the most beautiful thing we have ever done together. And I promise, I shall protect our baby boy and you with all that I have in me." Suddenly there was a puff of smoke and Fukasaku was standing on Jiraiya's shoulder. He looked around where he was and his eyes fell on Naruto's smiling form still looking around curiously. Is he the child Great Toad Elder was talking about? Fukasaku thought and then tried to get a sense of his still undeveloped chakra coils in the baby's body using senjutsu. Astounding. The potency of his chakra which is going to be formed will be unimaginable, Fukasaku thought amazed. What are you doing here, Fukasaku-sensei? Jiraiya asked. Oh, Jiraiya-chan, the Great Toad Elder has summoned you, and it's important. It's about the prophecy. Fukasaku said, finally taking his eyes off Naruto. Naruto, meanwhile, was looking at the talking toad in a very manner and gurgled as if trying to laugh. Now? Do we really have to go now? Naruto is born right now. Can't it be done a bit later? Jiraiya asked. No, it can't be, Jiraiya-chan. It's necessary. Jiraiya looked a bit down upon hearing that. He looked at Minato and gave him a knowing look. Soon, Jiraiya along with Fukasaku vanished out of everyone's sight, indicating that they were reverse summoned. Kushi-chan, I'd like to take Naruto to the maternity ward to make sure that he's in good health. I also want to give you a sedative that will make you sleep for a while so that your body can rest and recover from the strain. Said Tsunade professionally. Fine, but I don't want anyone going but you touching my Naru-chan. Is that clear? Kushina requested tiredly, the excitement finally getting to her mentally and physically. She immediately fell into unconsciousness as her eyes became to drool from the heavy exhaustion her body recently go through. Of course, I wasn't going to let anyone near him anyhow. Tsunade whispered slowly before proceeding to take Naruto from Kushina's hands. Just as Tsunade took baby Naruto into her arms, there was swirling of air beside her, from which a man appeared. He kicked Tsunade away and took Naruto into his arms and immediately put a kunai through Bawako's heart, who ran toward Naruto upon seeing him being taken by an unknown individual. Tsunade had quickly recovered upon being kicked away and saw that Minato was helping her up. Screams ran through the room as the pair saw Bawako and the caretakers fall to the ground around them. Minato and Tsunade finally saw a man now standing in Tsunade's previous place, an orange mask on his face and a black cloak over his body. He held Naruto in his arms, who was crying hysterically, with a kunai ready to kill him too. "Naruto!" Minato and Tsunade shouted. Meanwhile in Mount Myaboku, Jiraiya along with Fukasaku, who was now standing on the ground beside him, were now standing in the sacred land of the toads. In front of Jiraiya, there were several statues of toads which seemed to be made of stone. These statues were in fact living toads who failed to control the amount of Senjutsu chakra flowing through their body. "So, what's the matter, sensei?" Jiraiya asked, looking down at the small toad beside him. "Walk with me, Jiraiya-chan, and all shall be explained to you in due time," said Fukasaku. "Hey, don't talk with me in riddles. Tell me what's going on that you had to bring me all the way here at such an important time," Jiraiya said indignantly. Fukasaku remained calm and did not bother replying to the self-proclaimed pervert and started walking towards the chambers where the great toad elder resided. Jiraiya, seeing that he wasn't going to get any answers from him, decided to follow him to the older sage. On the way to the chambers, Jiraiya voiced his concerns. "You said it's about the prophecy. Has the elder Sama had another dream regarding the child of prophecy?" Jiraiya inquired in a serious manner. "It's not a dream per se. He says he felt a sudden change in the wind. His Senjutsu prowess is even greater than mine. So, it should not surprise you he could feel something or someone as far as in Konoha. He did not tell me much about it. Just that it has something important to do regarding that prophecy and asked me to summon you immediately," said Fukasaku, still looking in front of him. Jiraiya and Fukasaku soon reached upon two large doors which were guarded two battle-attired toads. The two toads, upon seeing the pair walking towards the door, opened it for them. The great toad elder, who was sitting on his seat, had his eyes closed while Jiraiya and Fukasaku approached him. Upon looking at him, one might say he's just a senile old geezer who seems to be oblivious to his surroundings. Which is true to some point, as the elder toad seems have a sort of short-term memory at times. Fukasaku croaked once to gain the great elder toad's attention and said, "I have summoned Jiraiya-chan for you." Who did you summon again?" The old toad asked, not remembering himself asking Fukasaku to summon anyone. "You senile old fart, Jiraiya-chan, our summoner. You asked me to summon him regarding the child of prophecy," yelled an annoyed Fukasaku. "Ah. Yes. Jiraiya," spoke the elder toad as if he remembered something important now. All this while, Jiraiya, who was standing beside Fukasaku, sighed upon hearing his conversation again, for most probably the 1000th time. Jiraiya bowed to him once and spoke, "Elder Sama, why is it that you have summoned me?" "Fukasaku-sensei told me it is something important regarding the child of prophecy." He now looked straight at the great elder toad and said proudly, "I know Minato is the child of prophecy. He has excelled me in all aspects of being a shinobi. He even surpassed me in Senjutsu training. Although, I shouldn't be much surprised. He was always a prodigy when it came to Shinbi arts. He even shares the same dream as me, of bringing peace to this war-stricken world." Jiraiya was indeed very proud of his prize pupil. Minato was his greatest accomplishment till now, and he believed he would be till the very end. The elder toad seemed amused upon hearing what Jiraiya had to say. "The child of prophecy has taken birth today, Jiraiya. I'm certain of it. This sudden change of wind, I have felt it only once before. And this time the wind seems much stronger than the previous time I felt," spoke the great toad sagely. "Do you remember the prophecy I told you about?" asked the elder toad. "Yes. I do remember. There will come a time when a man who proclaims himself as a hermit shall lead a boy with violet eyes to bring about a great change in the accursed war-stricken world. This child shall unite all the Bijuas and befriend them. That is what you told me a long time back," said Jiraiya. "Yes, that is true. The child has taken birth today. You must look after him, Jiraiya. Train him, teach him the ways of the world and make sure his heart stays pure. The child shall be the guide that will lead this dark world into the light," spoke the great elder toad, looking at Jiraiya. Jiraiya, for his part, did not know what to think. He always believed that Minato was the child of prophecy. So being told that he isn't, he felt disappointed. Thinking again, the only child Jiraiya knows that was born today was Naruto. Jiraiya now felt surprised finding out that Minato's kid is to be the one to become the light in the dark. "Are you sure about this? Is it not a bit too soon to tell?" said Jiraiya with a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Yes. I am sure of it. I haven't felt such presence in 1000 years. The child has the potential to become the second coming of Rikido Sennin, sage of 6 paths. Jiraiya, you must make sure the child grows up peacefully and grows to love the world around him. The child seems to have one of the purest hearts I have sensed. I am sure even Fukasaku shares similar thoughts as me," spoke the great elder toad. Jiraiya looked at Fukasaku and saw him nod once. Jiraiya, although was saddened that his first prediction hadn't come true about Minato, but at the same time was filled with joy about Naruto, his godson. He vowed to himself to be there for Naruto, look after him like his own grandson, and teach him the ways of the shinobi. He would instill every bit of knowledge in Naruto as he would grow up and make sure Naruto enjoys the world around him as much. You don't have to ask me to look after him, Elder Sama. I shall look after my grandson. Jiraiya views Minato as his own son, hence he calls Naruto his grandson to the best of my abilities and makes sure he grows up to be a fine man. Said the Toad Sage Hermit proudly and bowed to him once. Jiraiya and Fukasaku soon left the chambers and went to the same place they appeared first when they left Konoha, with Fukasaku once again on Jiraiya's shoulder. Well, Jiraiya-chan, you know what to do now. Naruto-chan will grow up to be an important boy in the future. If you want to finish your Senjutsu training anytime soon, you can come to me and Ma anytime you want. Said Fukasaku. Yes, Fukasaku-sensei. I will finish it soon. Now is not the time, I suppose. It was a lot to take in initially. But now that I think about it, Naruto is the son of two legendary shinobis, Minato and Kushina, and Minato has already surpassed in almost everything. Naruto is bound to grow up to be powerful figure, both in terms of being a shinobi and in getting the ladies. Jiraiya said with a lecherous grin at the end, in the hopes of getting inspiration for his future Icha Paradise books. Fukasaku did not know what to do with him anymore and just ignored his last comment. Off you go now, Jiraiya-chan. Enjoy the first moments of Naruto-chan. Said the small toad as he hopped off Jiraiya's shoulder and prepared to send Jiraiya back to Konoha. Jiraiya soon found himself standing in the same place before he went to Mount Myaboku. He saw that Kushina was unconscious and Minato was standing beside Tsunade, who seemed to be hurt, and Minato had a worried look on his face. Jiraiya immediately ran towards them and looked around the room to see dead bodies of the caretakers and Bawako lying in the pool of their own blood. Jiraiya turned around just in time to see a man wearing an orange mask with a swirling pattern, holding a crying Naruto with a kunai held at his throat. Before he could ask Minato or Tsunade what's going on, the masked man spoke. Yandere Hokage. Step away from the Chapter 3 Sealing of the Nine Tails and Three Tails. Previously. Jiraiya turned around just in time to see a man wearing an orange mask with a swirling pattern, holding a crying Naruto with a kunai held at his throat. Before he could ask Minato or Tsunade what's going on, the masked man spoke. Present time. Yandere Hokage, step away from the Jinchuriki or your child dies. Spoke the masked man calmly. Minato. Jiraiya and Tsunade shouted. Just calm down. We can work this out. Minato said. What do you want with Kushina, you bastard? Asked an enraged Tsunade. Oh, you know. Just this and that. Take the Kyuubi out and destroy the village. The masked man said in a sarcastic voice. You are not getting your hands on her. You got to deal with the three of us first. Said Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sensei, do not do anything too quickly. He still has Naruto with him. We must get him to safety. Tsunade-sama, can you look after Kushina first? Minato asked without taking his eyes off the man who held his newborn. Tsunade nodded and was just about to move to Kushina when the masked man spoke again. Do you care about your child, Yandere Hokage? The masked man asked. I do. Minato said. Choose now, Yandere. The masked man shouted. With that, he tossed Naruto up into the air and held his kunai underneath, ready to kill him. Minato dashed across the room in a yellow flash and caught him. The man disappeared with speed and went to grab Kushina. Tsunade and Jiraiya, seeing the man move towards Kushina, went to intercept him with speeds that could only be rivaled by a cage. Jiraiya had a Rasengan formed in his right hand, and Tsunade had amassed a great amount of chakra in her left hand to smash the masked bastard into the next life. But what happened next caught all the people in the room off guard. The Rasengan in Jiraiya's hand and Tsunade's punch phased right through the masked man, and he just walked right through them as if they weren't even there. What? Both Jiraiya and Tsunade asked, bewildered, before plowing straight through the wall leading outside. The masked man grabbed Kushina and disappeared, but not before going through a half-tiger sign, when a sizzling sound was heard straight from Naruto's towel. Shit. Minato cursed before tearing off the towel and used Hiraishin to teleport them outside their house when an explosion went off. Minato saw Tsunade and Jiraiya kneeling on the grass, silently cursing themselves for their lacks of judgment. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama. Minato shouted and dashed over to them. I'm fine. We should have known better than to underestimate him. He got past the special Anbu outside and got through the barrier put up by you and Jiraiya. Tsunade said with a downcast look. We have to assume the worst. Get back to the village and inform Sandaime-sama of everything that has transpired here. Take Naruto too with you, sensei, and keep him safe. Tsunade-sama, could you go and check on Rin? He may also be after her considering he's after the Kyuubi. Minato said before turning away. Alright. But where are you going, Minato? Tsunade asked. Hopefully to put a stop to this before it even starts. Minato said determined. Tsunade nodded and immediately ran back to the village. Jiraiya stepped in front of Minato and took Naruto away from him, who had quieted down now. Jiraiya turned to leave, but Minato put a hand on his shoulder, stopping him for a moment. "Let me mark you with my Horatian seal just in case. Push some chakra into it if you do required." There was a silence, then Minato said, "If all else fails. Promise you won't stop me from what I must do as the Hokage." Jiraiya froze on his spot when he heard those words from Minato and the look he had on his face. Jiraiya knew it all too well, that look on one's face. Jiraiya also knew that he was a tad bit afraid now. He was aware Minato was plenty strong, but you never know what may happen in the heat of the moment and what actions one may be forced to take, depending on how dire the situation might become. Jiraiya had always looked at Minato like his own son, and these past few months had only strengthened their bond, and he hoped everyone remained safe after tonight's ordeal was done with. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, then at Minato and said, "I won't get in your way, and I will be the godfather that Naruto needs and make him into a fine man." Minato nodded and disappeared once more in a yellow flash. Jiraiya sighed and put Naruto down next to him. He went and bit his thumb, putting blood on the palm of his hands and going through hand signs and slamming his hands on the ground while saying, "Fuchius no Jutsu summoning Jutsu." There was a large cloud of smoke, and Jiraiya was now standing atop a giant toad with Naruto in his arms again. The toad had a tanto on his side and was smoking a pipe. He also had a jacket on him. "Jiraiya. Why did you summon me?" "No time Gamabunta. The Kyuubi is about to be released. We have to reach the village fast, inform Sarutobi-sensei and get Naruto to safety." "Let's go," Gamabunta said with a hop, taking off a long distance, trying to reach the Hokage office within Konoha as soon as possible. Minato soon appeared in the safe house which he had informed Jiraiya about a long time back and grabbed his trademark Yondaime Hokage robes hanging off the wall. He then grabbed a full set of tri-pronged kunai and geared up. He checked himself over to make sure he was ready for what he was about to do and what he might have to do if the situation got out of hand. This wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know how it turned out like this. Naruto should have had a normal birth and then Kushina, Naruto and I were supposed to live normally. Guess it wasn't written like that. No. I must not think like that. I can still save Kushina and my village. I just hope we don't have more trouble than we already have coming our way tonight. I'm coming Kushi-chan. Minato disappeared in a yellow flash towards Kushina's current location thinking along those lines. Meanwhile, Tsunade was running as fast as she could towards the hospital to make sure Shizune and Rin were okay. She soon reached the hospital and ran towards their room. She saw the guards posted outside the room were dead on the ground and she instantly grew worried and rushed inside the room. The first thing she saw was the aqua blue colored chakra that was bubbling out of Rin's seal and next to her bed was a bloodied Shizune who was breathing heavily. Tsunade ran up to Shizune and started healing her immediately. Many of her worst memories were resurfacing now seeing Shizune in her current state. Shizune was one of the closest people she had and seeing her like this reminded her a lot of the time when she was trying to save Dan. She quickly ignored those thoughts and focused on healing Shizune. She then saw that Shizune's breathing had stabilized somewhat and knew she was out of danger as of now. She then looked at Rin and felt remorse of not being able to reach here quicker and growing anger towards the masked man, who most likely was the reason behind the scene, she mused. There was nothing she could do now. She couldn't go near her or touch her. The Bijuu chakra that was bubbling out of her was poisonous to human skin and would only serve to weaken her. She only had one choice left. Grab Shizune, get out of here and try saving those who would be able to survive the coming attack on Konohagakure no Sado. The combined attack of the 9 tails and the 3 tails was not something any village could come out unscathed, but she had hope in her village. They had come out of worse situations and emerged victorious. But she wondered what the cost would be this time, that is, if they do somehow come out of this predicament. Tsunade kept staring at Rin for a few while. Looking at her, she assumed it would still be a few minutes before the seal set by Minato and Jiraiya would break and release the Sanbi into the village. She picked up Shizune and jumped through the open window and went to a slightly faraway area, away from the center of the village, where she can treat the younger girl properly. Tsunade then made a seal-less cage bunshin and ordered it to inform Sarutobi-sensei of Rin's situation. The field outside of the forests of Konohagakure no Sado. The masked man had taken the unconscious Kushina outside of Konoha to rip the Kyuubi out of the Uzumaki woman. The masked man's 3 Tomo Sharingan had now morphed into the legendary Manjikyu Sharingan. It is true that the Manjikyu Sharingan has the capability to put the 9 tails under its genjutsu, but having the capability doesn't mean everyone can do it. One needs immense mental fortitude and strong yin chakra to able to pull of such feat. The Shina was now suspended in midair because of the Fuinjutsu seal that held the 9 tails back was almost undone. Kushina, however, was now near death and if the seal released there was a good chance she would die. She was suspended above a lake, the Fuinjutsu chained her to the surrounding rocks and in front of her stood the masked man. "How does it feel, Uzumaki Kushina?" he asked mockingly. All she could do was breathe to keep herself alive and to restrain the Kyuubi as much as her will could allow. But her hold was weakening. "Now, it is time I suppose, for the nine-tailed demon fox to put Konoha down," the man said before making a hand sign. He channeled chakra through himself and formed a contract seal on Kushina's seal and said, "Kai. Release." The seal on Kushina that was holding the Kyuubi back completely shattered. The vile red chakra of the nine tails started coming of Kushina and started taking a shape behind her. Very soon, the tails started forming and in a mere seconds the great Kyuubi no Yoko was unleashed once again in the mortal realm. The fox unleashed a great roar before looking down at the heavily breathing Kushina and the masked man that was staring at the Kyuubi with those accursed red eyes. Kushina tilted her head slightly, looking at the Kyuubi. Unlike most people who assumed the great Kyuubi no Yoko to be mindless demon, the beast was aware that his host was a descendant of his father's son, Ashura Otsutsuki. He was not close to Kushina, but he did not hate her as much, unlike the other humans. The Kyuubi raised one of its paws to strike the masked man, but was stopped by a single glance from him. The masked man stood in front of Kyuubi and saw it began to calm down and was now under control. "You'll never get away with this," Kushina said, breathing heavily. "Amazing. To be able to survive the extraction of a tailed beast. Those Uzumaki genes are indeed astonishing. It will be befitting for a Jinchuriki to die by its own biju," the masked man said, looking at her. "Kill her, Kyuubi," he ordered. Just as the nine tails was about to strike her down, Minato appeared beside her and vanished with Kushina in a yellow flash. "Not while I'm alive," Minato shouted. "Namek is Minato, still living up to your name of Konoha no Kuroi Senko. I'm impressed that you managed to find me first," the masked man said calmly. "As long as I'm here, Konoha will not fall," Minato said. "The Kyuubi is mine now, you cannot stop me," the man said before the Kyuubi roared at Minato. The Kyuubi's tails extended and whipped out to attack Minato, but the Hokage had already flashed a safe distance away, with Kushina in his arms. "Impressive, Yondaime Hokage. Let's see how your precious village deals with two-tailed beasts at the same time," said the masked man before pulling the nine-tailed fox into some sort of space-time ninjutsu and disappearing along with it. Minato looked at this and frowned slightly, seeing how the spiral seemed to originate from his mask. He took a good look at Kushina and noticed how her breathing was very minimal at this point. He held her hand and transferred some of his chakra to her. His chakra was not as potent as Kushina's, but it would do the job for now. "Me not to," she said between heavy breaths. "Shhh now. Stay quiet. It's going to be okay," Minato said. "No, it's not. I was dead as soon the nine tails was taken out of me. Promise. Promise me. You will take care of Naruto," Kushina pleaded. "I promise," Minato said, not looking straight at Kushina's face. She slightly nodded before closing her eyes and giving a slight smile. Her breathing was still heavy and he knew she might not make it. Minato now had tears sliding off his face onto her. "Why?" he asked himself. He wiped away his tears, then he took his wife close into his arms and flashed to the Hokage's office to regroup with Jiraiya, Tsunade and Sarutobi as he thought of the most likely place where all might be present together. Inside the village. It was quiet in the industrial part of the village. It was a full moon tonight in Konohagakure no Sato and the village seemed almost peaceful. But those who were outside in other parts of the village at this time suddenly felt a sudden chill go down their spines, especially the shinobi. The buildings were mostly closed since it was the night time. The masked man landed softly on the ground and kneeled. He looked around to take in the surroundings. He almost smirked, thinking about the state of the village after his two pets would be done with this village. He then went through hand signs swiftly and shouted, "Kuchiyas no Jutsu." There was a huge cloud of smoke where suddenly the Kyuubi no Yoko was standing and all its nine tails were swishing wildly behind it. It gave a tremendous roar alerting the village of its presence. The masked man stood on top of a building far away and smirked. Now all he was waiting for was the appearance of the three tails, which would be any second now, and then he would put the three tails under his jinjutsu to do his bidding. In another part of the village, specifically the hospital, in Rin's room. Her seal containing the Sanbi was almost undone. In another few seconds, there came a massive surge of chakra from her body, and the three tails escaped its prison, crushing the hospital where it was now standing. The Sanbi at this point of time was not in its current state of mind. After being sealed away in humans for so long, it wanted nothing more than to destroy these ninjas humans who dared to seal him. He looked straight ahead and saw a masked man with an orange mask. The man looked at the three tails straight in the eye and the last thing the Sanbi would remember for a while would be the masked bastard. "Oh three tails. Enjoy your time out for the while. Destroy everything around you," shouted the masked man darkly. An hour earlier. Hiruzen was now working at the Hokage's office with a small pile of paperwork in front of him. He did not know how Minato could go through his paperwork at such an immense speed. He cursed himself for not thinking like Minato and continued working. He stamped an aisle for a shinobi to take leave from his services to the village for a while to rest. He did not even know why his shinobi would want leave at such a crucial period. The war was over only recently and for the time being, the village needed to undertake more missions to maintain their military strength. He was thinking on these lines when suddenly the door to the Hokage's office was broken down with what he guessed was a punch. The Anbu hidden in the office immediately stepped in front of the Sandaime to protect him from any harm. Tsunade stepped inside the office with a worried look on her face. Upon seeing who the intruder was, Sarutobi ordered the Anbu to step away. "Tsunade, what is the meaning of this?" asked a third sternly. "Sensei. It's Rin. Her seal is about to be undone. The Sanbi is going to be released," spoke Tsunade in a rapid voice. Hiruzen immediately turned his rapt attention to her upon hearing that. "What do you mean? Where was Shizune? I thought she would be looking after her while you were with Kushina." "Speaking of Kushina, where is she now? Seeing as you are not with her?" inquired Sarutobi. "I am just a cage bunshin. The real one is with Shizune, healing her. When I entered the hospital room, she was knocked out and lying on the ground, bloodied. It was most likely the masked." Before Tsunade could finish what she was saying, both her and Sarutobi felt a large shockwave. "Anbu? What was that?" "A large toad has appeared outside the Hokage Tower, Sandaime-sama," spoke one of the Anbu. Tsunade and Sarutobi both knew who it was when they heard the shockwave was caused by a large toad. "I will explain everything, sensei," Jiraiya said, jumping in through the window. He turned and looked at the Anbu and said, "Place the village on emergency orders. Inform the clan heads immediately to keep their clan members hidden in a safe place and evacuate the civilians as soon as possible. Tell the clan heads they will inform of the situation after and if the situation has been dealt with." "Hi!" the Anbu shouted before disappearing from their spots. Hiruzen stood and looked at Tsunade first and then at Jiraiya, who was holding Naruto in his arms. "Prepare yourself, Sarutobi-sensei. The Kyuubi is about to be unsealed and released inside Konohagakure if Minato fails." "What are you talking about, Jiraiya? How could this happen? First Tsunade tells me the Three Tails is about to be released any moment now and now the Nine Tails too," shouted the aged man in a panicked voice. Jiraiya immediately turned to Tsunade and gave her a knowing look. "So, the masked man got to her too. This is terrible. If we are not careful, there will not be a village standing here tomorrow. Facing the Nine Tails itself is no joke, on top of that the Three Tails, goddammit," shouted an agitated Jiraiya. "Explain," briefly spoke the third Hokage, turning to Tsunade. "When Naruto was born, I was about to take him to the maternity ward when suddenly a masked man appeared and snatched Naruto from me and held a kunai at his throat, saying if we didn't move away from Kushina, he would kill him," Tsunade said. "Did either you, Minato or Jiraiya try to apprehend him?" "We did. But all our attacks phased right through him. It was like he wasn't even there to begin with," Jiraiya spoke now. "We are sorry, Sarutobi-sensei. Your wife, Bawako-sama, was killed by the masked assailant," spoke Tsunade sadly. Jiraiya too looked sadly at his sensei, knowing how close he was to his wife. Sarutobi, upon hearing this, looked down at his feet and did not say anything. Many images and memories Bawako and him flashed through his mind. But he could not let himself break down at this point. His village needed him now. This was the life of a shinobi, he mused. Marching forward no matter what. "Where is Minato now?" asked Sarutobi after some silence. Suddenly there was a yellow flash in the room and Minato was standing there with Kushina in his arms. "Tsunade-sama, could you heal Kushina as much as possible, please?" asked Minato quickly. Minato then put Kushina on a nearby sofa and Tsunade knelt in front of her and started to heal her. "Minato, what happened to Kushina? Was the Kyuubi extracted out of her?" asked the aged Hokage worriedly. "Yes. It was. I was late in getting to Kushina. That masked man had already put the Kyuubi under his genjutsu. I believe him to be an Uchiha. But the only Uchiha who was remotely able to control the Nine Tails was Madara. I don't know for sure if it is him or not," said Minato. Jiraiya then stepped in front of Minato and looked him in the eyes. "Minato, you know there's no choice other than sealing the Kyuubi into him as well." It was not an easy job for Jiraiya to admit that to Minato, but it was the truth. Sarutobi and Tsunade got astonished looks on their faces upon hearing that statement. Jiraiya continued speaking, now with a serious look on his face. "The Haki Fuin is capable of holding up to at least 4-tailed beasts. I could use the Shiki Fuin to seal both the 9 tails and 3 tails inside of Naruto. With the seal being powered by the Shinigami, it will be powerful enough to seal those two for a lifetime." "No, Jiraiya-sensei. It shall not be required of you. I had thought of the possibilities already as soon as the masked man told me about two-tailed beasts attacking Konoha. I am going to do the sealing. Minato said softly looking at Kushina. Kushina, who was awake, had heard the conversation. She wanted to protest and say it would not be good for her Naruto to lead such a life without his parents around, but her logical part was saying to go with what Minato was saying. Because if not, her baby in her village may not be alive in a few hours. What? Are you even thinking straight, you two? Shouted Tsunade. Sealing too ambiguous inside of him. Will Naruto be even able to handle such stress on his chakra coils? The potency of 9 tails and the 3 tails chakra combined would be enormous. You can't do that to Naruto. He would not survive the sealing, even if the Haki Fuin is capable of imprisoning both ambiguous. What about you, Minato? You're the Hokage. The village will need you. Tsunade said, trying to put down this messed up idea. Jiraiya went to retort and say something, but quieted down upon seeing Minato raise his hand. I understand your concern, Tsunade-sama. But, Naruto, he's mine and Kushina's son. I believe in him. He will be able to handle the pressure. I want him to grow up in this village, to understand what a shinobi is, to understand what a village is. To form a bond with this village. I know he will grow up to be an important figure. Minato said with a small smile on his face. He continued, I am the Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sado. I am supposed to lead from the front so none of my comrades would suffer. They all depend on me. It is my duty as this village's leader to save her from perishing, no matter the cost. Jiraiya-sensei once told me, a shinobi's life is not judged by how he lives his life, but by how he dies. If I die protecting and saving my village today, I will know that, for the future, she will be in capable hands. He said looking down at Naruto's sleeping form. The participants of the room upon hearing it couldn't help but shed a few tears. The Sandaime was glad he had picked Minato as his successor. The will of fire he exuded was one Hashirama-sensei and Tobirama-sensei talked about. Jiraiya felt extremely proud of his student at this point. Although he was bitter that he wouldn't see his student alive much longer, he couldn't help but feel proud of the decisions Minato has made up to this point. Tsunade wanted to yell at him, but stopped when Kushina pressed her hand with her own and gave her a look saying not to say anything. Kushina herself had tears flowing out her eyes. Minato-kun, give me Naruto. I want to. Hold him close to me for some time. Kushina said in a soft voice. Tsunade had healed her internal injuries as much as she could, including her chakra network. Although, Tsunade knew, if she were to use her chakra for prolonged time, she would not live to see another day. Minato slowly took Naruto from his sensei and for a while just looked at him. Naruto soon opened his eyes and looked at him with those curious innocent violet eyes and yawned in his arms, making him look even more adorable. He felt his resolve weaken to sacrifice himself for the village and his son, but he knew he had to do it if he wanted his son and the village to have a future. He then placed Naruto in his wife's hands. Naruto seemed to recognize Kushina and Tsunade who were looking at him with somber looks. He put out his tiny hands forward and held a few red locks of Kushina's hair, which made the Uzumaki woman smile a bit. Tsunade then went closer to Naruto and kissed him on the forehead and whispered, "Don't worry, Nari-chan. You will have a wonderful life ahead. I will make sure of it." Naruto seemed to gurgle a bit upon hearing that. He yawned again and closed his eyes slowly. Jiraiya, Hiruzen and Minato smiled upon seeing the interaction between the three. After a short silence, Hiruzen cleared his throat to speak. "If that is what you wish, Minato. We need to form an immediate plan of action to deal with the two Bijus. I don't think we have much time," said Sarutobi. "I will go deal with the masked man to free the Kyuubi from under his control. Sarutobi-sama, would you and the other shinobi be able to push the Kyuubi out of the village and hold him down for a while?" Hiruzen nodded, listening to Minato. Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sensei can handle the Sanbi in that time. After the masked man has been dealt with and I appear before the Kyuubi. Hiruzen-sama will go join up with Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama. I shall mark all of you with my Hiraishin marker. I will teleport with the Kyuubi once it's freed from the Genjutsu to the outside forests of Konoha, and I shall then summon you three while you are holding down the Sanbi to the Kyuubi's location. My cage bunshins will take Kushina and Naruto there in advance. Kushina will be able to hold down the Kyuubi and the Sanbi with her Kongo Fuso chains once she has recovered enough for that. I shall then use the Shiki Fuin to summon the Shinigami and seal both the 9 tails and the 3 tails using the Haki Fuin seal on Naruto," Minato said, forming the plan in his head as quickly as possible. Everyone seemed to agree with the course of action. They knew Minato was stronger than them and he would be fine on his own against the 9 tails. Minato then looked at Jiraiya and said, "Sensei, when the time comes, I want you to help him master the 9 tails and 3 tails chakra. The Kyuubi is said to be the strongest of all Bijus and is said to have near unlimited chakra. I believe there will come a time when Naruto will require their assistance." Seeing how the masked man knew about both the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, it is possible to think that he also knows the Jinchuriki of other Bijuus. Please do look after him. Minato said the last part in a downcast voice. Sarutobi could not help but feel sad seeing the current situation. Naruto, not even a day since he came to this world and he was already losing both his parents. Tsunade-sama, I would like to request something of you. Minato said in a small voice. Tsunade looked at him and urged him to continue. Would you look after Naruto as your own son after tonight? I know it's asking a lot of you. But he will need a mother figure in his life. Kushina will not survive the night. Even with her Uzumaki genes, the way the Kyuubi was extracted from her, I'm sure it has left her chakra network haywire. He will need balance in his life. Would you do it, Tsunade-sama? For a moment, she did not say anything. She looked at Naruto again and saw his sleeping form. She was startled that Minato would ask her to look after Naruto as her own son. She knew growing up without parents would be hard for Naruto, and if by any chance the village comes to know of his Jinchuriki status, his life would become a living hell. She then thought about how her life would change if she does adopt Naruto. She couldn't help but feel happy upon thinking of raising Naruto as her own son. She never had a child of her own, and raising Naruto as a Senju will keep her legacy alive, even after her time comes. Tsunade looked at Minato with a determined face and said, yes, don't worry. I shall be the mother he needs. I will look after him like my own flesh and blood. Minato felt a little weight taken off his shoulders upon hearing that. He at least knew his son would grow up being loved by a mother figure. Kushina, too, felt happy and squeezed Tsunade's hand as a thank you gesture with her free hand. Suddenly they all felt a tremendous shockwave and they saw the imposing figure of the Kyuubi standing within the village. Not even a minute later, there was another large burst of chakra and the Three Tails was standing in another part of the village, particularly the crushed hospital. They all shared a knowing look and knew what was to come. They could see the Anbu running around the village, trying to evacuate as many civilians they could. Jiraiya immediately left towards the Three Tails and Tsunade's cage Bunshin dispelled herself to let the real one know of all the things discussed inside the office. The Sandaime summoned Monkey King Enma. He too left in the direction of the Nine Tails. Minato sat down in a lotus position and quickly started amassing Senjutsu chakra. His eyes changed to become bar-like and the outside of his eyes gained orange pigmentation. He got up from his position and took 2 sheets of paper from his drawer. He handed one to Kushina, who looked slightly better from the time he rescued her. Her healing abilities astonished him, even to this day. Kushina, we should probably write a few words for Naruto for when he grows up. I will write instructions for Tsunade-sama to give this letter to Naruto once he's of age, to learn his true heritage. Minato said in a sad voice. Both the cage-level shinobi wrote few words as quickly as possible for their son, a few lines in Kushina's case, since she still felt very weak. Whatever she was doing right now was solely due to her willpower. And then Minato put it on top of the Hokage's table. Minato quickly made 2 cage Bunshins and gave them orders to take Kushina and Naruto to the place he intended to do the sealing ritual. Once Kushina and Naruto were out of sight, Minato steeled his resolve. He sensed out the masked man's chakra and disappeared to his location in a yellow flash. Meanwhile, all the clan heads had been informed about the imminent threat of the Kyuubi and the Sanbi in Konoha. Panic, fear and worry were the obvious reactions from everyone. As soon as they received word of the information, they started gathering their respective civilians from the clansmen and began to get to safety. Those who were capable shinobi were preparing to go on the front line to get as many villagers to safety and contribute in staying in Kyuubi until their Hokage would arrive. Hiruzen, Jiraiya and Tsunade had regrouped for a couple of seconds on top of a building, which gave them a wide view of the entire village. There were dozens of Anbu along with them on top of the building. Looking around the village, the 3 cage-level shinobi witnessed as the 2 Bijuus thrashed their tails and destroyed several buildings. Many villagers were caught off guard due to the sudden attack, but they could also see several shinobi getting the civilians to safety. Anbu, we move out and defend Konoha. Hi! Shouted the dozens of Anbu behind Hiruzen before dashing off into the distance to hold off the Kyuubi and the Sanbi until their Hokage could deal with the tailed beasts. Jiraiya, Tsunade. Hiruzen said, gaining their attention, make sure everything goes as to the plan. Times ahead of us will not be easy. But, we must do what we must for our village to exist in a few hours. This is our duty as ninja of Konohagakure no Sado. Scatter. Jiraiya and Tsunade listened intently to each word spoken by their sensei. They knew how serious the situation in front of them was and they had to give it their all to come out of this alive. Both the Sanins immediately dashed towards the 3 Tails. The Kyuubi and the Sanbi were engaged by many ninja from Konoha, moving to distract the beast, preventing damage that would be done. Many shouts could be heard from the different parts of the village where the 2 beasts were rampaging around. Yo! Kyuubi! Over here! Shouted one, throwing a bunch of shuriken at the beast. No. Kyuubi over here. Shouted another throwing kunai with explosive tags. Of course, none of this did anything except pester the beast, making it more enraged. The Kyuubi roared and flicked its tails to get rid of the annoying flies. In another part of the village near the hospital, the Sanbi was staying put in his place and splashing water from its mouth all around himself to wash away the annoying humans who were throwing different weapons at him. Sanbi. You blind. I'm over here. Where do you think you're aiming, you beast? Shouted an Anbu who succeeded in gaining the Bijuu's attention. The Sanbi was about to squash the ninjas with his paw when suddenly a kunai with an explosive tag exploded near his right eye which he kept close all the time. Irritated by this action, the Sanbi went to open its mouth and started gathering blue and black chakra near its mouth. The shinobi battling the three tails knew whatever the beast was doing was nothing good. Just as the Sanbi was going to launch the Bijuudama on the shinobi in front of it, a chakra-enhanced punch by Tsunade sent it flying up, which in effect sent the Bijuudama flying up and exploded away from the village. Everyone stay back, Jiraiya and I will deal with the three tails. Some of you go to Sarutobi-sensei and help him deal with the Kyuubi. The rest stay behind and come forward when we ask you to. Tsunade said, still looking up towards the Sanbi who was now descending. Jiraiya, you are up now. Summon your battle toads fast. Shouted Tsunade who looked at Jiraiya standing atop a nearby building. The toad sage jumped high up in the air, sending a minuscule burst of chakra to his soles, and swiftly went through a similar set of hand seals and put an immense amount of chakra this time. Fuchikyusyat Kuzashi no Jutsu. Summoning Jutsu Food Cart Destroyer Technique. Out of nowhere a giant toad appeared above the three tails and landed on top of him, causing a shockwave to spread through the village. The toad took out its tanto and stabbed into one of the tails. The beast screamed and tried to parry off the toad, but to no avail. Stay down you damn turtle. The toad shouted. Nice job Bunta. Tsunade quick. Try knocking the Sanbi out by punching its shell. Jiraiya shouted, standing on top of the toad boss. Tsunade, seeing the beast struggling, jumped up, gave another chakra-enhanced punch to the Sanbi's hard shell at maximum strength. Upon contact of Tsunade's fists with Sanbi's shell, there was another shockwave, and the large turtle felt weak on its legs and just fell momentarily knocked out. And with Gamma Bunta on top of him applying more pressure, the tailed beast wasn't getting up anytime soon. Now, it is believed that the three-tailed shell is among the hardest thing on this planet. So, to be able to crack that hard shell with a single punch was saying something. Jiraiya shivered upon seeing Tsunade's monster strength. Good lord. I didn't think she would crack the three-tailed shell. Man, the beating she gave me a few years back when I got caught peeking on her seems like a blessing. That's how you beat a damn overgrown turtle. Said Tsunade, proud of her handiwork. Jiraiya just sweat dropped on hearing that. The shinobi who were standing behind and watching the entire scene were shell-shocked on seeing the beast down for a while. They all had heard of Tsunade's monster strength but never knew the extent of it. Amazing. Such great strength. So, this is the power possessed by one of the Sanins. Said one of the awestruck Anbu. Alright, 4 Anbu come here and form a Shishi engine barrier across us. That would immobilize the three tails from going elsewhere. Formulated Jiraiya. The Anbu did as they were told and formed a purplish barrier trapping the three tails, Jiraiya, Gamma Bunta and Tsunade. Inside the barrier. Phew, it's a relief, this turtle got put down for a while. Said Tsunade. Yes. That is. Now, all we have to do is wait for Minato to summon us to the location of the sealing ritual. Said Jiraiya tiredly. Few minutes earlier in a forested area outside Konoha. Minato had soon appeared in a forested area outside of Konoha and came face to face with the masked man. Both the men were eyeing each other, but the Yondaime could swear the masked man was smirking upon seeing the fate of the village. This time Yondaime, we fight on even grounds. Said the masked man. I wouldn't call having the Sharingan fighting even, now would I? Are you? Uchiha Madara. Minato said. Maybe. Maybe not. Who I am is not important or relevant to this world anymore. Yes. It doesn't matter who you are. Madara Uchiha or not, I shall put you down. Why are you targeting the Leaf Village? Minato asked. Who knows? Said the man as he brought a long chain, some of it wrapped around his hand from his black cloak. Maybe it's for war, maybe it's for the peace that I want to bring to this accursed world. Minato did not say anything to that. This man had dangerous ideals. He looked at the man before him who was shrugging as if warming up, then saw the chains drop down from his cloak. He looked ready to fight. Minato took out his tri-pronged kunai from his pocket and prepared to engage him when suddenly the man laughed. What is so funny? Asked a confused Minato. You're clueless Yondaime. The Kyuubi cannot be stopped unless sealed once more. You do not have to worry about the Kyuubi. His fate has already been sealed by me. I intend to stop to you first and then the 9 tails. Konoha shall not fall while I'm here. So, you plan to make your son the Jinchuriki, huh? You sure that will turn out for the best, Yondaime? The masked man taunted. Minato observed the man carefully, looking for any sign of body language before asking, what are you talking about? I'm talking about your son Yondaime. I know about him. To be raised by the slug Sannin and that idiot of a toad sage. I even know about sealing the Sanbi into him as well. How do you know such information? Asked an enraged Minato. He shouldn't be knowing all that. No one should be. He thought. Ah, don't fret over such pointless information, Yondaime. I have my sources to gather such things. Said the masked man casually. I look forward to fighting him in the future. This ends now. I won't let you get the chance. Minato said before throwing his kunai at the masked man. The man simply gave a huff of air and let the kunai phase through him, but not before seeing the Yondaime charge towards him, a blue spiraling ball in his right hand. Rasengan. Of course, this attack too simply passed through him. Too slow, Yondaime. The man said before he pulled on his chains and whirling around to face him, only to find he had disappeared again. He sighed and turned to face the Hokage still waiting in the clearing. Minato still had the Rasengan in his right hand and had two tri-pronged kunai in his left hand. You cannot hope to defeat an Uchiha. Said the masked man. We'll see about that. Minato muttered to himself before throwing the first kunai and charging at the man. The Sage mode helped Minato go at much faster pace than before. Minato moved as fast as the kunai behind it and planning his attack carefully. The man ran to meet him and let the kunai phase through him. The masked man then stretched his hand and said, I win. Haration Ribarunai Haration level 2. Minato shouted and disappeared, appearing behind the man and snatching his kunai between his fingers and slamming the Rasengan in his hand into the man. Damn it. He flew to the kunai from earlier. I underestimated him. The masked man thought. How about that? Minato asked. Impressed much? Now, you will definitely will be. Minato deposited his kunai in his kunai pouch and went through hand signs quickly before the man could recover and slammed his hand onto the man's chest and shouted, Kyaki Fuin contract seal. The man cursed himself and felt his control on the Kyuubi and the Sanbi released all at once. He no longer had hold over the two beasts. Then he looked up at the man who ruined all his plans with a fire burning in his eyes. Then he said, I must hand it to you Yondaime Hokage, being able to wound me and sever my ties with the Kyuubi and the Sanbi is not something to laugh at, but no matter. The Kyuubi and the Sanbi will be my playthings again. I will take over the world and there are so many ways to go around it. Then the masked man used his teleportation jutsu and disappeared before Minato's eyes. So, I was right. He is after the Jinchuriki. If Naruto is to face him sometime in the future, he is going to need something extremely powerful by his side. Minato thought. He had many thoughts going through his head at a rapid pace. He knew the Kyuubi and the Sanbi were still attacking the village and he had to seal them into his newborn soon. He did not like that one bit, but he had no choice in the matter. Naruto was the only one he could entrust this burden to. Back in Konohagakure. Hiruzen appeared standing atop a nearby building where the Kyuubi was causing havoc. The shinobi battling the Kyuubi sighed in relief upon seeing the Sandaime joining the battle. Guchius Monkey King Enma summoning Monkey King Enma shouted Sarutobi after going through the hand signs for the summoning jutsu. There was a puff of smoke that appeared beside Hiruzen, who stood in full battle armor. It was a monkey that stood slightly taller than the aged Hokage. The monkey looked around before noticing the fox and said, so, the Kyuubi has been unleashed now Hiruzen. Minato didn't do a very good job. He said. There were circumstances that were unpreventable. Hiruzen said. I can see that. Henge Konganyoi. Transformation adamantine staff. Enma then turned from his monkey form into a large adamantine staff that Hiruzen then gripped and allowed to extend into the Kyuubi, smacking him in his head. The Kyuubi became enraged and flicked its tail, smacking several shinobi away from him. Hiruzen saw his chance and extended his staff again, pushing Kyuubi through the wall and outside the village. The Kyuubi, enraged by this, started charging up a Bijuadama. Minato appeared at the battle site soon after dealing with the masked man, standing on top of his head at the Hokage monument. He looked at the fierce battle going on in the distance and noticed the Kyuubi getting more agitated and began charging up a Bijuadama. Minato cursed himself silently and started to go through hand signs. Then the Kyuubi turned straight towards Minato and launched in straight at him. Minato finished the hand signs and brought out his signature tri-pronged kunai and held it out in front of him and began the space-time ninjutsu. Out came what looked like a fuinjutsu seal, but had a gaping hole in the middle of it and the Bijuadama went straight inside of it. The giant purple chakra ball disappeared inside and seconds later, a huge explosion could be heard a long distance away from the village. He smirked to himself at his quick thinking. Sarutobi looked at the Bijuadama as it was launched towards the Hokage monument and panicked slightly when he saw Minato on top of it. He smiled and saw him use a space-time ninjutsu to make the Bijudama disappear. He then turned serious again at the looming threat of the Kyuubi. He gripped Enma who was still in his hands and charged at the nine-tailed fox. Minato then ran as quick as possible over the rooftops and jumped high above the Kyuubi and went through hand signs again. He was still in his sage mode, hence his chakra reserves were getting replenished quickly and so were his earlier injuries. Minato then shouted. Kuchiyusyatai Kuzushi no Jutsu, and a giant green toad with two tantos strapped to his back and dressed in a battle toad attire came out of nowhere and dropped on the giant fox. On top of the toad stood Minato, looking down at the Kyuubi who was charging yet another Bijudama. He cursed again and started gathering chakra, preparing to Hiraition himself and the fox away. Hiruzen and the shinobi who were battling the Kyuubi were getting exhausted. They were firing jutsu after jutsu and yet there was not even a single scratch on the giant beast. So, upon seeing their Yondaime Hokage and the fox being put down by the giant toad, they cheered. "It's the Yondaime." A ninja cheered around him. Hiruzen smiled upon seeing him, wondering what he would do now. So, when he saw both the fox and his successor disappear, he was astonished. Suddenly Hiruzen felt a tap from behind his shoulders and turned to look around. "Sandaime-sama, I'm just a Kage Bunshin, you should go to Jiraiya-sensei and Tsunade-sama now. I shall summon you to the sealing ritual place in a few minutes. All three of you, hold on to one tail of the Sanbi each," said Minato's Kage Bunshin. Sandaime sighed upon realizing that everything was going to plan up till now and then nodded to the Kage Bunshin and asked it to dispel himself. "All of the shinobi present here, get as many injured you can out of here and set up medical camps so we can get them treated after everything has been dealt with," Hiruzen said in a loud authoritative voice. "Hi Sandaime-sama," voiced the shinobi and got to doing their work. Sarutobi immediately left towards Jiraiya and Tsunade's location, hoping to get there as soon as possible. Jiraiya was not having a fun time. Sitting on top of Gamabunta and constantly channeling chakra through himself and the boss toad to be ready at any given moment for the Sanbi to make a move. Tsunade too was slightly exhausted. The amount of chakra she had put while punching the Sanbi on its shell was enormous. The Anbu who were sustaining the barrier around the Sanins and the tailed beast were feeling the strain too and were worried about the situation with the nine tails. Hiruzen suddenly landed in front of them. "Anbu dropped the barrier immediately," said the Sarutobi. "Sensei? What's going on? Who's dealing with the Kyuubi now? Is Minato done with the masked man?" asked Jiraiya rapidly. "The Kyuubi has been teleported by Minato to the sealing ritual place. He asked me to come here and join you. Get down here fast. We must each hold onto a tail of the Sanbi and channel chakra through the Hiraition seal placed on us," Sarutobi said quickly. "So, then he freed the two Bijuas from the masked man's control. That Minato is too good for his age," said Tsunade, smirking while going towards one of the tails. Jiraiya too smiled upon hearing it. His apprentice wasn't a SS-class shinobi for nothing, he mused. Soon, the 3 Kage-level shinobi caught one of tails of the beast and channeled chakra through the Hiraition seal placed on them. The Anbu standing around them were wondering what each of them was doing when suddenly they saw Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Tsunade and the 3 tails disappearing out of their sights. Minato teleported the Kyuubi to the sealing ritual place and immediately fell on his knees panting. He was running dangerously low on chakra now and his sage mode had long since faded. He saw Kushina to the side along with Naruto who was resting on her lap sleeping peacefully. He had a few tears coming from his eyes upon seeing his child. He never wanted all of this to happen to his child. He steeled his resolve then and approached them. "Kushi-chan. It's time. Hold down the Kyuubi with your chakra chains. Then I will summon Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen-sama along with the Sanbi here and we can proceed with the sealing," Minato said somberly. "No. I change my mind. We can't do this to our baby child. Please understand Minato. He's my son. How can we do this?" Kushina shouted as her motherly instincts kicked in. "It's not any easier for me to do this, Kushina. Try looking at it from my point of view. I cannot do it to another child and ask another parent to make the sacrifice. I am the Hokage of this village and I must do what is necessary to look after it. Plus, Naruto. I trust in him. He will grow up to be a fine and powerful shinobi one day. I can feel it. And to fight the masked man, he will need the Bijuu's help. The masked man was no joke. He was a powerful opponent. I couldn't kill him. He escaped in time," Minato said, looking down. Minato then took Naruto from her arms and Kushina who was on her knees still feeling extremely weak. She summoned her will to subdue the 9 tails through her chakra chains. Minato was panting hard with Naruto in his arms. The Kyuubi was trying all it could to break free of the restraints. Suddenly he felt a pull on the Hiraition marker he placed on his sensei, Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen. Minato then quickly amassed large amount of chakra and summoned those three along with the three tails, who seemed to be knocked out for the moment. Good. Sanbi won't try to lash out and increase Kushina's problem of holding down two Bijus. She is already struggling with the Kyuubi, thought Minato. Hiruzen, Jiraiya ran to Minato's side and Tsunade immediately ran to Kushina's. Tsunade put both her hands on Kushina's shoulder and started transferring some of her chakra to her. Kushina felt slightly rejuvenated upon receiving chakra and her hold on the nine tails increased, which infuriated the giant fox to no end. So? Isobu is also here. What is the Yondaime planning to do with us now? Thought the enraged Kyuubi. Minato. Are you sure you're up for this? I can still do it in your place, if you want. Jiraiya said sadly, looking at his protege. Yes, sensei. I'm alright. I must do it. It's my job as the Hokage and it is a father's duty to ensure their child's future. Minato said, breathing a bit heavily now. Sarutobi-sama. You must take the mantle of the Hokage back, I suppose, for the time being. There's no one else better for the job now. I doubt Jiraiya-sensei or Tsunade-sama would want to try it now. Minato said, chuckling a bit at the end. Jiraiya just scoffed and looked away, not being able to look at Minato now. Hiruzen, although reluctantly and sadly, nodded his head. Stay back now. Jiraiya-sensei, Tsunade-sama, Sarutobi-sama, I suppose it's time for the sealing now. I am so sorry, kid. Whispered Jiraiya more to himself than Minato. Hiruzen along with Jiraiya and Tsunade walked a distance back from where Minato, Kushina and Naruto were, along with the two Bijus. Minato went through few hand seals and said, Kuchius no Jutsu, and a small tall toad appeared beside Minato. This toad was Jiratora, whose job was to store scrolls inside himself. Minato asked the toad to stand a bit to the side and explained him what he was going to do and his part in it. Although the toad was surprised upon hearing this predicament, he nodded his head and stepped aside. Minato then took out 3 scrolls and laid one of them on the ground and formed the tiger seal. Yuan Kai. Seal release, Minato shouted. The scroll glowed, then suddenly an altar appeared and Fuinjutsu marks ran across the ground until they reached the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, who were entangled in them shortly. The Sanbi by this time had woken up but could not do anything. The Kyuubi roared at him and Minato just smirked and began to do what he set out to. He took the second scroll and scribbled within it quickly, then rolled it up and set it to the side. He then flew through several hand signs and shouted, Shiki Fuin dead demon consuming seal. There was an ominous chakra that surrounded Minato and behind him appeared the Shinigami. Minato looked at his son and placed him on the altar and shed some more tears. Kushina too looked at her son and was openly crying by now. She felt horrible to be doing this to her own son. In the beginning, Minato had thought about taking the Kyuubi with him and only sealing the 3 tails in Naruto, but then crossed that out of his mind, thinking that his son was the perfect vessel. With the genes of the Uzumaki and Namikaze family, his son is bound to have incredible chakra reserves and potency and will be able to control the Kyuubi and the Sanbi in time. The question was, could he draw on the Shinigami enough to be able to seal both the Bijuus and his son safely and completely? He mulled over it for a while and decided with a yes. Minato then looked at both the Kyuubi and the Sanbi and saw both them glaring at him. Minato saw that Kushina's hold on the Kyuubi was weakening slightly as it was beginning to get free. That Yondaime is planning to seal Isobu and me into that gaki. No. This can't be happening. Kyuubi thought with anger boiling inside of him. Ah man. Not again. Half of my strength was gone breaking free of that seal and now I'm going to be sealed again along with Kurama. Isobu thought, cursing his bad luck. The Kyuubi suddenly raised one of its claws intending to kill Naruto, but just as it was about to reach him, Minato and Kushina jumped in front him, saving Naruto from the danger. One of Kyuubi's claw was now sticking out Kushina and Minato, who was standing behind her. There was blood dripping from the claw and some of it fell on Naruto's stomach, who was now awake, as if sensing his parents' pain, he started crying. Minato looked at Kushina, who was staring at Naruto sadly. He was glad that he still had some strength left to complete the ritual and especially that Naruto was safe from harm. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen were now standing on top on Gamabunta, who Jiraiya had summoned again a short while ago. All of them were about to run in, seeing the Kyuubi trying to finish off Naruto before he could be sealed again. They did not know whether to be glad that Naruto was safe or cry about the fact that both Minato and Kushina were just impaled by one of Kyuubi's claw. Tsunade was openly weeping now, looking at the scene in front of her. Kushi-chan, I don't have much time left. We should probably say our last words to our Naruto before that. I want to seal some of our chakra into Naruto before we die. It will a while before we see him again. Minato said, breathing heavily with blood coming out of his mouth. Kushina just kept staring at Naruto lovingly and said, thank you Minato-kun. Thank you for everything you have done for me. Oh, did I wake you up little Naru-chan? Kushina said in a weak motherly tone. Naruto soon yawned again and slowly closed his eyes hearing his mother's voice. Kushina. Minato said. Don't say such things, Kushi-chan. You made me Yondaime Hokage. Made me your husband. And now. Gave birth to our beautiful child. Naruto. I'm happy, Minato-kun. Don't look sad. I'm happy you loved me. Besides, today is our child's birthday. Above all. When I think about our future together as a family, if I lived, I can only see a life full of happiness. Kushina started saying slowly. Minato started shedding more tears upon hearing his wife speak. If there is only one thing that I regret, it's that I won't be able to see Naruto grow up. Kushina finished sadly looking at her son's sleeping form on the altar. Thank you, Kushina. Minato said. Minato gave the command to the Shinigami to take out the chakra and the soul of the 9 tails and the 3 tails and to seal it inside Naruto. The ominous being put his hand through Minato's soul and stretched his hand towards the Kyuubi and the Sanbi and grabbed their soul and chakra, dragged it inside the newborn baby, and instantly a spiral-looking seal appeared on Naruto's stomach. It's time to finish the Haki Fuin seal, Kushi-chan. Minato said slowly. Naruto. Don't be picky with your food. Eat lots so you can grow big and strong. Take baths every day and stay warm. And don't stay up late at night, you'll need your sleep. Make friends. You don't need a lot of them. Just a few are okay, whom you can trust. I'm not one to talk, but do your best in school and ninjutsu. Everyone has their own strength and weakness. So, don't feel down if you are not good at something. Respect your teachers and seniors at the academy. Oh, and don't forget the 3 shinobi vices, be especially careful when lending and borrowing money. Make sure to save money you're earning from every mission. Don't drink any alcohol until you are of age. Drinking too much is bad for your health, so drink moderately, okay? It's okay to be interested in women. But don't get hooked on bad women. Find someone just like Kasen, okay? Speaking of vices, be wary of Jiraiya-sensei. Kushina said, breathing heavily. Minato just smiled upon hearing the last part and Jiraiya, although feeling down upon seeing the scene in front of him, scoffed hearing that. Hiruzen and Tsunade just smiled a little, listening to Kushina talk to baby Naruto. Naruto, you will face a lot of pain and suffering from now in your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe that your dreams will come true. There's many more things I want to share with you. I wish I could stay with you longer. I love you, Naru-chan. Kushina said, crying more at the end. Omen, Minato-kun. I spoke for too long. Said Kushina. Minato just shook his head and said, don't worry. He then looked at Naruto and said, Naruto, my advice as your father. Is everything your chatty mother just said. Minato said, smiling weakly. All the 3 shinobi standing on top of the boss toad felt like breaking down looking at the family moment in front of them. All of them at that moment vowed to themselves to look after Naruto to the best of their abilities and make sure to let him have a normal childhood. As normal as he could have. Tsunade, who was crying now, vowed she would be the best possible mother to Naruto, which he would need while growing up and throughout his life. Minato then slowly turned his towards Jiraiya and asked him to come forward. He then took the 3rd scroll and applied some of his chakra into it. The scroll glowed for a second before it turned back to normal. This scroll was the seal for the Haki no Fuin Shiki, which could be used to open the cage of the 2 Bijuas sealed inside Naruto. Minato then gave the scroll to Jiraiya, who swallowed the scroll and stored it inside himself. After that, he puffed out of sights to inform the elder toads of Konoha's fate. Minato then closed his eyes and whispered, Haki. Fuin. 8 trigram sealing style, and finished the sealing of the 9 tails and the 3 tails into Naruto. Kyuubi's and Sanbi's body soon disappeared once the sealing was done, and both Minato and Kushina fell on the ground, dead. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiruzen quickly rushed to their place to see Naruto still sleeping and Minato and Kushina lying on the ground with no signs of life in them. We shall hold funeral for our beloved Yondaime Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki in a few days. Said the 3rd Hokage sadly looking at his former successor. Tsunade went and picked up Naruto and held him close to her and kissed him on the forehead once. 2 Anbu suddenly dropped in front of them and asked, Sandaime-sama. What happened to Yondaime-sama? Is he dead? And the Kyuubi and the Sanbi? Are they gone too? These 2 Anbu were in fact Genma Shiranui and Kakashi Hatake. Hiruzen looked at them immediately recognizing the 2 in front. Yes. I am reinstated as Hokage as per the Yondaime's last request. And this is Naruto Namikaze, the Yondaime's son. He sacrificed himself to seal both the 9 tails and the 3 tails inside of him. His seal is absolute. There is no chance of the 2 Bijuas breaking free. Please, do not tell about Naruto being his son to anyone else for now and about his Jinchuriki status. You both were close to Minato, hence my reason for telling you the truth. Hiruzen said. Jiraiya and Tsunade, who were standing beside Hiruzen, nodded to confirm what he just said. The two Anbu were shell-shocked and felt extremely sad upon hearing it. But they did a good job in hiding their shock and pain. Hi. Hokage-sama. Go back to the village and inform everyone that the two-tailed beasts have been defeated by our Yondaime Hokage and that he sacrificed his life to defeat those two and saved our village from being perished. Ordered Sarutobi. The two Anbu nodded, and with that the Anbu disappeared to inform the others of the situation being dealt with and get the injured to treatment now. Jiraiya, Tsunade. Let's get back to the village. It's been a long night today. And I would like some rest. Spoke the old Hokage tiredly and in a dismal voice. They sealed off Minato's and Kushina's body in a body containment seal and slowly walked back to the village with Naruto sleeping peacefully in Tsunade's hands. Chapter 4 Council Meeting. 2 days after the attack. Hanahagakure no Sato had once more survived one of the biggest catastrophes thrown at them. Surviving the attack of two-tailed beasts is not something one can take lightly. Many civilians as well as shinobi had perished due to the monsters which the humans call the Kyuubi and the Sanbi. Several of the clans were hit hard due to the attack. Many shinobi from the Nara clan as well as the Aburam clan had died while confronting the Kyuubi. The Inyazuka clan head Tsume Inyazuka bared great dislike towards the Nine Tails for taking her husband away. Although many felt odd that the shinobi from the Uchiha clan were nowhere to be seen during the confrontation with the two Bijuu on the front line, they did not voice their concerns regarding the matter. The village was not destroyed completely. It's mainly due to their beloved Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, who prevented a Bijuudama to be blasted inside the village perimeters, the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who pushed the Nine Tails outside the village with the help of his monkey summon, and the two Sannin, Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju, who dealt with the three tails. The only parts of the village that were destroyed were the industrial area and the area around the hospital. By this time, the people of the village were informed that their Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, had died during his battle with the Kyuubi and the Sanbi by the Anbu. However, they were not informed that the two beasts were sealed inside of a child, the Yondaime's child in fact. It was a time of grave mourning for everyone in the village. Currently, many of the villagers and shinobi had to camp outside in tents until their homes were rebuilt. The medical staff under Tsunade were constantly treating patients and looking after them in specified tents to save those who had a chance. The village security was on high alert at all times to detect the presence of any foreign shinobi or threats lingering around. Jiraiya had informed Hiruzen and Tsunade that he had to leave the village for a couple of days to contact his spy network to be on the lookout for the masked man and other threats that Konoha might encounter due to its weakness now. Luckily, the Senju compound wasn't destroyed during the attack. Soon after the two Bijuu were sealed inside of Naruto, Tsunade had taken him, as well as Shizune, to her home. The compound was protected by various seals that were put on by her grandmother, Mito Uzumaki. It was a wonder, Tsunade mused, that her seals were still in effect. Currently both Hiruzen and Tsunade were in the living room of the main house of the Senju compound. "So Tsunade, how is Shizune doing?" asked Sarutobi. "She's better than before. Most of her internal and external injuries are healed. I have given her some sedatives to keep her asleep for a while until she recovers her strength to get back on the field," Tsunade said absent-mindedly. "And what about Naruto? Is he okay?" He's okay too. He sleeps most of the time and when he's awake he doesn't cry much now," Tsunade said. Hiruzen noticed that Tsunade seemed to be deep in thought at the moment and a bit troubled for reasons he couldn't comprehend. So, he decided to voice his concerns. "Tsunade-chan, is everything okay? You seem a bit troubled," said Hiruzen, deciding to approach a bit soothingly. "Oh, you could tell, huh? I was just wondering about Naruto. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I will be a good mother. When Minato asked me that time, looking at the situation before us, I couldn't exactly say no and it was spur of a moment decision. So, I wonder if I will be a good mother figure for Naruto." Tsunade sighed a bit and continued telling, I am a mess. I am a heavy drinker, I gamble a lot and I just dread thinking if he will ever accept me as his mother." Hiruzen listened to her student speak intently and understood her situation from her point of view. "Do not worry too much, Tsunade-chan. Minato and Kushina trusted you, hence they decided that you should be the one to raise their child. Now, Naruto is not only their child, but yours too. I'm sure you will do a wonderful job raising him. Also, you won't be alone, remember. Jiraiya, Shizune and I will be there for you every step of the way. Naruto will become the living embodiment of the Minato, Kushina and you, Tsunade-chan. About your habits. I'm sure Naruto will keep you busy enough that you won't get much time for your other less desirable habits," Hiruzen said softly. Tsunade did not say anything for a few seconds as she pondered over what her sensei just told her. It was true, what he said just now. As time passes, hopefully, she can come out of her shell which she created around herself and enjoy life around her more and maybe Naruto could become the reason for that. She knew she loved Naruto. She would treat him like her own child, which he was now. She knew most of her time would pass by looking after her son, and that would keep her busy. My son? Tsunade thought. That thought alone brought a sudden smile and change of mood to her face, which did not go unnoticed by Hiruzen. She looked at Hiruzen and said, "You're right, sensei. I should not dwell in such thoughts anymore. He's my son now and nothing is going to change that. He's Senju Naruto, heir to the Senju clan and son of Senju Tsunade." Tsunade said the last part a little proudly. Hiruzen smiled upon seeing the determination in her eyes. It reminded him of the times when Tsunade was hell-bent on doing something and most of the time it ended up doing it her way. "That's good to hear, Tsunade-chan," said Hiruzen. "So, how are you liking it back in your office, Hokage-sama?" asked Tsunade slyly. Hiruzen caught the mocking tone at the end and growled. It was a well-known fact that none of the cages ever liked to do paperwork. "Oh, don't you dare. The paperwork is endless. I feel the rest of my hair will fall sitting behind that desk and signing those accursed papers." Tsunade had to hold in a laugh upon hearing that. "Anyway, what are you doing here, sensei? Shouldn't you be busy in your work?" "Oh yes, I almost forgot what I came here for. There will be a village gathering at Hokage Tower this evening and I will be making an official announcement regarding Minato and Kushina's death and about my reinstatement as Hokage. There will also be a council meeting tomorrow with the Shinobi and Civilian Council regarding the reconstruction of the village, finances and other matters about the welfare of the village," said Hiruzen seriously. "You must keep the Civilian Council and those three elders at bay, sensei. Minato did a good job in reminding them that it is a shinobi village and it's ruled by the Hokage. My grand-uncle had set several laws regarding the Civilian Council and set them up only for the civilians' welfare. They must be reminded of their position should they try to usurp their power again," said Tsunade. "Yes, Tsunade. I'm aware of that. Do not worry too much about them," Hiruzen said with a sigh. "Well, I think I should be on my way now. Damn paperwork," Hiruzen grumbled. Hiruzen left the Senju compound after seeing Naruto's sleeping form in his baby crib and checking up on Shizune once and headed towards his Hokage office. Later that evening, at the Hokage Tower. The civilians as well as the shinobi had all been notified of the announcement that would be made in the evening by the Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Many had not recovered yet, especially the civilians. Some of the civilians who used to run restaurants had put up stalls for those who were hungry, as this was a time of great need for everyone. The base of the Hokage Tower was currently crowded by the villagers of Konohagakure no Sado. Those who were not in good condition to stand were sitting down, while some were being supported by their fellow villagers shinobi. The major clans of Konoha were also present at this moment, as they were informed this was an important announcement. "I wonder what this announcement is about?" asked a random civilian to another nearby. "I don't know. But I have heard it's regarding the Kyuubi and Sanbi attack a couple of days back," replied the person with clear disdain present in his voice when he spoke the names of those monsters. Several conversations regarding the announcement by the Sandaime were being discussed by both the civilians and shinobi alike. On top of the Hokage Tower, Sarutobi Hiruzen was standing with the three Konoha elders behind him. Sarutobi looked down upon the crowd and saw some of them talking among themselves and smiled a bit. Even though there was a major-scale attack on the village not even 2 days ago, it had not broken the spirits of the people. They were helping each other out and talking to each other instead of drowning in their sorrows. What Hiruzen did not know is that among those very people were some who were festering immense hatred towards the fox and the turtle. The hatred that was developing in their hearts would soon consume them and drive them to do something unimaginable. Sarutobi looked back at his advisors and they indicated that he should start with the announcement. The aged Hokage applied some chakra to his voice and spoke, "Citizens of Konohagakure, it is good to see that people are helping each out in this time of need. A village is not made up of buildings and rules, rather it's made of the people that reside in the village. It is no matter that several buildings were destroyed. We shall recover soon from this catastrophe and get back to our normal lives. I do realize many of us have lost people close to us. But do remember, they did not die in vain. Several who have died have helped some to get to safety, especially the young ones. It is the younger generation that is the future of our village and thus our duty to protect and guide them until they can do the same." The citizens were intently listening to the Sandaime speak and some did find a lot of truth in what he was saying as they looked towards the young and smiled. Many shinobi were thinking of their comrades who helped get the civilians to safety and lost their lives on the front line. Sarutobi now had a somber look on his face as he continued. "Our beloved Yondaime Hokage sacrificed his life to preserve this village today. He battled the two Bijuu, the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, and used an ancient Kinjutsu forbidden jutsu to take the life of the two demons. Kushina Uzumaki, our deceased Hokage's close friend, also assisted him in performing this jutsu, thus she too was killed during the process. Many of the villagers by this time had their head down in remembrance of Minato Namikaze, the greatest Hokage to exist up till now, and Kushina Uzumaki, the Akai Chishio no Habanero. The shinobi who knew Minato and Kushina well, shed some tears too. Sarutobi exhaled a deep sigh and said, as per the Yandame's last wish, I, Sarutobi Herzuin, the Sadame Hokage of Konohagakure no Sado, shall retake the position of Hokage. We will hold a funeral for our deceased Hokage and all those who sacrificed their lives for the future of this village. All the people standing in the crowd nodded and smiled at Sarutobi's words and cheered that he would be retaking the position as the leader of the village. Soon after the announcement was made, Hiruzen saw the people leaving back to their homes and he too turned to leave the office to catch up with his paperwork when a voice stopped him. Sarutobi, don't forget about the council meeting tomorrow. It is important that we get the village running smoothly as soon as possible. The other nations might consider this a good time to show their superiority to us," said Homura. Hiruzen nodded and was about to leave again when another annoying voice stopped him. "What of the Jinchuriki, Sarutobi?" asked Danzo. "It's Hokage-sama to you, Danzo. Do not forget your place. I am still the leader of this village and even though you are an advisor and hold a certain amount of power, it is still beneath me. And no, there is nothing to discuss about him right now. Whatever there is, it shall be told in the council meeting tomorrow in front of all the clan heads," spoke Hiruzen sternly without ever giving a glance to the old warhawk and walked off to his office. Unnoticed by anyone else, Danzo had gripped his cane tightly upon being put down like that. It still infuriated him that Tobirama had picked Hiruzen as Hokage instead of him. No matter. My time shall come. I will continue to protect my Konoha from the shadows. All I must do is play my cards right and wait for the right opportunity, thought Danzo. He looked towards Koharu and Homura and disappeared in a sunshine after giving them a nod. Do you think it's wise, Homura? I mean, to side with Danzo against Sarutobi. Hiruzen may be a pacifist, but our village has still come on top in 2 great shinobi wars with him as leader and he's still among the strongest Kage in the elemental nations. Koharu said after seeing the look on Danzo's face. Both Homura and Koharu knew how infuriated Danzo had become when Hiruzen was given the position of Sandaime Hokage. They were also the only ones in the village who knew the workings of the root Anbu who worked under Danzo's command. Both knew they had become old and were not much of use in the battlefield but could still prepare the young to do their duty properly, that is the protection of their homeland. We have become old, Koharu. It is true some of our ideals do not match that with Hiruzen's, but yes, you are right. Sometimes it's hard to look at Danzo the same way I used to look at him earlier. He was different when we were all under the guidance of Tobirama-sensei. Our village is built on the foundation of the will of fire. I do not want to change that. We old people are not the ones who should stand out among everyone. It is the job of the younger generation," Homura said, looking straight down at the village, his home. "So, what should we do? We know what Danzo does is not ethical. But he is still useful to the village." Homura thought for a few moments and said, "We'll keep an eye on him. He trusts us, as of now. So, it will be much easier for us to keep him in check and if he ever endangers our village, he will have to be put down. We'll discuss this later with Hiruzen in private." Both then headed back to their place after their discussion. It was night time and the village hidden in the leaves. Most of the people by this time were asleep in their tents while some of the shinobi were patrolling on the outskirts of the village to keep a lookout for any enemy ninja or other threats. While the village was deep in sleep, Hiruzen was cursing to himself, sitting at his desk in the office for retaking the position. Not even a few days since he retook the job and his desk was already flooded with so much damn paperwork. HHH. Will these nuisances ever end? How did Minato ever do it? Shouted the Sandaime as he looked towards Minato's picture on the wall beside the Hokage office door. Said wall also hoisted the picture frames of Shadai, Nidaime and Sandaime Hokage. Sarutobi while muttering curses got back to signing the papers again as he realized just shouting will not help his case in any way. There were several useless requests made by the civilians which he denied and made the Hokage wonder if there was anything useful among these piles of papers. While Sarutobi was busy doing his work, he soon felt a presence in his room and knew exactly who it was. "You can come out now, Jiraiya," Sarutobi said calmly. "Oh, I could never hide from you, sensei. If it was anyone other than you, I wouldn't be sensed at all," Jiraiya said. "So, what have you found, Jiraiya? Anything worthwhile?" asked Hiruzen. "I couldn't find much on the masked man, sensei. I don't know how it's possible, but it's like he just disappeared into thin air. Although, I did come across an upcoming group of mercenaries. One of my informants in Tsuchi no Kuni informed me of a group made up of missing nin. They take up missions which are near impossible and their success rate is 100% up till now. And the surprising thing is, all these missing nin in the group are S-rank criminals," said Jiraiya. Now, Hiruzen Sarutobi is among the smartest people in the elemental nations. It was his ability to discern a situation with little information and his battle prowess that gave him the title of Shinobi no Kami. So, there aren't many things that could surprise him. But hearing about a mercenary group made of only S-rank criminals did catch his attention. That would also mean that there was someone powerful enough to subdue several cage-level shinobi as their leader. That is indeed alarming, Jiraiya. A shinobi who can defeat several S-rank criminals and keep them in order is not something to laugh at. Do you know what their purpose is? I doubt someone would willingly gather several such missing nin with no purpose to guide them with, said an alarmed Hokage. Well, that's the thing. The group is extremely secretive. I don't know anything else about them. Do keep an eye on them, Jiraiya. They sound of trouble. As of this moment, Konoha is weak and we need to work hard to make the village stand properly in the eyes of our enemies. Hiruzen said slowly. Jiraiya knew his sensei was tired. This job of being Hokage was a hard one indeed. It demanded a lot of sacrifice and made you question your morals sometimes. But to keep the village prospering, it was necessary to be tactful and be ready to sacrifice yourself. That's what it meant to be Hokage. You must sacrifice the most, so the people of the village that follow you will have an easy road ahead of them. Jiraiya thought for a while whether he should tell Sensei about the prophecy and Naruto, but decided he could wait on that for a while. He felt Naruto is too young right now and should be given the chance to enjoy his life as much as he can. He looked at his sensei once again and said, "Well, Sarutobi-sensei, I guess I will take my leave now. I will stay in the village more often now, since Naruto and Tsunade will be here. I will be staying with Tsunade in the Senju compound." "Yes, that's good actually. Naruto will need both of you while growing up. Also, with two of the Sannin in Konoha, I doubt anyone would try to attack the village," said the Hokage. Jiraiya and Hiruzen exchanged their goodbyes and the Toad Sannin left through the same window he had come in while masking his presence. Jiraiya started jumping from roof to roof at a slow pace and made his way towards the Senju compound. Meanwhile in the Senju compound, Shizune was in the living room sitting on the table with a cup of tea in front of her. She had woken up a few hours earlier and was now feeling completely better. She was informed of the events that took place after she fell unconscious. She was extremely sad after hearing of Minato, Kushina and Rin's death. She may not have known them very well, but they were still good people in her books. She felt even more horrible after hearing of Naruto's fate. Being made into the Jinchuriki of not only the Sanbi, but the Kyuubi as well and losing both his parents on the day of his birth was not something she would wish on anyone. Although even among so many grim news, she was glad and shocked to hear the last thing her master had told her. The fact that her master, Tsunade Senju, agreed to adopt Naruto and raise him as her own son was surprising to her. She did not think the Senju woman would be capable to commit to someone in such a way after the death of her deceased lover, Dan Kato, and her little brother, Nawaki Senju. Tsunade was sitting on the sofa in the living room with little Naruto in her hands. He was one of the most beautiful and cutest things in her opinion. She sat in an Indian position with both legs crossed and Naruto cradled safely in her arms. Naruto, meanwhile, was sleeping peacefully. After Hiruzen had visited Tsunade, Naruto had woken up a while later and surprisingly, he did not cry. She expected the child to cry considering most babies of his age do when they wake up from a nap. Although she did notice he felt uncomfortable when she was away from him. Tsunade felt extremely happy that her son felt such an attachment to her already. He would always have a wide smile on his face and giggle when he is in her arms awake. She had spent most of the time today sitting at the koi pond in the Senju compound with little Naruto in her arms. As she was lost in her thoughts, she felt a slight movement in her arms and looked down to see those curious violet eyes looking at her. She immediately got rid of her thoughts and smiled and said, "Oh, my little Naru-chan is awake. Did you have a good nap?" asked Tsunade in a very motherly tone. Naruto just stared at her and smiled once again while moving his tiny hands in air up and down. Tsunade, seeing his happy face, seemed to take that as a yes and leaned down to kiss him on his forehead. Shizune, who was sitting on the side, smiled upon seeing the interaction between Naruto and Tsunade. "I am really glad for you, Tsunade-sama. Now, you can put down the wall that you grew in your heart and be happy again. I am sure you will be a wonderful mother to Naruto," she thought. Unknown to the two women, a person had just entered the room from the open window in the living room and immediately had a massive nosebleed upon seeing the situation in front of him. What he saw was the massive cleavage of Tsunade while she was leaning down to kiss Naruto on his forehead. Both Tsunade and Shizune got into defensive stances upon hearing the intruder. When they saw who it was, Tsunade had a scowl on her face and said out of all the people, it had be him. "Damn that pervert." Shizune approached Jiraiya and tried to wake him up as he had a perverted grin on his face. Naruto during all this time just kept staring at the strange man who entered and was now lying on the floor. After around 20 minutes or so, when everything was settled down, Jiraiya, Shizune and Tsunade with Naruto in her arms were sitting on the sofa. "So, what are you doing here, Jiraiya?" asked an irritated Tsunade after she fixed her clothes. "And a man come to visit his godson, huh? I just came back to the village a while back after contacting my spy network. So, I thought I should see little Naruto and you." "Yeah, right. All you want to see is perverted stuff," mumbled Tsunade. Jiraiya just scoffed and looked at Shizune and said, "How are you now, Shizune? Feeling better now?" "Yes. Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Tsunade-sama treated all of my injuries and I'm fine now," said Shizune. "Tsunade, I will be staying in the village a lot more now. I want to be there for Naruto while he grows up. It's still hard to believe Minato and Kushina are gone, but their legacy, and now your son, Naruto is still here. So, I want to be there by his side," Jiraiya said in a soft tone looking at Naruto, who too was staring at Jiraiya. Tsunade felt a bit down thinking about Minato and Kushina, but she knew it was no use thinking of what has already happened. She then looked down at Naruto and saw him staring at Jiraiya and smiling a bit. "I guess, it will be okay. Naru-chan will need a male figure in his life," thought Tsunade. "God, if you ever try anything perverted and do something inappropriate around him, Jiraiya, I swear, you won't be a man anymore after that," threatened Tsunade. Jiraiya just gulped and nodded his head listening to Tsunade, while Shizune was covering her mouth trying not to laugh at that. Tsunade could be scary when wants to be. For the next few hours, Tsunade and Jiraiya chatted with each other while Naruto was being held by Jiraiya. Shizune went to the kitchen to prepare dinner for everyone. After the dinner was made, Tsunade put Naruto back in his baby crib as he showed signs of falling asleep. The three adults then had their dinner in a tranquil way where Tsunade, Shizune and Jiraiya were talking about Naruto and how he would grow up. The next day, Jiraiya and Tsunade were both currently in the Hokage's office sitting on a futon. Naruto was currently all wrapped up in a forest green blanket and awake in his mother's arms. He would often yawn and close his eyes for a while and at times look around the office with his wide innocent eyes. Sarutobi was standing near the window looking down at his village and puffing at his pipe. "So, Sarutobi-sensei, when does the meeting start and why did you wish to talk to us before it?" asked Tsunade. "Tsunade, during the council meeting, many topics will be brought forth. Reconstruction of the village, finance situation, shinobi duties during this time, and the attack on the village," spoke Hiruzen. "Yes, you told me, sensei. What about it? Obviously, you didn't just want to speak with me and Jiraiya for those matters privately." "I know. What I mean about the attack on the village is of the fate of the two Biju. Some of the people are not so ignorant as to believe that a mere human could kill a Biju. I am certain that Danzo will bring up that topic, seeing as how he approached me yesterday regarding the Jinchuriki," said Hiruzen calmly. "What? But how does he know? He was not even on the battlefield. And I'm pretty sure none of us would just go to him and tell him about the Kyuubi," Tsunade said worriedly. "Don't worry. I put down any discussion he could have brought right there. We have to reveal Naruto's heritage to the Shinobi Council and also the fact that he's now your adopted son as per Minato's last wish, which he also stated in a letter," Sarutobi said, taking out a letter out of his desk. He then handed the letter to Jiraiya and Tsunade, who then went over the letter once each. Minato was always a smart person. Even during battle, he remembered to make sure Naruto will have a good life, said Jiraiya. Both Tsunade and Sarutobi nodded their head at that, remembering some of the instances when both were appalled by the sheer brilliance and kind nature which was exuded by Minato. "Tsunade, I must warn you, you may not like some of the things Danzo might say during the council meeting or some of the reasons he may bring forward to be handed custody of Naruto, so please refrain yourself from destroying anything," Hiruzen spoke looking at the slug Sannin. "I will try, sensei. Can't make any promises. Naruto is my son now. If someone tries to do any harm to him, they will meet fists sooner or later." The tone in which Tsunade said that made both Jiraiya and Sarutobi flinch a bit. "I hope everything goes well. You can be scary when you want to be," Tsunade-chan Hiruzen thought. While Tsunade, Jiraiya and Sarutobi were discussing their matters, there was a knock on the office door, followed by an enter from Sarutobi. A few seconds later, a woman in her mid-20s with short brown hair entered the office. This was Mitsuki, the secretary of the third Hokage. She walked inside and saw Tsunade and Jiraiya standing there with Hiruzen. Her eyes then fell on the small blonde-haired baby that was Naruto sleeping in Tsunade's arms. She wondered who the baby was and then realized she spaced out for a few seconds. She turned to face her Hokage and spoke, "Hokage-sama, the council is ready for the meeting. All the clan heads and the members from the civilian council have gathered in the council chambers, along with the three elders. Thank you for your assistance, Mitsuki-san. We will be there shortly. You may go back now," Hiruzen acknowledged. Mitsuki bowed once and left the office to get back to her desk to continue her work. Sarutobi, Jiraiya and Tsunade along with Naruto too left the office towards the council chambers. Council chambers. The council chamber was currently in a bustle of activity as they waited for the last 3 members to come in for the meeting. There was an air of tension in the room which was evident on the faces of all the council members. Most of the clans as well as the members from the civilian council had lost someone close to them during the attack 3 days earlier. Many of the civilian council members were eagerly awaiting this, having made plans earlier to reacquire power once again. The elders were also another group that were present in the chambers. Danzo was standing with a stoic mask on his face and holding a cane in his left hand. Hamura and Kaharu were standing beside him, waiting to see what Sarutobi would do during this meeting. It was about 10 minutes later that the door to the council chambers opened and in walked Hiruzen Sarutobi, donning in his white and red Hokage robes, followed by Jiraiya, Tsunade and Naruto, who was still asleep in his mother's arms. The Hokage sat down at his seat which was at the head of the table. At the opposite end of the table were the 3 elders. On Sarutobi's left side were the civilian council members and on his right were the shinobi council members' clan heads. There was an empty seat near the Hokages on the shinobi council side, which was taken by Tsunade and Naruto. Next to her was the head of the Hyuga clan, Hiashi Hyuga, who just looked at her and nodded. She did notice he was particularly looking at Naruto, and his eyes did widen a little, although he kept quiet. Next to him was the Uchiha clan head, Fugaku Uchiha, who did not spare her a glance, followed by Aburam Shibi, head of the Aburam clan head, Tsume Inyazuka, head of the Inyazuka clan, Nara Shikaku, Jonin commander and head of the Nara clan, Inoichi Yamanaka, head of the Yamanaka clan, and the last one on the shinobi council was Choza Akimichi, head of the Akimichi clan. On the civilian council members' side, there were various wealthy merchants and veteran shinobi who are now civilians due to an abrupt halt in their ninja careers because of their injuries. They also included some of the most important civilians of the village that ran most shops, provided food, clothes and other materials and services for the shinobi use. Sarutobi, seeing that everyone was just quiet for a while, cleared his throat to gain everyone's attention. The council is in session now. Amura took a few steps towards the table and spoke, as we all know few days ago, our village was attacked by 2 Biju, the 9 Tails and the 3 Tails, which destroyed some parts of our village. We were lucky that our Yondaime Hokage, along with Kishina Uzumaki, Sandaime Sama, Jiraiya and Tsunade, could deal with them effectively, thus decreasing the damage the 2 beasts might have caused. As it stands, I doubt we could call Konohagakure no Sato the strongest village among the elemental nations anymore. Our village morale is down now, and we must act immediately towards those matters concerning our village as soon as possible. He paused for a while and saw that everyone on the shinobi side seemed to agree with him and along with those on the civilian side. Now Nara Shikaku, briefly tell us the damage that was sustained by the village and the number of casualties for both the shinobi and civilians. He said looking at Shikaku. Troublesome. Why must it be me? Shikaku muttered. He then looked at Sarutobi and spoke, Hokage-sama, due to the prior information of the attack, which was given to all the clan heads in the Anbu, most of the civilians were taken to the emergency safe zones behind the Hokage monument. Although there were some unfortunate ones who were not able to get away in time. As of now, per my report, between 200 to 300 civilians lost their lives, mainly those who were still inside their homes during evacuation. Their corpses have been recovered and have been taken to the morgue. Now, in case of the shinobi, I would say around 40% of our ninja forces were killed during the attack. These include shinobi from the Nara clan, Aburam clan, Akimichi clan, Inyazuka clan and the Sarutobi clan. Most of these shinobi who were killed were on the front line battling the 9 Tails and the 3 Tails. Said Shikaku in a serious tone. Hokage nodded his head, listening to his Jonin commander's report and said, thank you Shikaku. We must increase the border patrol even more for the next few months and keep an eye on the other villagers in case they try to do something. Also, for the next few years, the number of the missions handled by our village will increase to increase the revenue of the village. I know many of you have lost someone close to you over here and may need some time to grieve, but it's a critical time right now. As Elder Hamura said, we are vulnerable right and our morale is down. The more missions we take, with the quality of our shinobi the mission success rate will be good, which in turn will increase our standing in the eyes of the villages and make them hesitant to do something against us. But we must work hard together at this point, as this village was built on the foundation of the will of fire and teamwork. I believe in this village and together, we will be able to recover from this situation in given time. Said the 3rd Hokage looking at everyone. Many in the council chambers felt their spirits rejuvenated upon hearing their Hokage's words. Danzo, who was standing on the side, quiet up to this point, was the only one who felt what Sarutobi said was naive. It's time to increase our military strength and show other villages what we can do Sarutobi. Your pacifist ideals are not going to take us anywhere. He thought. Hokage-sama? Asked the Uchiha clan head. Sarutobi looked at Fugaku and urged him to continue. What happened to the 2 Bijuus? Could you go into the details about how Yondaime Hokage was able to kill the Kyuubi and the Sanbi? Herzu tensed a bit and looked at Jiraiya and Swan upon hearing Fugaku ask that. He also noticed the way he asked how Minato killed the two Bijuus, as if taunting his abilities. I would ask the civilian council to leave now, as what I'm about to say it doesn't concern you anymore. Sarutobi said sternly. What? We are part of this council. And we have every right to be here. You can't just kick us out. Shouted one of the civilian merchants. There were several similar statements given by the other members of the civilian council. Silence. Might I remind you that you are only here for the welfare of the civilians and not concerning shinobi matters. As per Konoha law states, I, the Hokage, have every right to excuse you from the council chambers right now. The civilian council has no power during times of emergency which puts the village in danger. Sarutobi said, looking directly into the eyes of the member who first voiced his statement while also releasing a subtle amount of killing intent. Those who were shouting earlier were now brought back to reality when the killing intent seemed to hit their senses and immediately made them shut their mouths. Whatever requests you may have can be sent to me in a written form and I will go over them and decide if it's acceptable. I realize many of your businesses are hampered due to the attack and you all shall be given a certain amount of money to get your business back on track. Hiruzen spoke again to calm their nerves slightly. He then ordered the Anbu present outside the council chambers to escort the civilian members outside the room. Smart move, Hiruzen. I see what you're doing about not talking about the Jinchuriki in front of the civilians. No matter. They shall know soon. Danzo thought, who was keeping quiet, standing beside the other two elders of the village. All the clan heads, Jiraiya and Tsunade, were impressed with how Sarutobi had handled the civilians. None of them ever did like those power-hungry fools. Hiruzen then motioned for Jiraiya to come and state the matter at hand regarding the two Bijuu, who was standing behind Tsunade, near the wall. Jiraiya stepped up in front of all the clan heads and looked at everyone as if trying to read their minds. He then started speaking. First of all, the Bijuus are beasts entirely made of chakra. It is impossible for any human to kill them. Chakra cannot be killed. It can only be absorbed or be sealed. At this point, many of the clan heads were looking at each other and thinking the same thing, so it's true, the Kyuubi and the Sanbi are not dead. Jiraiya saw the look of fear on many of their faces and explained further, my student, Minato Namikaze did the next best thing he could to ensure the survival of this village. He sealed the two beasts into a child. There were many gasps heard among the clan heads, not because a Jinchuriki was made, but because two Bijuu were sealed inside a single person. Jiraiya-sama. How is this possible? Two Bijuu inside one person. I have never heard of such a thing. And who is this child you are talking about? Asked Sum. Minato sealed the two Bijuu inside his own child. Jiraiya said. And that was the statement that brought chaos within the chamber walls. What the hell? His child? When did he have a kid? Forget that, when did he even marry? Why weren't we informed? Asked Fugaku. This question was in the minds of several other clan heads. Jiraiya just motioned towards the baby which Tsunade was holding, and now that everyone got a good look at him, they could see the resemblance between their late Yondaime and Naruto. His name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. It was Tsunade who said it. Uzumaki? You don't mean her, do you? Asked Shikaku. Tsunade just smirked and said, yes, Shikaku. It's her child too. Minato and Kushina married during the war in secret. Minato wanted to keep it a secret until the war was over and until Naruto was born. He had many enemies and he didn't want to risk Kushina's safety during the war, even though she was powerful on her own. The clan heads had mixed reaction concerning the matter at their hand. On one hand, this was the Yondaime Hokage's child, who is practically royalty in the village, and on the other hand, is that two monsters were sealed inside him who took the lives of many a friend and family. It was Tsum who spoke now, I won't lie. I am a bit apprehensive towards the pup. My husband was killed by the Nine Tails after all. But I know it's not his fault for the situation he is in right now. Just tell me, are you sure the seal which contains the two beasts is safe? Is there any danger of the two Bijuus getting out? The Uchiha clan head decided to just stay quiet at this point. He knew what many of the shinobi thought of the Uchiha. Since they were not present on the battlefield during the attack, many suspected that it the Uchiha clan's fault for the presence of the Kyuubi and the Sanbi. It was no secret to anyone that the Sharingan can subdue the Bijuu. No. Minato used an ancient kenjutsu called the Haki no Fuin Shiki to seal the two Bijuu inside Naruto here. His Uzumaki genes give him fast regeneration and extremely potent chakra. This kenjutsu summons the Shinigami who seals the desired object in a host at the cost of the jutsu's caster's life. So basically, the seal is powered by the Shinigami. Also, another thing about this seal is that it slowly drains the chakra of the beasts and pours it into the natural chakra reservoir of the person, in turn making their chakra capacity increase and increasing the potency of their chakra. Lastly, there is no way for the two Biju to escape their prison. The two Biju are now bound to Naruto's soul, which means, if Naruto dies, the two Biju will also die, that is, that their souls would be taken by the Shinigami. So, do not worry about them getting out. Naruto also is not going to be affected by their presence. Explained the Toad Sannin in detail. The explanation seemed to calm the nerves of several clan heads who now looked relieved. Danzo, who was quiet up till now, spoke. Hokage-sama, I request a boy be given to me for training when he's of right age. He is a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice. He needs to be molded into the perfect weapon for this village. Under my training, he will prosper much, and with the might of the 9 tails and 3 tails at our disposal, other villages will definitely cower before us. Tsunade, who became enraged upon hearing this, was about to yell at him when she saw Sarutobi raise his hand. That will not be required, Danzo. I have a letter signed by Minato, which asks Tsunade to raise Naruto as her own child, and my student has already agreed to raise Naruto. As for training, I believe Tsunade and Jiraiya will be adequate for him as he grows up. We do not need a weapon, Danzo. We need a loyal shinobi who cares for this village. One who fights and protects this village till his or her last breath. Said the Hokage firmly. He's right, Danzo. Your training methods will do nothing but kill the boy's emotion. He's a child, and even now he's protecting the village by keeping the two beasts sealed. The child should be hailed as a hero. Surprisingly, it was Hiashi who voiced his thoughts in front of everyone. He looked at Tsunade and said, Tsunade-sama, Minato and Kushina were good friends of mine in Hitomi. And I have no doubt in his sealing prowess. It makes me sad that he won't be there to raise his child with Kushina, but I'm also glad you are offering to raise Naruto as your own son. The Hyuga clan shall offer you any assistance you may require. I must concur with Hiashi-sama. Naruto is only a child. It is more important for him to have a normal childhood and come to love this village on his own terms. The more people he associates with, the more friends he may make, and thus he will be forming roots in this village. That will only increase his love towards Konohagakure. The Nara clan will also provide help when required to Naruto and Swan-sama. One by one, most of the clan heads agreed with Hiashi and decided it was best for Naruto to have a normal childhood and come to love the village with his own views. Eventually even Homura and Koharu agreed with this decision. Tsunade was glad. Mere moments ago, Danzo was planning to take her child away. Like I will let him. That old bone must go through me first. She thought, and now nearly all the clan heads were in support of Naruto being raised by her. The only one who didn't say anything was Fugaku. He didn't like the fact that a new Senju heir was coming in the village. His clan's status was drastically decreasing within the village, and so was their power. I will think of something when the situation is unavoidable. He thought at the end. This is outrageous. He is nothing but weapon. Kami has gifted us with a boy with immense untapped potential. If I train the boy, we can be on top against all the other 4 great nations. Shouted Danzo. My decision is final, Danzo, and watch your tone when you're speaking to your Hokage. I shall not remind you again. Naruto will now be known as Senju Naruto, since Tsunade will be adopting him into the Senju clan. When the time is right, he will be told of his birth parents and the burden he bears. Until then, I make it a S-class secret. No one is to talk about Naruto's heritage outside these chambers or discuss about his burden to anyone else without his permission. Hiruzen said in a dead serious tone. Damn you, Sarutobi. It doesn't matter. Soon things will go my way. Let's see how the civilians handle the news of the Jinchuriki. He will be my weapon sooner or later. Thought an enraged Danzo. Now setting that aside, we will require some new treaties with other villages soon. Sunagakure is an option. They are the closest to our village and were mostly neutral towards us during the last war. Let's wait a few years and then we'll approach them. He paused and looked at the reports in his hands which Shikaku had given him earlier in the meeting and said, the hospital and the industrial parts of the village were affected the most as per the reports. The Akimichi clan could provide the manpower required for moving heavy objects, along with the Nara and Aburam clan. The finances will be arranged soon. I will have a talk with the fire daimyo soon to ask for his assistance in the matter. The other occupants of the council seemed to agree with their roles, and the Akimichi, Nara and Aburam clan were glad to help in the reconstruction of the village in any way they could. The rest of the meeting went without a hitch, and soon all the clan heads and the elders had taken their leave to their respective places. Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Naruto went back to the Hokage's office after the council meeting was over. Well, that went well. It's good most of the clans consider Naruto to be a normal kid. Said Jiraiya looking at Naruto, who awoke earlier due to the commotion in the council chambers. Yes. I am happy about that. At least my Naru-chan can have a peaceful life inside the village now and can make friends with other kids of his age. Tsunade said. Won't you, my little Naru-chan? You are going to make a lot friends and play with them, huh? she said to Naruto, wriggling his little nose, which seemed to make Naruto really happy and made him giggle a bit looking at his mother. Well, it is nice to hear the prospect of Naruto having a good life ahead. But we will still have to train him properly when he's of age, Tsunade, Jiraiya. Because of the burden he carries, he won't have an easy life outside the village. We can only make sure to keep him safe properly inside the walls of Konohagakure no Sado. Hiruzen said. Don't worry, Sarutobi-sensei. I will look after his training personally, and I know Jiraiya will help too when we start with Naruto. Tsunade said with a smile. You bet I will. He's my godson after all. I will make him into a fine shinobi and other things too. Jiraiya said with a perverted grin at the end, which earned him a chakra-powered punch to his face. Sarutobi just sighed seeing his student's antics. He then looked at Naruto, who was looking at the big hole created by Jiraiya when he was thrown outside by Tsunade's punch, and thought, Senju Naruto, I can't wait to see how your story unfolds in the future. Chapter 5 Meeting of Two Brothers. Time skipped 3 years and 7 months. Boy. Get back here and eat your vegetables. Mock shouted Tsunade as she ran after an almost 4-year blonde boy. The boy had spiky blonde hair and jaw-length bangs on each side, and some of his hair covered his forehead. He wore a white t-shirt with Senju clan symbol on the back of his shirt and black shorts. He had green slippers on, which surprisingly had several toad pictures imprinted on them. This boy was indeed Senju Naruto. He was now 3 years and 7 months of age. Hahaha. Ka-chan. Ka-chan, you're not going to get me to eat those vegetables. I don't like them at all. Playfully said Naruto while sticking his tongue out to his mother and once again running off to the gardens at the back of the house. The gardens behind the main house of the Senju compound was a scene to behold. There were trees, bushes, lush green grass and beautiful flowers as far as one could see. There was one tree in the middle which was the largest among all and provided good shade for someone sitting under it. There was also a koi pond at the side of that large tree where several ducks swam. The special character about these trees, grass and bushes in the garden was that they contained Hashirama Senju's chakra, as they were in fact grown by him. While the pond in the garden was Tobirama Senju's doing, which he made by gathering the moisture in the air particles. The Nidame's control over Suiton-natured chakra was considered an epitome even among the shinobi of Kurigakure no Sado, who excelled in Suiton ninjutsu. Naruto ran as fast as his little legs could take him and went under the shade of the largest tree in the garden and sat down. He put his back on the tree and spread his legs on the soft grass in a carefree manner. He put his hands behind his head for support and closed his eyes to enjoy the calm breeze that was blowing. He instantly felt at ease and calm. He couldn't explain it why, but sitting in a garden, forest or in general nature itself made him feel a sense of serenity. It was as if the nature was beckoning him to come to it. He opened his eyes and looked towards the sky. It was a cloudy day today, with a slight tint of orange to it. He could barely see the sun. Ah. I like it here, Naruto thought to himself, as a content smile formed on his face, and he closed his eyes again. Unknown to Naruto, Tsunade, who was standing nearby without alerting Naruto of her presence, saw the content smile on her son's face and how he seemed to enjoy nature so much. It eerily reminded her of her grandfather, Hashirama Senju, but thought nothing much of it. She slowly approached Naruto from behind the tree and went in front to stand in front of Naruto. She bent down and casually poked Naruto on the forehead. Ow ow. Ka-chan. Whined Naruto. Hearing Naruto call her Ka-chan still warmed her heart. She looked at him smiling and said, Naru-chan. Come on. You know, you have to eat healthy food to grow up strong. Said Swand. But I don't want to. I don't like them and I like just lying down here on the grass. It's peaceful. He said the last part with a soft whisper. You know, I thought I would take you outside to play at the playground with other children your age, had you eaten your vegetables. But seeing the situation now, I guess I will have to go alone with Shizune. Tsunade said with, smirking in her mind. Hearing that made Naruto perk up a bit. Really? You were really thinking to take me to the park to meet other children? He asked with an innocent voice. Yes son, I did. I even thought of getting you an ice cream cone after that. She said with a straight face. Naruto eyed his mother with a hard a gaze a 3-year-old could make. Tsunade instantly wanted to hug her blonde boy to death upon seeing his cute face, but held her straight face. After what seemed like eternity, Naruto nodded to his mother. She picked him up in her arms and he happily put his head in the crook of her neck and sighed contently. Tsunade always liked how Naruto felt peaceful and happy whenever she was close to him. The mother and son duo then went inside their haven to the dining table and sat down. Somewhat glaring at the vegetables, Naruto picked up his spoon and started gulping down the vegetables on his plate as fast as he could. As Naruto was eating his food, Tsunade looked at her son again and thought about how 4 years almost passed and how much her life had changed in those years. Flashback. Tsunade was sitting at the porch at the back of her house. Jiraiya was standing beside her looking at a small blonde boy who too was looking at them. Naruto, at this point, was almost a year old. He couldn't speak properly yet. Most of the time, it was baby language which Tsunade and Shizune for some reason seemed to understand, while Jiraiya couldn't make heads or tails of it. "Wah wah wah," Naruto said with a chirpy expression on his face looking at his mother, who was sitting a few distances away. "Neri-chan. Come over here. Come on. Come to Ka-chan," Tsunade said with a hopeful expression on her face as she opened her arms to urge Naruto to come to her. Oh, how she wished Naruto would call her Ka-chan. Naruto smiled again widely when he saw his mother speak to him. He then started crawling towards her so he could sit on his mother's lap. Tsunade then immediately put her arms down. Naruto, seeing that, sat down confused and tilted his head to the side cutely as Tsunade resisted with all her heart to not hug the boy to death. She opened her arms again and he smiled as he again started crawling to her and she again put her arms down. She giggled a bit as she saw Naruto puffing his cheeks, making him look all the more adorable in the eyes of both Tsunade and Jiraiya. Jiraiya just stood to the side and watched the mother and son pair having a good time. He saw Tsunade teasing Naruto a bit and laughed as he saw Naruto puffing his cheeks. Jiraiya saw that Naruto never cried, no matter how much Tsunade teased him, and the most Naruto would ever do was puff his cheeks. Tsunade opened her arms again and saw Naruto put his hands to the ground and stood up with shaking legs as he took a step towards her and her eyes widened. Jiraiya gasped as he too went closer to Tsunade to watch Naruto take his first steps. Tsunade's face had a big smile on her now as she saw her baby son take his first few steps. She saw him look at her with those ever-curious eyes and urged him more to come to her. "Come on Naru-chan, just a bit more. Come to Ka-chan," she said in a motherly tone. Naruto took few more steps and she saw him stumble a bit. She immediately ran to him and grabbed him in her arms before he could fall and hurt himself. She saw him gazing at her. Then, he put his little hand on her left cheek and kissed her sloppily, making her giggle. She pinched his nose slightly, making his face scrunch a bit, and she embraced him even more tightly. Naruto was only glad that he was in his mother's arms and tried to put his tiny hands around his mother's neck and put his head at the crook of her neck. "Oh, Naru, you walked so much just because of me. I love you so much Naru-chan," she whispered and he snuggled in her arms, making her smile. She gazed into his violet eyes that always mesmerized her and kissed him on the nose, making him giggle. "You're Ka-chan's little boy, aren't you Naru-chan?" She cooed and kissed him again, making him giggle. Tsunade then started to tickle the boy, making him laugh even more. Flashback end. Tsunade smiled fondly as she remembered her son's first steps and how happy she felt at that time. She too had changed a lot in the past few years. She had toned down on her drinking and gambling habits a lot as most of her time now went spending with Naruto. In her free time, when Shizune or Jiraiya were looking after Naruto, she had gotten back to her medical studies. She found it refreshing to get back to the medical field after so long. One of the few techniques which she invented during these 4 years was the Uedo no Shingu no Jutsu wet nursing jutsu. This technique was meant for nurses who wanted to breastfeed newborn children who were orphans. Tsunade used this jutsu to breastfeed Naruto when he was younger and required mother's milk as his nourishment. The level of chakra control required for this technique was extremely high and thus it was considered as a breakthrough in the medical field. Several medic ninjas from other shinobi villages had traveled to Konoha to learn this jutsu. Tsunade obviously had charged them for it, never giving up the chance to make easy money. Tsunade was brought out her musings as she felt a tug on her kimono and looked down to see Naruto staring at her. "Ha-chan. I finished eating the vegetables. Can we go to playground now?" Naruto asked happily. "Yes, Naru-chan. Come on, wash your mouth now quickly and we'll go outside to the playground," Tsunade said, getting up from her seat to put on her sandals. Naruto quickly went to the washroom and cleaned himself and came out to the front door to see his mother waiting for him. As soon as he was about to step out the house, Tsunade saw her son stiffen and halt his steps. She noticed he had a downcast expression and wondered what he was so worried about, although she had a nagging feeling it wouldn't be anything good. Tsunade kneeled on the ground in front of her son and lifted his chin to meet his gaze and in a motherly voice she said, "What's wrong Naru-chan? Do you not want to go outside? Other kids will also be coming, you know. What if the other children don't want to play with me?" Naruto sniffled a bit saying that. "What if they say bad things too about me?" he said looking down again. Tsunade felt immense sadness and anger upon hearing her 3-year-old son say that. Somehow, the news that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and the Sanbi had spread like wildfire throughout the entire village. While none of the civilians and even some shinobi dared not say anything while she was out with Naruto, she knew as soon as her back was turned to them, they start cursing Naruto's existence. Some even went as far to call him terms like monster or demon in front of her. The culprits obviously paid the price of being dragged by Anbu to interrogation and torture department and then thrown to prison. But that did not stop the people from whispering. In time, even Naruto seemed to notice the harsh glares and shrill treatment towards himself. She often found him just lying in his bed silently staring at the ceiling, a lone tear often escaping his eyes. She felt anger towards the unjust treatment the village showed towards Naruto, or a 3-year-old child in fact. Tsunade engulfed Naruto in a hug and just held him close to her for a few minutes while stroking his hair and whispering soothing things to him. Naruto calmed down a bit and put his arms around his mother and laid his head on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Naru-chan. None of them are going to say anything. Plus, most of the kids in the playground will be clan heirs just like you. And knowing the clans, I am sure the children will love to play with you," Tsunade whispered slowly. Naruto nodded listening to what his mother said but still had his downcast look. Tsunade, seeing that, started tickling him in his belly and under his arms, which got the desired result. Naruto started laughing loudly and fell on the ground on his butt clutching his stomach. Tsunade giggled seeing Naruto give her a glare. She too sat down and motioned for him to come to her. Naruto got up from his position and then went to sit on his mother's lap. "Naruto, I want you to promise me something today, okay? Our clan, the Senju, it is a shinobi family and life of a shinobi is never easy and is filled with obstacles and enemies. I won't force you to become a shinobi, but if you do want to become one, promise me that you will not sulk down like this. That whatever comes in your way, you will always keep that happy attitude of yours and never give up no matter what. Can you promise me that, Naru-chan?" she said sweetly looking straight into Naruto's eyes. Naruto's eyes widened a bit upon hearing that and he gazed at his mother with a determined look in his eyes. He got up from his mother's lap and stood before her. He then made a fist with his left hand, pointing the thumb towards himself grinning and said, "Of course, I will become a shinobi. Just you wait and see, I will make you proud, Ka-chan. I will become the best shinobi in our village, that way no one will say bad things about me. I won't get sad either from now. The name Senju Naruto will be known by everyone. I promise." It sounded a bit childish to Tsunade, hearing such a proclamation from Naruto, but she was glad he was not feeling bitter now like earlier, and that smile on his face radiated such joy. It made her heart melt. "Come on now, Naru-chan. Let's go to the park, okay?" Tsunade said. Hi, Ka-chan," happily chirped Naruto as he held on to his mother's hands as they walked out of the Senju compound towards the park. The lot had changed in Konohagakure no Sado. The village had recovered well within the span of last few years. The buildings had been reconstructed and those who had lost their business during the attack and got back to it with the ample amount of money they were given by their leader. The shinobi worked hard during the mission which kept their visage outside the village still strong. Also, the fact that the village now had 2 of the Densetsu no Sannin in the village kept their standing strong among the great 5 nations of the elemental nations. A few months after Naruto was born, the news that the Senju heir is the Jinchuriki of the monsters that attacked their village spread to almost every shinobi and civilian in the village. At first, the people found it hard to digest that heir of such a noble clan could be a demon. But looking at his whisker marks, the civilians and some shinobi could not retort the fact to themselves that it could be true. It's amusing how human nature works. People tend to fear something they do not understand. Naruto was hailed as the hope of the village, as the heir of the noble Senju clan, and almost immediately scorned and hated by the population of Konoha when news of his container status got out. The glares, the whispers, the ignorant behavior, all pointed towards an innocent toddler. A child who could not even speak and understand the rights and wrongs of the world against the ignorant fools of the village. Tsunade was livid upon seeing her son treated in such manner. There were many times when Shizune and Sarutobi had to hold down Jiraiya and Tsunade so they wouldn't beat these fools to a bloody pulp. But, even the prospect of bringing forth the anger of 2 Sanins did not stop the vile acts. The Sandaime Hokage of the village had to make a S-class law stating that if anyone ever talked about the Kyuubi or the Sanbi in front of Naruto, they would be taken to torture and interrogation department and thrown to prison. That somehow seemed to tone down from openly glaring at the boy. So, they did the next best thing possible. They started to ignore him. Several of the major clans in Konoha had heirs born to them in the past 3 years. The Yamanaka clan had a girl born to them, named Ino Yamanaka. The Aburam clan had a boy born to them, named Shino Aburam. Choji Akimichi, heir to the Akimichi clan. Kiba Inyazuka, heir to the Inyazuka clan. Shikamaru Nara, heir to the Nara clan. All these children had a healthy birth, and Tsunade seemed glad there wasn't any attack on the village during those times. Uchiha compound. The Uchiha clan is one of the founding clans of Konohagakure no Sado, along with the Senju clan. It is known all over the elemental nations that the battle prowess of the Uchihas is on par with Senju. And it is indeed true as the devoted Dijutsu of the Uchiha clan, the Sharingan gives them an immense advantage during battle. The Uchiha clan have produced some incredibly powerful shinobis since the warring clan era states. The legendary Uchiha Madara, even though labeled a traitor to his own village, was the only one who could go toe-to-toe with Hashirama Senju, the Shodaime Hokage, and hailed as the Shinobi no Kami. Kagami Uchiha, a student under the belt of Nidaime Hokage, Tobirama Senju, was said to be almost on par with his sensei. Itachi Uchiha and Sasuke Uchiha. The two heirs of the Uchiha clan and the sons of the current clan head and Uchiha matriarch, Fugaku Uchiha and Makoto Uchiha. Itachi is now 8 years of age, while his little brother Sasuke was now 3 years and 9 months. Even though the age gap between the two brothers was considerably big, the two were inseparable. Itachi absolutely adored his little brother, and Sasuke never left Itachi's side when he was at home. Itachi became a genin at the age of 6. He graduated the Shinobi Academy in Konoha in a mere 1 year on top of his class. He was hailed as the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. Many might call him arrogant considering what he has achieved at the age of 8 and his immeasurable talent, but he was far from it. He has the humblest soul. Even though young, his mind was sharp and one might say an ideal candidate for the position of a Kage. Oni-chan. When are you going to take me to the park? You tell me every day but you just come home and say later Sasuke all the time. I want to go outside. Whined a black-haired boy with chubby cheeks. Itachi turned to glance at Sasuke and saw him sitting on his butt indignantly with his hands folded on his chest. Sasuke's childish demands made him smile as he always wished for his little brother to have a normal childhood. But his hopes seemed to be diminishing considering the course of action he might have to take in the coming years. It made him frown a bit but he schooled his facial features. Sasuke. You sure are excited today. Itachi said with a small smile. Sasuke just grinned more making his brother sigh. Come on, get ready. I will take you to park. And be quiet about it alright. You know father doesn't like us to associate with people outside our clan much. Yes, Oni-chan. Sasuke then quickly left the room to get ready. Sasuke soon met up with Itachi near the front gates of the Uchiha compound and he held his brother's hand as they both left towards a nearby park. As they were walking outside, Itachi noticed how it was very cloudy today with a slight tint of orange. It was an odd weather for Fire Nation. It was usually sunny. The day will be the day, two lost brothers shall meet each other again for the first time and commence their tumultuous journey. With Naruto and Tsunade. Demon, monster, inhuman creature. These were some of the whispers that were coming out of the civilians' lips as the Senju clan head, Tsunade Senju and clan heir, Naruto Senju, passed through the crowded streets of Konoha. Look at that child. Walking beside Tsunade-sama and among us, as if he thinks he can ever be human like us. Said one of the shopkeepers who was standing outside in a low voice dripping with hatred. I know. I don't know why Sandaime-sama and Tsunade-sama can't see that the beast is just waiting to strike again. Said a lady standing nearby. Several such things were being said as the mother and son walked through the streets. Some were openly glaring at the innocent 3-year-old child, while others seemed to not care that he's there. Tsunade felt her hand being gripped tightly and noticed that it was Naruto. She saw the pain in those eyes for a moment and it hurt her knowing how much her son is suffering. Naru-chan? Tsunade asked him in a soft voice. Yes, Ka-chan. His voice seemed to tremble a bit. Remember what I said? You're my strong boy, yeah? He nodded. Then don't listen to the bad things others say about you, okay? These people's opinion does not matter. Only those who are close to you, theirs do. You understand what I'm trying to say? Tsunade asked looking softly at her son. Ahoo. I understand. Naruto said in a small voice. He seemed to pause a bit before speaking again, then looked at his mother and said, you consider me your precious person, don't you, Ka-chan? Of course, my baby. You are the most precious thing to me in the entire world. She said with a happy smile on her face. Naruto beamed with happiness on hearing that and his mood instantly became a lot better. The mother and son duo soon walked out of the crowded streets, ignoring all the obscenities thrown towards Naruto and made their way towards the park. Oni-chan. We have been walking for so long. Can you carry me on your back? Sasuke asked looking at Itachi. Sasuke, it's not too far now. There will be many children in the park we are going to. You can walk a bit longer can't you? Itachi asked with a straight face. Nah. You have to carry me. All brothers do that. Please. Itachi felt his resolve weaken seeing his little brother's pleading face and gave in. He kneeled on the ground and asked Sasuke to get on his back. He gently picked him up making sure to keep a firm grip. Sasuke put his arms around his brother's neck and hugged him from behind. He felt extremely happy being close to Itachi and the fact that his brother was spending time with him. Arigato Oni-chan. You're the best. Exclaimed Sasuke. So, Sasuke, do you want to become a shinobi? Yes. I want to become the strongest Uchiha to ever live there was. Proudly said Sasuke. Strongest huh? You will have to train and work hard a lot you know. Itachi said with a small smirk. Of course, I will. I will train hard and soon surpass you also. You just wait and watch. Sasuke said with determination. Itachi heard the determination in his little brother's voice and smiled. He couldn't help but believe in what he said. Maybe Sasuke could be the one to change the Uchiha. Our clan has lived in darkness for long enough. I will make sure you're strong enough, Sasuke, for the upcoming battles you will inevitably face. Thought Itachi with a frown at the end. Naruto and Tsunade soon reached a park, which was near the Hokage monument. Naruto was still holding his mother's hand when they entered the grassy field which was rooting many trees. He looked towards the Hokage monument and saw the faces of the 4 Hokages. He stopped his gaze, seeing the face of Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto had been told a lot about the Yondaime by his Oji-san, Jiraiya. He didn't know why, but he felt feeling of familiarity staring at Yondaime's head. Tsunade saw how Naruto was staring at the Hokage monument so intently. She followed his gaze and saw him staring at the head sculpture of Yondaime Hokage. She felt her skip a bit as she saw the look on her son's face. It was one of serene calmness. "Neri-chan?" Tsunade called to him. "Yes, Ka-chan. Is everything alright? We are at the park already. You should go play with the other kids. I will be sitting in that seat nearby, okay?" Tsunade said, pointing to a seat at the side where several other women were sitting and chatting. "Okay, Ka-chan. You wouldn't go anywhere else, would you?" he asked a bit shyly. "SHHH. Now. Remember what I told you? You are a strong boy. Plus, do you really think I can leave someone as precious as you here alone?" Tsunade said, smiling sweetly. Naruto gave a bright smile on hearing that, immediately ran off towards the children playing in near the swings and sandbox. Tsunade, seeing her son go, went towards the other women who were sitting on the seat. As Naruto reached towards the other children, he saw several of them who looked like they were his age. There was a feral-looking boy with brown hair and 2 pointed red stripes on each cheek. A pineapple-shaped black hair boy who was lazing around by just lying on the grass. There was a blonde-haired girl in the sandbox, although her hair had lighter shade. She was sitting with a girl who had one of the oddest hair colors he has ever seen in his short life yet. It was pink. Another thing he noticed about her was her huge forehead. He giggled a bit seeing her, but covered his mouth with his hand so others wouldn't hear him. He also noticed that there were many other children just running around and playing a sort of a game. He approached a brown-haired boy who was sitting with the lazy-looking one. "Hello. My name is Senju Naruto. What is your name?" jovially said Naruto. "Kiba Inuzuka. I'm from the Inuzuka clan." The Kiba said proudly with his thumb towards himself. "Do you want to play with us?" he asked again. "Yes. Of course, I would love to. By the way, what is his name?" Naruto said, pointing towards the lazy boy. "Is he sleeping now? I don't want to disturb him if he's asleep." Naruto said softly. "Oh, him? No. He's not. He's just very lazy all the time," he said with a laugh, then went and shook Shikamaru from his dazed state. The lazy boy yawned once and muttered something incomprehensible under his breath which Naruto didn't quite get but did giggle a bit seeing his facial expression. "Hi. I'm Shikamaru Nara from the Nara clan," the boy said with a yawn. He extended his hand towards Naruto, which Naruto shook with a bright smile on his face. "Hello, Shikamaru. I'm Senju Naruto. It's nice to meet you. Do you want to play something?" Naruto said. "Yeah, sure. Let's call Ino and Sakura, then we can all play together," Kiba said as he was pointing his fingers towards the 2 girls sitting and playing inside the sandbox. "Alright, sure." Naruto was very happy that he got some people who were willing to play with him and didn't say any bad things about him like some of the people in the village. "Oi, Ino, Sakura. Come over here. We got a new friend over here. We can play something together," Kiba shouted on top his voice. "Geez, Kiba. Would you calm down please? I can clearly hear you from here," Ino said. Ino gestured Sakura to come along with her where all the boys were standing. Sakura was shy if she meets someone for the first time. She is from a civilian family. Although her father did serve as a ninja during the Third Great Shinobi War. Ino and Sakura walked to where the boys were standing. Ino noticed Naruto who was standing and personally she found him to be attractive with his spiky blonde hair. She was about to extend her hand to say hello to Naruto when Sakura screamed with anger, "Demon, it's the demon boy who killed so many civilians during the attack 4 years ago. My mother told me to stay away from him." As soon as those words left Sakura's mouth, everyone was now staring at Naruto with dumbfounded expression while Naruto just knelt and started crying. But Tsunade and the other women. Tsunade went and sat with the other women, Tsume and Yoshina, who were Kiba's and Shikamaru's mother respectively. They were a bit startled to see Tsunade here but greeted her nonetheless. She sat down with them and started talking about their children, their life and day-to-day chores. Both Tsume and Yoshina knew Naruto was the son of Yondaime Hokage. They of course were surprised to see how Naruto looked right now. With his jaw-length hair and the way it spiked in certain areas, he sure looked a lot like his old man. All the three women were talking calmly when they heard a shout which brought a feeling of dread in Tsunade's heart. Demon, it's the demon boy who killed so many civilians during the attack 4 years ago. My mother told me to stay away from him. She heard a girl scream. She immediately ran to Naruto's side and saw him clutching to his knees and sniffling slowly in his hands. It broke her heart to see her baby boy in such condition. She also noticed a couple of Anbu coming and apprehending the now scared girl who screamed that obscenity. Tsunade glared at the pink-haired girl heatedly who screamed such an awful thing to her son and felt anger rising towards her parents. Tsum and Yoshino came by the children's side and took them away to explain things to them. One of the Anbu she noticed was wearing a dog mask and she approached him. Dog, I don't believe it's her fault entirely. Get her parents to interrogation and torture department and have Ibiki question them. She said sternly. Hi Tsunade-sama. Dog said as he took hold of the girl's arms and vanished in a swirl of leaves. She couldn't help but notice the apprehensive look on her face when the shinobi took her away. Although, personally that girl deserved it in her opinion. She carefully went and sat down in front of Naruto, who was still crying. I should have seen this coming. What was I thinking of being hopeful that these damn civilians won't pass on their idiotic ideology to their children? Damn it. Tsunade thought with frustration. She approached her son and quickly embraced him in a tight hug. She felt him stiffen slightly and then he relaxed in her presence. She started stroking his hair gently and whispered softly, I'm sorry Naru-chan. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have heard that awful thing from the girl. Naruto continued to sniffle a bit but he felt better now that his mother was close to him. He always felt so much at ease when she hugs him and strokes his hair. He put his small hands across his mother and gave her a tight hug in return, burying his head in her neck. Why Ka-chan? Why do they call me such bad names? Did I do something bad to them? Tell me please. It hurts. SHHH. It's alright Naru. Don't worry about them. I'm here with you. I will keep you safe, okay? Tsunade said as she cupped his cheeks made him look at her. She could see his eyes had become red and puffy. She put his head back down and started stroking his back gently. It hurt her, knowing that her son cried for a reason that was out of his control. She cursed a person who let his Jinchuriki status out. I will need to have a talk with Sarutobi-sensei regarding this. There weren't many people who were aware of Naruto being the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi and Sanbi. The person will pay. Whoever is the cause for my son's suffering. She promised herself. She noticed that Naruto's body went limp in her arms and realized he must have fallen asleep. She scooped him up in his arms and laid his head on her lap so he could sleep comfortably. Unknown to the people who were involved in the incident that took place a while back, both Itachi and Sasuke had witnessed that entire thing. Itachi felt a bit of sympathy for the blonde boy, scorned for reasons not in his control. Itachi felt Naruto should be raised as a hero in the village. So young, yet protecting everyone in Konoha against the wrath of powerful Bijuas like Kyuubi no Yoko and the Sanbi. He turned to his brother to see he was intently staring at Naruto. Sasuke had been quiet during the entire ordeal. His young mind didn't know what to think. Here, a boy almost the same age as he was being called a demon and he did not know the reason why. But, looking at the blonde, Sasuke felt a certain connection. He couldn't explain it. He slowly started moving toward the position where Naruto was peacefully sleeping in his mother's arms. Itachi watched as his brother walked towards the Sannin woman. In a way, both have hindrances which will make it hard for them to make friends. One because he is hated by the village for container status and the other because his clan considers other people beneath them and forbids from associating with lesser people. So alike, yet so different. Thought Itachi with a thoughtful expression on his young face. Tsunade didn't know how much time passed since she was sitting here with Naruto sleeping in her arms. He looks so calm and peaceful when he's asleep. Don't worry Naru-chan. Your Ka-chan will protect you until you can do so yourself. And even after that, I will always stand by your side. I just wish the people of this village saw you for who you truly are. It hurts me too Naru, seeing you in so much pain at this young an age. She thought. Suddenly she felt two presences behind her. One familiar and one not. She turned behind her and came face to face with a young boy. He looked almost the same age as Naruto. He had black hair and coal black eyes. Icha. She thought. Is he okay? Sasuke asked with a sad voice. Tsunade was a bit surprised hearing that question. She didn't expect an Uchiha to come and ask about the welfare of her son. He's asleep right now. It's best to let him rest. She said softly so as not wake Naruto up. It's bad. What that girl said. I didn't like it. She must be very mean to say such things. Why would she say such bad things about him? He replied. What is with this boy? Tsunade thought surprised. I don't know child. Some people, they just don't understand. Naruto. My son's name is Senju Naruto. she said in a tired voice. Can I sit beside him? I want to be there when he wakes up. I don't have many friends, you know. Maybe Naruto and I could become good friends. Once again, a child, and Uchiha nonetheless was willing to become friends with her son. She felt a bit conflicted initially, not trusting another person right after what happened, especially in Uchiha. But the look in the child's eyes showed nothing but concern. She eventually nodded to him and Sasuke came and sat beside Naruto. Itachi, who was watching the interaction between Tsunade and Sasuke from a distance himself, was surprised by his little brother's actions. He had never seen such a caring side of Sasuke. Maybe. Just maybe. The Uchiha clan still has hope in the form of Sasuke. He thought. I know you're there, Itachi. You might as well come out here. Tsunade said. Itachi felt a bit ashamed being caught like this, but came out of the trees and went towards the Sannin. He bowed in front of her and said politely, "Greetings, Tsunade-sama. I apologize on my brother's and my behalf for intruding you and Naruto at such a time. I hope you do not mind." "It's no problem, Itachi-kun. So, he's your brother, huh? I'm glad he's willing to sit beside Naruto and befriend him," she said with a small smile. Itachi could see she was tired looking at her face, but he chose not to comment on that matter. "What is his name, Itachi-kun?" she asked. "Sasuke Uchiha. Our father chose to name him after Sandaime-sama's father," Itachi replied. Tsunade looked toward Sasuke and saw him gazing at Naruto's face intently. Tsunade felt Naruto move in her arms and she looked down to see him waking up. Naruto moved his hands to his face and started rubbing his eyes with his little fingers to remove the excess sleep. Soon, Naruto opened his violet eyes and his gaze was met with cold black eyes. He sat up from his mother's lap and just stared at the boy in front of him. Both Tsunade and Itachi chose not to say anything and just observe how things went. For a reason unknown to Naruto, he moved his right hand towards the boy in front of him and said, "Hello, I'm Senju Naruto." Sasuke placed his own left hand in Naruto's right and said with a big smile, "I'm Uchiha Sasuke." Thus, began the story of two lost brothers who share a bond which is centuries old. The story of Sasuke and Naruto. Chapter 6 Dreams and Revelations. Time skip 1 year and 4 months. Brothers. Senju Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke. That's how they felt when the two were with each other. The two young boys met almost every day and spent their time either sitting under the shade of a tree or sitting near a lake, skipping stones. Tsunade and Itachi too were slightly surprised at how close the young kids had gotten to each other. It wasn't hard for Sasuke to notice how the villagers treated Naruto and it infuriated him because he didn't know why. So, he did what he could to protect his best friend. He glared right back at them. Although Naruto ignored the behavior the villagers shown towards him to the best of his ability now, somewhere in his heart he still wished if they could stop. Today, the two young boys were sitting on top of the Yondaime Hokage's head. Naruto couldn't explain it why, but he felt at peace sitting in this place. Naruto exhaled a deep sigh as he opened his eyes and stared at the red and orange glow of the sky. He looked to his right and saw that Sasuke was lying down with his hands behind his head and eyes closed. But he knew Sasuke was still awake. He could sense another presence close by, but knew the person had no ill intentions towards him or Sasuke. Probably one of those Anbu who always trails me when I'm within the village. He got up from his position and went to the edge and sat down. From there, he had the view of the entire village. Kakashi Haddock, the last surviving student of Yondaime Hokage, who was also an Anbu agent, was a few meters away on a tree keeping guard on them, especially Naruto. He never tried making any contact with the boy. He knew Naruto was the son of Yondaime Hokage, his late sensei. The death of his father, Tsukumo Haddock, hit him hard and his life had become a mess at that point. It was Minato who looked after him and helped him with his problems and taught him the ways of a shinobi. So, when he was informed by the Sandaime that his sensei and father figure had died in battle, he was devastated. He did not hate the blonde boy at all. Far from it. He was among the first ones to know that Minato and Kushina were expecting a child and was ecstatic on the prospect of meeting someone he could call his brother. It's just whenever he looked at Naruto, he saw his sensei's face in him and was reminded of the times he spent with him and he couldn't bring himself to talk to the little blonde. He was broken out of his thoughts when he heard Naruto speak. "Sasuke." Naruto called out, still looking at the sky. The boy in question was now sitting beside his friend, who had woken up the moment Naruto left his earlier position. Sasuke saw a thoughtful look on Naruto's face and answered, What is it? Why do you want to become a shinobi?" He quirked an eyebrow upon hearing the question, but answered nonetheless. "To become strong. To become the strongest Uchiha there is to ever live." Naruto glanced toward Sasuke once and saw the look in his eyes. It was filled with determination and confidence. It made him believe his friend could achieve his goal in the long run. "What about you, Naruto? Do you want to become the strongest shinobi in your clan?" asked Sasuke. Naruto thought over it. He knew there were several amazingly strong shinobi in his clan, and two of those were the first two Hokage of the village. As well, his mother, Senju Tsunade, is regarded as one of the strongest shinobi in the elemental nations. He looked towards the sky again and saw how majestic it looked in its evening color. "I want to become Hokage someday," he answered confidently. Sasuke widened his eyes upon hearing that and looked towards Naruto. He then smiled a bit upon hearing that. Only he can think of such big dreams. Sasuke thought. "I don't know why they hate me, Sasuke. But I want to show them that I'm not a bad person. So, someday when I become Hokage, they will all acknowledge me. I will surpass the Yondaime one day. He is regarded as the strongest and the greatest of all the Hokage," Naruto said looking at Sasuke. Sasuke obviously knew the tales of the Yondaime Hokage. His brother, Itachi, had told him a lot about the man. So, to think his friend wanted to surpass the strongest of all Hokage was a bit surprising for him. He saw Naruto stand up and look down at the village. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Naruto asked in a small whisper. Sasuke followed the blonde's gaze and indeed had to agree the village looked beautiful under the red and orange glow of the evening sky. "The village looks so peaceful now. I want to protect this. I can sense how happy the village is at the moment. I want to do everything in my power to keep our village like this. The people of this village may not like me now, but this is still my home and the place where I was born. That is why I will be Hokage, to keep this village safe. I will train hard and become strong. No matter what happens, I will protect this village from anyone who tries to harm it. Then people will acknowledge me as Senju Naruto. People will start looking at me like someone important," spoke a highly passionate Naruto. Sasuke didn't know what to say. He had never heard anyone say such a thing. His father always taught him that the Uchiha were above everyone else and that the village should work with them as their leader. "I don't know about the village, Naruto. But I will always be there for you. No matter what happens, I will be there to protect you. You are younger than me, so it is my duty to protect my little brother. I will help you become stronger." Sasuke said the last part in a bare whisper looking down at the village. Naruto became a bit flustered upon hearing Sasuke call him his little brother but maintained his calm persona. "Ah-chan and Jiraiya Oji-chan did tell me that I should remain calm in all circumstances," Naruto thought. Kakashi, who was watching them from a distance away, widened his eyes upon hearing Naruto proclaiming his dream. Kakashi couldn't see his face since he was facing Naruto's back, but he was sure the expression on the blonde's face would be one to remember. "Sensei." That one word was the only thing that he could think of right now. "If only you here to see your son. Minato-sensei. I am sure you would be proud of the way he's growing up," Kakashi thought with one of his eye smiles. He saw Naruto and Sasuke leave the Hokage monument and make their way towards each other's home. After some time, Kakashi came out of the trees once he was sure the two boys were gone. He stood at the same spot Naruto was standing a few minutes ago and looked down at the village. He just stared at the village for a few seconds and then looked towards the setting sun. He closed his eyes and thought, maybe I could help Naruto with his dream, Minato-sensei. I will help him in any way I can. I know you would have wanted me to," Kakashi thought to himself as he opened his eyes. "After all, he's the only family I have remaining." And with that thought, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. A few minutes earlier at the Senju compound. The Senju compound was among the first compounds to be built, along with the Uchiha and the Hyuga, when the village was first formed. During those times, the Senju clan was vast and had several hundred members. Thus, to suit everyone's needs, Hashirama had built a large compound with several houses within. In the middle of the compound was the largest house, which belonged to the clan head. Tsunade, Naruto and Shizune lived in the clan head's house, as Tsunade and Naruto were the last living Senju in the elemental nations. Shizune, who was the niece of Dan Kato, Tsunade's former lover, had no other family left after her uncle had died fighting in the Second Shinobi War. Hence, Shizune had been staying with Tsunade ever since. Tsunade was sitting in the living room, going through one of her medical books, while Shizune was out in the gardens watering the plants. It was a pretty normal day at the Senju compound. While the Senju woman was going through her books, she felt someone enter through the window in the living room and sit beside her. She didn't need to look at the person to know who it was. Years of witnessing him doing similar things and not using the door to enter a room like any normal human had made her familiar to the person and his presence. "What do you want, Jiraiya?" Tsunade asked without looking away from her book. "Oh, you heard me, Haim. No hello or any greetings for me," said the white-haired Sannin with a wide grin on his face. She eventually looked at him and said, "You will get a proper greeting when you enter the house properly. Until then, no. So again, why are you here, Jiraiya? You usually come on days when Naruto-chan learns Fuinjutsu from you. Today is certainly not that day." She saw his face become serious and grew a bit concerned. She knew Jiraiya only became serious when the matter was of grave importance. Somehow she knew this matter related her son and it wasn't anything good. Alright Haim, all joking aside, you're right. There's a reason I'm here today. Jiraiya spoke, leaving all humor aside. Tsunade immediately straightened up and began to listen to what Jiraiya had to say intently. You might remember, a few years back I told you about a mercenary group made of several missing ninjas. I had my spy network keep their ears open and listen to any news that might travel regarding that group and information about other shinobi villages. One report I received recently is concerning Naruto. It's not good. He said with a grim expression. Jiraiya had decided it was best not to tell Tsunade about the missing ninjas being S rank at that time, since she had just agreed to take care of Naruto, and hearing about such a disturbing group might have increased her worries as a mother. Tsunade nodded but did frown upon hearing the last part. It's not an easy task for a village to maintain its military strength after getting attacked by two Bijuu and their strongest shinobi dying in the line of duty. Currently, several of the other villages are observing us carefully, especially our military, to see how badly we were hurt. I would say Wagakure rejoiced upon hearing the news of Minato's death. Also, Iwa is one of the main villages which is currently keeping an eye on us. That old fence-sitter, Inoki, was always a cunning and a hot-headed man. Kumogakure's Yandame Reikage died a couple years back as you know, and A was selected as the Yandame Reikage. Although I doubt Kumo would do something drastic as of this moment, since A and Minato had a friendly relationship and rivalry between each other. But still, we can't rule them out yet. Kurigakure no Sato has been staying neutral towards any village for the time being, so it's hard to devise their motives. Jiraiya informed, to which Tsunade nodded for him to continue. Thankfully, Sarutobi-sensei has been keeping other villages in the dark about how badly the village was actually hurt. As far as the other villages are concerned, Konoha still stands strong. Plus, the alliance which Konoha gained 3 years back with Sunagakure no Sato is also another thing which would make them hesitant to take any measures. So, I don't believe that they will try to attack the village. Also, word has spread around different villages that there's a Senju heir in Konoha and that you are the mother Tsunade. But as of yet, no one knows that Naruto's the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi and the Sanbi. Some of the minor villages were indifferent to the news, while some such as Kumogakure and Awagakure were not happy regarding the news. Although they haven't taken any steps regarding this matter, we will still have to be careful. He said, to which Tsunade was in complete agreement. Now, what new do you have concerning Naruto? Tsunade asked with worry present in her voice. Just then Shizune entered the room and saw Jiraiya sitting on a couch along with Tsunade, who had a worried expression on her face. Upon the question about the reasons for her worry, Jiraiya explained it to her teammate's apprentice briefly about what he had told Tsunade up till now. The mercenary group are keeping low profile currently to not attract too much attention and are highly secretive. From what my informants told me and from what I gathered from people traveling around the elemental nations in the last few years, they will be big trouble in the future. What do you mean by that, Jiraiya-sama? Asked Shizune. All the members of the group are S-class criminals. This is also the group which concerns me the most, as they are after people like Naruto, replied Jiraiya. This shocked both the women sitting in the room. S-class was given to shinobi of the highest caliber. These types of ninjas could take out an entire army by themselves and still not be wounded. Only a handful of shinobi were ever granted double S-class status due to their impeccable battle prowess. Those being Tsunade's grandfather and Naruto's great-grandfather Hashirama Senju, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the legend of the Uchiha clan Madara Uchiha, and Naruto's father Namikaze Minato. It made Tsunade extremely worried since shinobi of such caliber rarely ever try to work together. The only way they would ever work together would be if they were being led by someone who was even stronger than them and able to defeat them simultaneously. It worried her because shinobi of such battle prowess would have to be extremely powerful. She then suddenly registered the last part which Jiraiya said. What do you mean, people like Naruto? It was Shizune who blurted out the question before Tsunade could even ask. She had a bit of suspicion, but she hoped what she was thinking was wrong. Jiraiya looked at Shizune and could understand her dilemma. It's exactly what I mean, Shizune. I don't know their exact plans are, but from what my sources tell me, they are after Jinchuriki. More preciously, they are after the Bijuu inside them. Jiraiya answered, shocking both the women. Are you certain, Jiraiya? Asked a worried Tsunade, to which the sage nodded. Does this group have a name, Jiraiya-sama? Asked Shizune. Yes. They call themselves Akatsuki. They wear high-collared black cloaks with red clouds on them. The members of this group usually travel in pairs. From what I have gathered, these people won't make any real move towards any of the Jinchuriki for a while. This type of plan requires a lot of strategy and funding. Also, they don't know who the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi and Sanbi is. I don't think anyone has ever been made into a Jinchuriki for two Bijuu before. It was only due to Naruto's strong life force that the sealing of two Bijuu was even possible. Sensei is keeping a tight lip to the people outside the village about Naruto. Although, I can't say the same about the villagers. Jiraiya grumbled the last part, showing his utter dissatisfaction towards the actions shown by the people of Konoha. Jiraiya straightened himself and looked straight into Tsunade's eyes. Tsunade, listen to what I have to say carefully now, okay? Tsunade was a bit surprised upon hearing it, but nodded her head. Naruto. He is not a normal child. He has blood of among the strongest shinobi running through his veins. Now, I may not know about biology much, but I believe when you used to breastfeed him, the milk he drank contained your dormant DNA too. So, it is possible to say he also has your DNA, but it will remain dormant in him unless he works on his physical prowess. He is bound to become a shinobi of great battle prowess. Believe me when I say this, he can surpass all the previous Hokage Konohagakure no Sato has seen. I'm not only saying this because he's my godson and your son now. But what, Jiraiya? Get out with it already. She was getting frustrated now. Tsunade was never known for her patience. Do you remember the night Fukasaku-sensei came and asked me to come with him to Mount Myaboku? Tsunade nodded. All the while Shizune just kept quiet and listened to the Sannin talk. She herself was worried about Naruto. Ever since the blonde boy could talk, he had started to call her Shizune-ni-chan. She felt horrible about just thinking of the dangers he might face when he grows up. At night I was summoned by the Grand Elder Toad. Years back, when I first became their summoner, they told me about a prophecy. A prophecy about a child who shall rise in the time of darkness and become the savior of this world. He told me that night Naruto was the child. He will be the one to become the light that shall eradicate all darkness that lingers in the elemental nations. Jiraiya said slowly. Both Tsunade's and Shizune's eyes widened upon hearing that. Naru-chan. The child of prophecy. Tsunade thought. Jiraiya. What are you saying? He's just a child for God's sake. Shouted Tsunade as she stood up from her sitting position and started leaking her killing intent unconsciously. Clam down, Tsunade. I know what I'm saying. I don't want to burden Naruto with anything. I love him just as much as you do. But we must face the facts now. He won't have a normal life. The moment he was made into a Jinchuriki, his normal life had ended. With groups like Akatsuki behind him, he won't have time to slack off. He will need to be as strong as possible. We both are strong, Tsunade. But none of us can handle more than 2 S-class criminals on our own. They will eventually come to know Naruto is the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi and the Sanbi, and when they do, we should assume they will come to get him with full force. So, it will be better for us as well as for Naruto if he will be prepared to face them. Jiraiya said sternly, while also releasing his own killing intent to match Tsunade's. It seemed to calm Tsunade down as her facial features relaxed a bit and sat down on her seat. She understood the meaning of Jiraiya's words. She knew what he said was true. While she herself was a powerful shinobi, even she would have trouble going up against more than 2 S-class criminals. Now that you know what I'm saying clearly, you also know we don't have a choice. We will have to increase Naruto's training. He has way too much chakra for a 5-year-old kid, he has as much chakra as an elite jounin. For the past year, he has only been doing physical exercises, Fuinjutsu studies and chakra control. The kid is a genius in Fuinjutsu. He's just like his father in that department. Jiraiya said with a wide smile on his after the heated discussion that took place. Hearing about her son's progress in Fuinjutsu made Tsunade extremely happy. He's my son after all. He's bound to be good in everything. Tsunade said proudly. Shizune too smiled upon her master say that. Tsunade, I will take care of Naruto's ninjutsu and Fuinjutsu. I know you want to teach him medical ninjutsu. That's okay. If he becomes capable of doing medical ninjutsu, his chakra control would be almost perfect then. That will just make his ninjutsu much stronger. Jiraiya explained. Both Tsunade and Shizune understood where the white-haired man was going and nodded. Don't worry. I will take care of his physical health, chakra control and medical ninjutsu. Tsunade said. Tsunade-sama? Shizune asked a bit shyly. If you don't mind, I would also like to help Naruto-kun. I may not be as good you or Jiraiya-sama, but I would like to teach him what I know. Tsunade looked at her apprentice, confused, and said Shizune, must you ask for that? Naru-chan considers you as his elder sister. Of course, it won't be a problem. Before Shizune could thank her master, all the people sitting in the living room heard a very familiar voice. Ka-chan. Ka-chan. Where are you? Asked Naruto as he was running through the house. Tsunade had to smile a bit upon hearing her son's voice. It always brought joy to her. Naru-chan, I'm in the living room. Come over here. She spoke loudly to make herself audible to Naruto. Naruto, hearing his mother's voice, ran as fast as he could and entered the living room. He quickly went to his mother and gave her a tight hug. Oh? Looks like my little Naru-chan missed me a lot today, huh? Tsunade asked playfully. Uh-huh. Sasuke and I were sitting on top of Yondame's head today the whole day. And when the sun was setting, I could see the entire village from the edge. It looked so beautiful, Ka-chan, exclaimed the excited blonde. Jiraiya stood behind Naruto and ruffled his hair. That's good to hear, kid. Oji-chan. How come you are here today? Are we learning Fuinjutsu today also? Naruto asked. No. Not today, kid. Today, your mother and I have something important to tell you. So, sit down now. Naruto did as he was told and sat down on the couch beside his mother. Neri-chan. We are going to start training you in the different arts of shinobi starting from tomorrow, okay? So, today you take rest and from tomorrow we will start training you seriously, okay? Naruto became very excited upon and a huge smile found its way to his face. Now I can become stronger and be Hokage someday. He stated happily. Tsunade just froze upon hearing those words coming out of her son's mouth and stared at him. What did you say, Neri-chan? She asked him again just to make sure what she heard was correct. Jiraiya too was staring at Naruto and waiting to see what the kid would reply. Naruto felt a bit awkward being put into the spotlight like this. He saw his Ka-chan, Oji-chan and Ni-chan all staring at him and waiting for him to reply. He calmed his nerves looking straight at his mother and said, I want to be Hokage someday, Ka-chan. So, someday the people of this village will acknowledge me and notice that I'm not a bad person and start seeing me as someone important. I will surpass all the previous Hokage, especially the Yondaime, and show everyone that I'm Senju Naruto. I will protect the village with everything I have just like the Yondaime. To be Hokage, that is my dream. Tsunade did not know what to say. Those words. Those exact same words. She had heard that so many times. And every time, the person was taken away from her, as if life was playing a cruel joke on her. Suddenly she saw a faint image of her grandfather Hashirama, standing to Naruto's left with one hand on his left shoulder, Dan and Nawaki standing on his right with each of their hand on his right shoulder, and finally Minato, with his right hand on his son's hair. All of them had smiles on their faces, and they nodded their heads. She blinked her eyes, wondering if she was hallucinating. The next moment, they were gone. She saw Jiraiya kneeling in front of Naruto to his eye level, and both his hands firmly on Naruto's shoulder. I believe in you, Naruto. That is a very noble dream. Your mother, Shizune and I shall help you all the way until the time you become the strongest shinobi to ever live in the elemental nations. And if you work hard enough, you can make all your dreams come true. Jiraiya spoke softly, looking at his godson with a smile. Maybe. I could trust in someone else again with that dream. I believe in you too, my little Neri-chan. Thought Tsunade. She wiped away the single lone tear that rolled down her left eye, unnoticed by anyone else, and looked her son. Come on now, Neri-chan, time for your dinner. And this time you're eating your vegetables without making any fuss. Or else no ramen for you, for a week. Stated Tsunade in a dangerous voice. No ramen. No ramen. No ramen, no, that's not good. Naruto thought as he heard his mother say those awful words. Ha-chan. You can't do this. Ramen is the food of gods. You know how much I love it. Whined Naruto as he just sat down on the ground with a thud. Jiraiya, who had now moved to the side, laughed a bit upon seeing the interaction between Naruto and Tsunade. He smiled seeing how his godson could be so mature at one second and act his age the next. Do not take that tone with me, young man. I can and I will ban you from ramen if you don't your vegetables this time. She stated. Naruto just huffed and looked away from his mother pouting and grumbling something about uncool mothers. Shizune had to cover her mouth upon her master being referred to as uncool. Tsunade heard what he said but just ignored it. She took a softer tone and said, Naru, you know you have to eat healthy food. It will make you strong. I don't tell you not to eat ramen, do I? I'm just saying also eat healthy food along with it, okay? I wouldn't want anything for you, you know that, yeah? Naruto looked at his mother and nodded slowly as he understood what she was trying to say. Shizune, would you take Neri-chan to the kitchen and prepare him some dinner? Then put him to bed, alright? I will see Jiraiya off and then come. Tsunade asked her apprentice. Yes, Tsunade-sama. She took Naruto's hand in her own and walked out towards the kitchen. Jiraiya, who was quiet up till now, walked up to Tsunade and said, well Haim, I got to leave now. I have to go see Sarutobi-sensei and tell him what I told you and talk to him about a few things. A Kumagakure diplomat will coming to Konoha in a couple of months regarding the treaty offer between our two villages that has been going on for a while now. Tsunade raised an eyebrow upon hearing that. Kumo, huh? I hope everything goes well. She said. Yeah. Well, I will drop by tomorrow to explain further to Naruto about the training he's going to undergo. Jana. Jiraiya said, vanished in a swirl of leaves. Ah well, I should go check on Neri-chan. Tsunade said to herself and left towards the kitchen. The next day. It was early in the morning when the morning's first sunrays hit the village of Konohagakure no Sato. It was certainly a sight to behold. The village hidden in the leaves was not only regarded as the strongest of all 5 villages, but also the most beautiful among them. It was the month of November, and there was a slight snowfall within the village. For a visiting civilian or a shinobi, this would be a sight to behold, unless they come across an adult and a child wearing green spandex with bowl-cut hairstyle and bushy eyebrows, yelling about flames of youth and being in their springtime of youth. Most of the children within Naruto's age group that belong to the major clans of Konoha are now between the ages of 4 years 8 months and 5 years 3 months. In the past few years, a sort of temporary peace has prevailed across the different villages. Due to this, the graduation age of the Shinobi Academy in Konohagakure has increased from 10 to 12 years of age. The major number of shinobi who are above average and useful on a battlefield are normally provided by the clans of the village. Hence, most of the children belonging to major clans begin learning their clan's techniques as well as the theory behind those techniques from a young age. The Uchiha compound. Sasuke groggily woke up from his sleep and got up to fresh himself. Today was one of the days when Itachi usually spent some time with his little brother and helped him train in the shinobi arts. Itachi had started training Sasuke in the shinobi arts at the young age of 4. One word to describe Sasuke's talent as a shinobi would be incredible. He had large amounts of chakra for his age, although surprisingly, he had an average control of it when he started training in chakra control exercises. He had good analytical skills for someone his age and most of all, had the sense of being calm and to study the opponent during his spars with his elder brother. Sasuke absolutely adored his Nai-san. Itachi was among the few people who liked to spend time with him. His mother and matriarch of the Uchiha clan, Mikoto Uchiha, was another person whom he loved a lot. She would often spend time with him at home when Itachi and his father were busy. Then there was his father. Current clan head of the Uchiha clan, Fugaku Uchiha. Ever since Sasuke's mind could comprehend things, he saw his father giving most of his time to Itachi, the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. Whatever he tried, his father never seemed to give him much time of the day and always said that he should strive to be more like his brother. There were times when Sasuke found himself envying his brother because Itachi had one thing he, himself, always yearned for, his father's praise. A pat on the back saying good job, Sasuke. But he never complained and never truly seemed to fester any hatred towards his Nai-san. Sasuke dressed up after taking a bath and went downstairs to see his mother and Itachi already sitting on the dining table. He was wearing black shinobi shorts and a high-collared dark blue shirt with the Uchiha clan symbol at the back of his shirt. "Ha-san, Nai-san," Sasuke said happily as he took a seat next to Itachi. Mikoto smiled looking at her youngest child. She was glad he wasn't born during the age of war and did not have to grow up and mature as quickly as Itachi had to. He still has his innocence. She thought. "Sasuke-kun, you got up early today. Will you be going out to train again today?" Mikoto asked as she got up from her seat. She took Itachi's and her plates and headed towards the sink to wash them. "Yes, Ka-san. I need to go practice my shuriken throwing with Nai-san today. I can almost do it perfectly now. I can hit about 9 targets out of 10," said Sasuke. Itachi felt a bit sad knowing he wouldn't be able to go to training grounds with his brother today. He being the firstborn put him next in line to be the clan head. So, he had to spend a lot of time studying politics and the history of his, as well as other clans of the village in details. Plus, his training with Shisui was another thing that kept him busy. Almost everyone in the Uchiha clan believed him to be the genius of the clan, mainly because he awakened his Sharingan at the age of 6. But he knew it was Shisui who deserved all the praise. Half of the things that Itachi knew about being a shinobi had to be credited to his elder friend, Uchiha Shisui. Sasuke finished his food soon while Itachi waited for him. The 2 Uchiha brothers then walked out of the kitchen and found themselves waiting at the main door. "Nai-san, what else are you going to be teaching me today?" asked Sasuke with a bit of excitement in his voice. Itachi, who was standing a bit away from Sasuke, smiled sadly upon hearing that. He motioned for Sasuke to come to him, who smiled and ran towards his elder brother. As soon as Sasuke was standing in front of Itachi, he put forward his left hand and poked him on the forehead gently with his index and middle finger. "Forgive me, Sasuke. Maybe tomorrow. I have a busy day today. Why don't you practice everything I have showed you up till now on your own and tomorrow you show them to me, okay?" Sasuke rubbed his forehead after being poked there and looked down at his feet a bit sadly, but it disappeared as soon as it came, although Itachi could catch a glimpse of that. "Okay, Nai-san," Sasuke said as he ran off towards the area in the forests where he practiced his shuriken and kunai throwing. As Itachi stepped out of the house, a figure stepped out of the shadows and approached him. "It's time to go, Itachi," the person stated. Itachi nodded and both vanished from their spots, leaving no trail of them ever being there. At the Senju compound. On the opposite side of the Sakura tree, there is a training area and gardens at back of the house where Naruto lives. The blonde boy is currently standing in the middle of training ground with his eyes closed. He was dressed up in a high-collared gray t-shirt with the Senju clan symbol on his left and right side of the high collar and black shinobi pants. Around 10 or 12 feet away from him, there are 5 training dummies that are located at an equal distance of 4 feet from each other. Naruto takes a deep breath, opens his eyes and immediately takes out 5 shuriken from his pouch, located at the back of his pants, and 5 kunai from the pouch, located at the right side of his pants. The next second, he flicks his wrist with such grace and speed, the shuriken and the kunai flew right towards their target. All the shuriken and kunai were lodged right at the vital points of the training dummies. During the entire process, not a single sound was made. That is how Naruto was taught. Stealth is among the main aspects of a shinobi. The more attacks you can conjure up without making a sound, the more of a shocker it would be for the opponent. Jiraiya and Tsunade, standing at the side watching the blonde, smiled upon seeing his progress. Naruto was special indeed. Not just because of his Jinchuriki status or whose child he was. Naruto is always eager to learn more. He soaked up everything that was taught to him like a sponge. He may not get all the theories behind certain aspects instantly. But that doesn't mean he gives up. He keeps on trying and redoing the thing again and again until he gets it right. That is something Jiraiya respected immensely about the boy. The patience and the ability to not give up when you are stuck. "Look, Kacchan. I did it. I finally hit all the targets," exclaimed Naruto happily as he came running towards his mother and the white-haired sage. Tsunade ruffled his hair once and said, "I'm proud of you, Naruto-chan. The way you are progressing is astonishing." Naruto smiled wider upon being praised by his mother. Jiraiya patted the kid's back and said, "Ah, the kid gets all the compliments. That was a good job, Gaki. Even I couldn't hit all the targets at your age." "Thank you, Oji-chan. Really? But you are so strong now," Naruto said. Jiraiya looked towards Tsunade once. He saw her nod and then sat down on the grass. He then motioned for Naruto to sit down. "So what are we going to do today, Oji-chan? Are you going to teach me some really cool jutsu?" asked the blonde happily. "No, not today, kid. From today, we are going to start training you in all the fields of the shinobi arts. The physical exercises that you have been doing the past year should be more than enough for the taijutsu style your mother has in mind to teach you," Jiraiya said. Naruto nodded as he heard his godfather speak. Tsunade decided to step in and said, "Naru-chan, Jiraiya is going to be looking after you in ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, and with me, you will be studying medical ninjutsu, your taijutsu style and chakra control. Shizune will be helping me teach you from time to time." "Okay. Really?" Naruto asked, amazed at what all he was going to be learning. In the past year, Naruto had also been made to read several books regarding the different villages, shinobi and the history of elemental nations. He knew his Kacchan and Oji-chan were extremely strong ninjas and not many could stand up to them. So, to be taught everything there is in the shinobi field by them was an exciting aspect for Naruto. Both Tsunade and Jiraiya laughed a bit upon seeing his mouth wide open in amazement and nodded to his question. "I will train really hard and become a strong shinobi, Kacchan and Oji-chan. You will be proud of me that day," Naruto said proudly. Tsunade moved closer to Naruto and kissed him on his forehead gently and said, "I'm already proud of my little Naru-chan." Naruto's face flushed a bit upon being kissed by his mother in front of his Oji-chan, but did not say anything. Tsunade did got an evil smile on her face which sent shivers down the spine of Jiraiya and especially Naruto. "Naru-chan, I think you are ready to go through my special physical training regimen now." "Yes. You will do fine." Tsunade said the last part very slowly while rubbing her hands together, almost making her look sadistic. Jiraiya paled upon hearing that. He knew what she was talking about. He had been one of the people she had tried that special training with when they were young, and the sage wanted no part in it. He looked at Naruto and saw the boy giving him a questioning look. "Oh, I wish the kid survives. Tsunade can be brutal when she wants to be," he thought. Hours later in the forest surrounding the Uchiha clan compound. Several of the trees around had scratch marks on them, indicating that they were either done by a shuriken or a kunai. Several of them were lying on the forest floor while some were lodged deep into the tree. Some trees also had intense burn marks on them, showing that a Kaiten jutsu was recently used here. At first glance, one might think it was all the doing of a trained shinobi. But, it was not. The 5-year-old boy with black hair stood at a height of 3 feet and 4 inches. He quickly went through hand seals for a jutsu which he had been practicing to improve on for a few months now. He stopped at the tiger seal and molded superheated chakra inside his stomach before releasing it through his lungs and mouth. "Paten Gakeaku no Jutsu Fire-style Fireball Jutsu," shouted the boy before releasing a medium-sized orb of fire from his mouth, burning several of the trees in its path. Since most of the trees were covered in snow at the time, the impact of the intense hot fire was mostly absorbed by the snow, which made sure the forest did not catch fire. Sasuke Uchiha smiled upon seeing his work and allowed his body to fall freely on the ground covered in snow and relaxed when his body contacted it. He didn't know how long he had been out there practicing. But, seeing the color of the sky, he guessed it was evening now. He still had a couple of hours before he goes back home and decided a little nap wouldn't do any harm. About 10 or 15 minutes later, Itachi came upon a rare sight of Sasuke sleeping while having a fond smile on his face. He looked around himself and was amazed. All the marks were perfectly struck with kunai and shuriken, and those which failed to stick to the tree were lying on the ground. He looked to the other side and saw the results of Sasuke's Kaiten Jutsu. A smile formed on his face as he thought, "You are improving at a phenomenal rate, Sasuke. But you still have years before you can catch up to me. I'm sure the time will come soon when you will surpass me, Sasuke." He picked Sasuke's sleeping form and piggybacked him to the Uchiha compound. 2 months later. Sarutobi Hiruzen was sitting in his office at his desk signing away the papers as he does most of the days. The secretary sitting outside often heard random shouts of "Curse this paperwork and I'm getting too old for this shit." But after working there for so long, she had gotten used to it. The day is the day the diplomat from Kumagakure was supposed to arrive in Konoha. It was around 8 a.m. in the morning right now. The Sandaime had spent a good time of his night preparing for this meeting. If the meeting with the diplomat went well, Konoha would now have 2 powerful allies with her. Sunagakure, even though considered to be the weakest among the 5 great nations, still stands strong and has a lot to offer to Konoha, as well as Kumo in form of trade routes, more clients and surplus business opportunities. As Sarutobi was doing his work, one of his Anbu dropped down in front of him in a kneeling position. "Lord Hokage, the diplomat from the Kumo has arrived. Should we bring him straight to the Hokage Tower council chambers for the meeting or take him to the hotel first?" Hiruzen took a pipe and filled it with a fine quality tobacco which he had gotten from the Land of Springs a few months back. He lit it with a small Kaiten Jutsu and puffed on it for a few seconds to let his nerves calm down. He looked back at the Anbu and asked him to stand. "Kindly take him to the hotel first and inform him that the meeting is scheduled for noon. Do have an Anbu tail him all times," Hiruzen said. The Anbu nodded and disappeared towards the gate to get the guest. Both Naruto and Sasuke were advancing tremendously in their respective training. Itachi trained with Sasuke about 4 days a week, during which he mainly focused on his Taijutsu, Shuriken Jutsu, and the speed of his hand seals. During his free time, Sasuke mostly trained by himself or read books on the history of Uchiha clan. He was glad as Nai-san was spending time with him and helping him move towards his dream. It only strengthened the bond between the 2 brothers. While Sasuke trained with his brother, Naruto trained with Kachan and Oji-chan. Tsunade had found an old scroll of Taijutsu katas in her clan library, which was written by her grandfather Hashirama Senju, and had decided to make Naruto become adept at it. She was even more surprised when Naruto had learned all the katas for beginner and intermediate stages within the first 2 weeks. It was as if the Taijutsu style was made for him. He was simply flawless in it. During the last year, he mainly focused on chakra control exercises such as leaf balancing, tree walking and water walking. Due to the amount of chakra Naruto possessed, it took him few months to get those exercises completed. Now, he was proficient enough in all 3. The past 2 months, he has been practicing kunai balancing on his hand. There are 2 stages to this exercise. First, one must balance the kunai within the palm of their hand. To do this, one must channel equal amount of chakra from all directions of the palm to a single point below the kunai and make it hover over your hand. The second part is the more difficult one. One must balance the kunai on a single finger. This exercise is essentially important for the basics of medical ninjutsu. As by controlling your chakra at a very minuscule point, such as a small dot on your finger with much less surface around the dot, one learns to control the movement of their own chakra to a finer degree within their own body. For the past 2 weeks, Naruto was stuck on the second stage and it often infuriated him that he couldn't complete it yet. But he kept on trying it day after day. In terms of ninjutsu, Jiraiya hadn't deemed his chakra control up to par to learn any elemental ninjutsu. Naruto was a bit sad in the beginning that he couldn't learn any cool techniques yet, but he understood his Oji-chan's reasoning. So, he settled for learning non-elemental techniques such as Henge transformation, Korami substitution, Sunshin no Jutsu teleportation jutsu, and a variation of the Bunshin no Jutsu clone jutsu. Due to the excessive amount of chakra in Naruto, it is nearly impossible for him create a standard clone, which requires minuscule amount of chakra. So, in its place, he was taught the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu shadow clone jutsu. It is a air and kinjutsu that was created by Naruto's great-granduncle, Tobirama Senju. It splits the caster's chakra in the number of clones they wish to create. The meeting between the Kumagakure diplomat and the Hokage as well as the elders of the village had ended. The talks between the 2 villages had gone peacefully, much to the Hokage's joy. He thanked Minato for having a friendly relationship with the yondaime Reikage, a many believed was brash and hot-headed in all situations, but that is usually not the case. Yes, if someone taunted him personally, he would talk with his fists rather than tongue, but when it concerned his village, he was a different person altogether. During the whole meeting, Himura and Kaharu had extensively talked with the diplomat to find any traps that may end up in Konoha's downfall. It wasn't them that worried the aged Hokage. It was Danzo. He was eerily quiet in the chambers, which is unusual. Nonetheless, Kumo had agreed to all the demands made by Konoha, and so did Konoha to theirs. It was late at night, and Naruto was lying alone on top of Yondaime Hokage's head. A while back, he had gone to Ichiraku Ramen, which was run by Tucci, a 50-year-old man, and Am, his teenage daughter. They were among the nicest people he had ever met and never scorned him. His mother and Shizune were busy at the hospital today regarding some case, and his Oji-chan, Jiraiya, went out of the village after his training for the day was done. He was peacefully gazing at the star-filled sky when he sensed someone moving through the forests at fast pace. He wouldn't have done anything initially, but he sensed another presence with that person who felt scared. So, he immediately got up from his position and went after them in pursuit. Naruto, even though only 5 years and 3 months old, was tall for his age. He was around 3 feet and 4 inches, and with all the physical training his mother had been giving him, he was extremely agile and fast. So, he ran as fast as he could and soon stopped in front of the person. Judging by his appearance, he's a shinobi, and a Kumagakure shinobi non-ethylus. Naruto thought as he noticed his headband. He then noticed the shinobi was carrying a bag on his back. He tried sensing what was inside the bag and realized it was a girl around his age, if the amount of chakra was any indication. Naruto realized the shinobi's plan was to kidnap the girl and take her away from the village. Quickly throwing a couple of shuriken at the shinobi, Naruto settled into his taijutsu stance and ran towards the shinobi at fast pace. Naruto knew the person in front of him is probably a jounin of his village, and in terms of skill, he was nowhere near the kidnapper. His plan was to stall him for some time if possible and move the girl away from him and release a large amount of chakra so his mother and Hokage Jiji would come to his location immediately. The Kumo shinobi quickly deflected all the shuriken and faced his attacker. He was surprised to see it was only a kid. "Hey kid, leave before I am forced to kill you. I am a jounin. You are no match for me," the man said arrogantly. It was true Naruto wasn't even a shinobi yet and couldn't match the jounin's power. But that didn't stop him from running towards him while carrying a kunai in his left hand. The Kumo shinobi threw several shuriken and kunai towards the blonde boy at a fast pace. Months of training with Jiraiya and Tsunade helped Naruto now, as he could deflect all of them. The shinobi saw the look in the kid's violet eyes for just a second and hesitated to do anything. That look was cold and of one who isn't afraid to do what he is doing. The Kumo shinobi reminded himself he was only facing a kid and that it would be fine. When Naruto reached the Kumo shinobi, he threw a punch with his right hand towards his thigh. The shinobi, with his fast reflexes, parried away the strike with his gauntlet hand and immediately got hold of Naruto's left wrist, which was coming to strike him with the kunai he was holding. With his extreme agility, Naruto kicked the man on his chest and freed himself in the process. The man gasped for breath as soon as he was hit and skidded back a few meters away. Naruto saw that the bag the shinobi was holding had rolled out of his hands towards a nearby tree. He immediately ran towards the bag and opened it. What he saw caught his breath. There was a little girl around his age. She had neck-length indigo-colored hair and wide eyes, trademark of the Hyuga clan. She had the most beautiful face he had ever seen. Beautiful, he thought. He found himself staring at her for a second and then realized the danger wasn't over yet. He heard the girl sniffling a bit and rushed her out of the bag. "Are you okay?" he asked her with concern. The girl nodded her head weakly and looked at the boy's face, who had come to save her from the kidnapper. Wide eyes met with violet ones. She was about to ask his name when a kunai was thrown towards the boy, which made him jump a few meters back. "Ouch. That hurt you, damn brat. I never thought I would have to hurt you seriously. But now you are going to have to pay," the man shouted before he took out a kunai. Naruto and Hinata saw the man cover the kunai with his chakra, which started sparkling. Naruto knew what the man was doing. Covering the kunai with his Raiten chakra. It was dangerous, he knew it. He moved slightly closer to Hinata to protect her, if need be. The Kumo shinobi, on seeing the blonde boy stand protectively beside the Hyuga girl, got an evil smirk. He threw the electrified kunai towards Hinata at fast pace. Naruto immediately covered the distance between himself and the girl and pushed her out of the way. Hinata fell to the side and saw her savior was about to be killed because of her. She felt so weak and pathetic at this moment. She covered her face with her hands as she did not want to see him get killed right in front of her face. In an instant, she was pushed a few meters back when she felt an outburst of incredibly large chakra. She looked up to see who it was and her eyes widened. For Naruto, time had literally frozen. He didn't know what to think. Is this how I'm supposed to die? I never even reached my dream. I'm sorry Sasuke. Thought Naruto. He closed his eyes and thought how his mother would feel if he died now, and that feeling brought forth an immeasurable sadness in his mind. He didn't want to leave his mother. He didn't want to leave Shizune-chan. He didn't want to leave his Oji-chan, Hokage. A lone tear slipped down his right eye, and suddenly, a wild, uncontrolled violet chakra exploded out of Naruto. In the hospital. Tsunade and Shizune were both packing things up in their office when they both felt the uncontrolled explosion of chakra. Tsunade's heart started beating rapidly as she left whatever she was doing and ran out of the window to the back of the Hokage monument from where she felt her son's chakra. Naru-chan. Please be safe. Ka-chan is coming soon. She thought. Shizune was following her master, equally worried for her brother-like figure. In the Hokage office. Sarutobi was doing his paperwork when he felt the chakra. He knew it was Naruto's. But something felt different about it and yet familiar at the same time. He got up from his seat and immediately rushed towards the place from where he felt the chakra being released. Kakashi, who was there inside the Hokage's office, also ran after Sarutobi as he too knew Naruto's chakra signature. Back with Naruto. The Kumo shinobi, watching this, was shocked as the amount of chakra that was being released right now. What is this kid? He's probably not even a genin, and the amount of chakra he's releasing is already more than mine. He doesn't seem to be moving. Let me finish him quickly. The chakra swirled around Naruto in random directions. Naruto felt like he was in a trance. He couldn't move. He saw the Kumo shinobi move towards him but couldn't do anything. Suddenly he felt both his hands moving towards each other and clasping. Isn't everyone's eyes widened to extreme proportions when suddenly, several tree branches came out from the ground and went right through the Kumo shinobi, killing him instantly. The look of horror on Naruto's face upon realizing that he just killed the man was unbearable. He wobbled for a moment before he slumped down and fell unconscious. Hinata, who saw the entire event, ran as fast as possible towards Naruto. She went and sat close to him. She looked at him with concern and said in a soft whisper, "I don't even know your name." Sarutobi, Tsunade, Shizune and Kakashi soon came to the location and saw the disaster that had taken place. Their eyes fell on Hinata and the unconscious form of Naruto. Tsunade immediately ran towards Naruto to help her son. Sarutobi saw the body of the Kumo shinobi, who was in fact the Kumo diplomat with whom he had the treaty talks with, impaled by several wooden branches. His eyes fell on Naruto as his experienced mind concluded the events that took place. Ashurama-sensei. Thought Sarutobi. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the next part, don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Please like, subscribe, and comment below to let me know your thoughts. Check out my other videos for more content you might enjoy. Until next time, take care.